Welcome to the most comprehensive Claude Code masterclass where I take you from a real beginner in Claude Code to someone who's actually able to build agentic workflows and full systems for yourself or for other businesses. Now, I use Claude Code pretty much every single day to run my six-figure AI business, and I'm also teaching it to over 10,000 people in my community. And so I've put together this masterclass in the exact order that I wish I had when I had started out. And as always, no fluff, no jumping around, just a clear practical roadmap that takes you from zero to building real systems. Now, I've divided this masterclass into 5 different modules. So here's exactly what you're getting. Module 1 is foundations. This is where we install Claude Code, go through how it actually works, permissions, setting up your Claude.md, your Claude directory, so Claude Code understands your projects before you even type a word. Module 2 is customization. This is where we build custom skills, slash commands, hooks that automate actions for you, and MCP, which connects Claude Code to every external tool in your stack. Module 3 is prompt engineering. And here I'm going to be breaking down how to talk to Claude Code so you get better outputs every single time. Module 4 is agentic workflows. This is where we talk about sub-agents, agent teams, and 8 hacks I've discovered after building hundreds of workflows. And at the end, deployment. So everything runs 24/7 without you. And module 5 is the build. No more theory. You're going to watch me build real projects from scratch using everything that we covered. So you can see exactly how it all comes together. Now, I'm also going to be leaving timestamps right below in this video so you can stop the video and then you can come back to it and start wherever you left off. And as always, if you want all the resources and templates of this video, then you can check them out in the second link down below in my free private school community. You can go to the classroom section and you can go to the templates vault. Now, with that said, let's dive in. All right, here we have Claude Code. First thing is pricing. How much does this actually cost? Now, bear in mind that we are not going to pay Claude Code. We're going to pay Claude. And through paying Claude, we get access to Claude Code. We get access to Claude Cowork and we get access to Claude itself. Okay. Now, Claude has 3 different tiers. It has a free tier. And by the way, if you have the free tier, you do not have access to Claude Code. So Claude Code, you have to pay for it. Then we have the Pro tier, which is good for everyday productivity, which is $17 a month. And it gives you access to 45 messages for 5 hours. That is the limit on usage that you can use Claude Code. And this is the best tier that I can give beginners starting out, unless you're creating some really complex applications or you have a lot of automations running in your business. And then we have the Max plan. So let me put myself here. And the Max plan gives you 5x of the usage of the Pro plan, which would be about 225 messages for 5 hours, and you will pay around $100 a month. And now I personally have the Max plan. So I'm personally paying $100 per month on Claude Code just because I use it every single day for my business and I automate a lot of stuff that I have day to day. Now you also have the option to pay 20x, right? So instead of 5x, it will be 20x of what the Pro plan gives you. And you will also be paying double the money, which means that from $100 a month, you'll pay $200 a month. So as a beginner, I definitely recommend sticking to the cheapest plan, which is a Pro plan for now. And if you see yourself kind of exceeding the limit or exceeding the tokenage cost or usage, then you might want to upgrade to the Max plan. All right, so next thing is hosting. What does that look like? How do we set it up? And which applications do we use to actually use Claude Code? So first thing is using VS Code. VS Code is what we call an IDE. Very fancy way of saying a place where you can look at all your folders that you have with that Claude Code is using. And you can also install Claude Code. And you also have access to the AI of VS Code itself. And it's completely free to download, right? Now, similarly, we have Cursor. So Cursor is a very popular one for coders just because Cursor itself has their own AI. And their own AI is very, very good when it comes to coding and doing all the things that like building applications and so on. So if you want the power of Cursor plus Claude Code, meaning if you're a bit more on the techie side and you're a bit more of a developer, then I recommend using Cursor. The only limitation of Cursor is the limit. So it's going to get a bit expensive, especially when you have to pay for Cursor's AI, but also for the Claude Code AI. And I can tell you from experience that most times we just use Claude Code inside these platforms. We never use the AI in these platforms at all. But I usually go for VS Code because I don't use the AI in VS Code anyways. So to me, it doesn't really matter. Then we have Anti-Gravity, which is the exact same as VS Code. Anti-Gravity is one of the popular tools that came out recently, which is part of Google's suite. And Anti-Gravity is the exact same as VS Code. And it also has its own AI that we can use. And I honestly see no difference between Anti-Gravity and VS Code unless you want to use the Gemini models inside of Anti-Gravity to build your own interfaces and make them look pretty, right? So either one works fine. Then we have the terminal, which is where we are going to be using Claude Code literally inside of our computer without having to go to Anti-Gravity or VS Code. The only limitation with the terminal is that it doesn't look too pretty. It doesn't look very visual. It's sort of like Cody and it looks a bit complex when you're starting out. So as a beginner, I do not recommend this. And then finally, we have Claude. So Claude Desktop also has the ability to use Claude Code The only limitation here is that you will not be able to see your files, and it won't be as structured as Anti-Gravity or VS Code. Now for today's video, we're going to focus on VS Code and Anti-Gravity because most of the videos in this course are either using VS Code or either using Anti-Gravity. But they're very, very similar. So I'll show you exactly how to download Claude Code in each of these platforms. So let's start with VS Code. All you have to do is go to code.visualstudio.com and you'll get to this page right here, the open source AI code editor. You can press download for macOS if you're macOS, or you can press download here and you'll be able to go on this page and you can choose your device right here. I'm just going to press Mac here. As you can see now, it's downloading the application itself. We have this little pop-up come up. It says happy coding. We can drag this across. Now it's going to download the actual application in our computer. Now, once you have it opened up, you will get on a page that looks like this. So this is Visual Studio Code, VS Code. In the name, you'll have different buttons here and you have the main interface right here. So this is going to be the main place where we're going to be using Claude Code and actually building different things, whether it's automations or applications. Now, in order to download Claude Code, all we have to do is go down to the extensions, and I'll walk you through what each one means here. So don't worry. Extensions, you want to look for Claude Code, and then you'll see the one from Anthropic. Make sure it's the one from Anthropic and not this one here, or not this one's here. This is the verified one. So once you press the extension, you will get on a page like this. You can see Claude Code for VS Code, and you can simply press install. At the time of this recording, it has 10,263,533 people, which is crazy. And it's the version 2.1.107. It was published 10 months ago. So very, very new. Now I can press this button right here, which is for us to be able to open Claude Code. And when we get on this page, I can simply say hello. Now, bear in mind that if you don't see this page right here to say hello and so on, it's because it's going to ask you to log in. Now, as you saw from me, I can say hello, how are you? Because I already logged in to Claude inside here. But if you haven't logged into Claude Code yet, then you most likely see this page that looks like this, which says that Claude Code can be used with your subscription or used with your API usage, right? So you can either pay it through the Claude subscription or you can use the API usage. Now, bear in mind that if you use the API usage, which is the Anthropic console, you will end up paying a lot more in the long run just because the usage is going to increase by a lot, especially when you use Claude Code, and you won't even realize it. That's the thing. So you can just press Claude.ai subscription. You can press open. It'll take you to this page here. You can press authorize. It says build something great. That's all good. Now I can go back and you'll be able to see that now I can actually chat to Claude Code itself. I can press X and now we have the full interface. So this right here will be the page where we actually use Claude Code and we can run up different conversations with Claude Code itself. On the left-hand side, we have folders. Now, bear in mind that anything that you build in Claude Code, and I mean anything, will be stored inside a folder. So when I'm building a website, when I'm building an application, so where is the HTML stored? Where is the document stored? Where are all the images stored, right? They're all stored inside a folder inside your computer. And this is great for us because you always have a place to store your exact files, right? And so on the left-hand side, we can press open folder. Let's say I add a new folder under desktop. I can press new folder. I can name it example. And I can press create. And I can press open. You can press yes, I trust the authors. Now you won't be able to see Claude Code anymore. So to see it again, you can press this button right here, Claude Code, and you can press X again. And now you're back in this interface. So now we have the folder set up. We have everything here. We can start adding files. So file, we can start adding folders. So folder, and that's how we start to add what we call the Claude directory. So the directory of Claude. So where are all the files stored? I can press delete and we're back to 0. Okay, so everything that we build for the specific project that we're working on will be stored under the example folder right here. Now, to show you how that looks like on your computer, if I add a file here and I say file.md, say hello, okay? And then I press Command S, or you can go to File Save. Inside this folder called example, we have the file.md. And so now I can go to File, I can close the folder, and I can go back, I can open the folder again, go to desktop, I can open the folder again, press open, and now we're back exactly where we started. And so this way you can have different folders for different projects, and you can always come back to Claude Code and start from 0. Now, there are a lot of different things in the interface itself, so let's go through them step by step. So the first thing is the conversation history. So if you want to switch between conversations the same way that you would do inside of Claude, you can go here to the clock itself, and you can see all the past conversations that you've had. Or you can go to the web tab right here. And so now I can go to, let's say, write a LinkedIn post, which is a conversation that I had before. And we can always review the conversation that we had in case we missed anything or in case we want to keep going with the conversation itself. Then we have this right here, which is just The same thing as just pressing this button, right? It spins up a new Claude instance, which means a new conversation. And then down here is where everything's at. So on the bottom side, we can see plus. In case you want to add folders or context or browse the web, you can simply do it here. We typically do this if you want to add more context to Claude Code. Then we have the filter actions. So there are a lot of different things that you can do inside of Claude Code. One of them is using slash commands. So you can put slash something. So slash, there's a lot of different things you can do. We can put slash clear conversation. You can put slash compact. We can do slash everything. And we'll go through exactly what a lot of these slash commands are later in the video, so don't worry. And then one of the most important things here is actually the permission mode. So if I press here to edit automatically, this is the permission mode that we're going to be using Claude Code in, right? Now, the permission mode might look different in 6 months, and it looked different 6 months ago, right? But essentially what it is, it's the way that you're telling Claude Code to act, right? So if I put ask before edits, then anything that it does, it will ask for approval before making each edit. If I put edit automatically, and now Claude will edit your text or the whole file automatically. If I put here plan mode as a permission, then what it will do is that it will create a plan for the actual thing. Then we have bypass permissions, which is where Claude will not ask for approval before running the potential dangerous commands, right? And then right here, we also have the new feature, which is called effort. So if you want a very high effort for the task itself, then you can simply tell Claude Code that you want higher effort. If it's lower, then you can put low. Now, I typically have this on effort medium just because I want to keep it balanced. Now, the default permission here is actually edit automatically. And so the main ones are really ask before edits, plan mode, and bypass permissions. So let me show you an example. So let's say I tell Claude Code to make a new file inside our folder or project and name it LinkedIn post. And then you can add a LinkedIn post there about life with a happy tone, targeting people who are business owners in the US. Okay, so very strange task, but essentially it has to edit our folder. It has to edit something, and it has to include the actual text itself. So from edit automatically, I can actually go to plan mode because I want it to plan before it does anything. And here I can just press go. So now what happens is that Claude Code is given a task. It will then think about what it's doing. It will create a plan of action. As you can see here, it says, I'll create a quick plan for this, and then we can execute it. And then the plan is something that we can review right here. Context, steps, verification. So the plan is to create a LinkedIn post file. The user wants a new file in their project folder containing a LinkedIn post about life, written in a happy tone and targeting US business owners. It's a very strange request, but we can press yes, auto accept. And now what happens is that it creates a file on our folder right here called LinkedIn post that I can open up. And here we have the LinkedIn post. Now, obviously, this is just an example to show you how plan mode works, right? Now, let's say I wanted to use bypass permissions. Bear in mind, this is not something that you see as default. So you will not have access to this as soon as you get to VS Code. So what you have to do here is go to the settings here, and you can look for allow dangerously. There we go. You can turn this on right here, which means that you're now allowing bypass permissions mode, recommended only for sandboxes with no internet access. So that makes no sense, but just make sure to turn this on. And all this mode does is that it will not ask you for approval for anything that it does. That's why it's called dangerously skip permissions, because it's dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. It's dangerous if you give it access to different softwares and files and you're not there to actually see what it does, right? So let's say I wanted to use bypass permissions, and let's say I give it the exact same prompt right here. And let's say I said Instagram post, right? What you will see now is that it will not give us a plan. It will just straight away make the file itself without us having to do anything. As you can see, it made the file here called Instagram post, life as a business owner, that we can use straight away, right? So on the one hand, this made a plan. It asks us for approval. On the other hand, it didn't ask us for anything and it made it itself. Now, the way that I see it is that I usually go to plan mode whenever I want to create a plan for a specific project that I'm doing. And then once plan mode is done, if it's something that's a bit more complex that needs my input, I put it to ask before edits because it will ask me before it does anything. But if it's just a very easy task, then we can put bypass permissions because I don't want to be there approving everything all the time, right? Just understand what it is that you're building and what Claude Code has access to. Now, like we mentioned, the other way is using a software called Google Anti-Gravity. Google Anti-Gravity is known for making websites, for making nice interfaces. You might have seen it on YouTube, right? But it's also a way for us to use Claude Code. And so I can just go here to antigravity.google. You can press download, and right here, you'll be able to see your own computer. I can press download for Apple Silicon. You'll then have this page right here, similar to the VS Code. We can drag this across. Now it's downloading Anti-Gravity to our applications. And once you get to Anti-Gravity, you will get on a page that looks like this. So very similar to the one that we had at VS Code. On the right-hand side, you have the IDE's AI. So Anti-Gravity's AI, which is the agent here, which is similar to the one that we had in VS Code. And on the left-hand side, you have the folders. So the same thing as VS Code right here. And then we have the extensions. We can go to Claude Code. you can simply install. If you haven't installed it, I already did. And once you have it installed, you can press this button right here and you can start working on it. In the same way that we're using the example folder in VS Code, we can go here, desktop, example, and we can open it up inside of Anti-Gravity. We open it up, we can press yes, I trust the authors, and you'll be able to use the exact same folder that we're using in VS Code. We'll use it in Anti-Gravity as well. So that's why I say they're pretty much the same thing. And one more thing when it comes to setting it up, you can also use your terminal. So if I go to terminal, new terminal here, you can simply press Claude and you can say, yes, I trust this folder, and you'll be able to use Claude in terminal as well. So if you say hello, you can see that it says, hello, how are you? Now here we can see the model that we're using, how many context tokens we have, what plan you're on, the email that we're using, and then the organization, and then the actual folder example as well. Now, as a complete beginner, I don't recommend using the terminal for now. Just use the actual interface here. It'll be much easier, especially if you're just starting out with the platform itself, because you don't want to overwhelm yourself too much. All right, so now you have Claude Code installed inside of Anti-Gravity and inside of VS Code. If you're just using Claude Code, I honestly wouldn't see a benefit of using one over the other. So just choose one and stick to it and keep it very simple for yourself. But if you're someone who's building something a bit more sophisticated and you want Anti-Gravity's Gemini model to help you with this, then I recommend just choosing Anti-Gravity because you have the upper hand itself that you can use later on. All right, so last thing to cover here is built-in slash commands. So we mentioned this before that we have the little box right here, which gives us the ability to do actions without us having to give it a prompt. So here, if I put slash, I can see that I can call any different action if I wanted to. And you can see we have context, we have model, we have customize, and we have slash commands. So these slash commands are things, they're actions that we can do automatically just by calling them specifically. As you can see, we have batch, Claude API, compact, context, cost, debug, extra usage, head dump, and we have a lot more here that we can use specifically. I'm going to go through a few of them just so you get the idea of how it works. So let's say I had a conversation with Claude Code and I said, hello. And I said, how are you? Now, there are cases where the conversation is very, very long and you want to start from scratch without having to go to a new conversation here. So what you can do here is you can press slash clear conversation. So slash clear conversation, you can go here and now you start from zero again. So now we have a new conversation and the next slash command is called context. So if I put slash context, and I press this one here, what Claude Code will give me is a breakdown of all the context and tokens that I'm using inside my account. So we have 1 million of tokens that we're able to use. So far, we used 17,900 tokens, which is about 2%. And this is just by saying, hello, how are you, right? So think of every conversation as a bucket, right? The more words you add to the conversation, the more water goes inside the bucket. And it comes to a point where it can't take any more water. And so you have to go to a new conversation. Right? And this is what the percentage is. How much water is inside the actual bucket? How many tokens are we using for the conversation itself? Because a token is just words. And also it tells us the category of usage by type. So we have the system prompt, which is a prompt that we can't really see here, but it's taking up 6.2 thousand tokens, which is about 0.6%. And then we have other things like system tools, we have skills, we have messages, free space, and buffer as well. Right? It's fine if you don't understand these terms right now, because we're going to cover them later down in the course. Then we also have MCP tools. So I downloaded MCPs inside my Claude Code, which is one of the modules that we'll go through later. And each MCP takes about X amount of tokens. So 170 tokens is used by the Gmail authenticate. Authenticating the Google Calendar takes 178. And so the more MCPs you add, the more tokens. And then we have skills. So skills are essentially instructions that Claude Code uses to do a specific task. And each skill requires different tokens, right? And so here you can see a breakdown of all the tokens that you're using, all the usage. Now, apart from clear conversation and context, we also have ones like compact, which is where you want to compact the conversation so you can keep going in the same kind of context without having to go to a new conversation. We do that because every conversation has X amount of usage. So let's say right now we have a conversation that takes 90% of its usage. So if you add a slash compact, it will take that 90%, it will break it down, it will summarize the conversation so that we can still have maybe another 60 or 70% left, right? So we can keep working under the same thread without having to have a new conversation with Claude Code. Then we have cost as well to see how much it's costing you, debug to debug, and then we have others as well, which we will cover later down the line. All right, so by this point, you understand how Claude Code works and how permissions are the things that keep you in control. But right now, every single time that you start a new session with Claude Code, it starts from zero. because it doesn't remember anything about your project, which is why in the next lesson, I'm going to be breaking down arguably one of the most important files in Claude Code, which is the claude.md file. And I'm also going to break down the Claude directory. So every single time that you start a new session, Claude Code understands your project completely without you having to type a single word. Let's dive in. All right, so what is the claude.md file? I'm sure you probably heard of it, you've seen it somewhere, but essentially what it is, it's the project instruction manual for Claude Code. So essentially Claude Code, whenever we're working with a workspace, it needs to have some sort of memory. And the memory is where all the files are, what the product workspace actually is, what is our objective, who we are, and all that stuff, right? And so that's exactly what the claude.md file actually is. Now the claude.md file loads automatically, which means that when we work with a new workspace, it loads automatically in a way that before it starts doing anything, it always looks at the claude.md file to get an understanding of the whole layout of the workspace before it dives in and does any single task. The same way that you would have an employee coming into a company, you give him memory, and every single day that he comes back to the company to work, he already has the memory pre-trained. So in this case, whenever we have a new conversation with Claude Code, we are saying, hey, before you do anything, just look at the claude.md file, understand our workspace, and then execute the task that I want you to do. Now, the actual claude.md file is divided into 4 different kind of steps or pillars, right? The first one is product description. So this is what this app does. It's not necessarily just an app. It's just saying this is what this workspace is, right? For example, I have a YouTube workspace where I manage all my YouTube stuff. So this workspace is specifically designed for YouTube ideation, content creation, XYZ, right? Then we have the tech stack. This is looking at what tools and softwares we use. Then we have the rules and guardrails, which is what Claude must and must not do. And rules and guardrails can be anywhere from the text they should use, the colors they should use, the fonts, the step-by-step process they should go through to then create something, right? And these are all the different rules. It's kind of general, but you can have like any rules that you can think of, you can put it there. And then finally, we have folder structure, where everything lives. Now, this is one of the most important ones because as you will see, when we make the actual file, there is a structure of folders that we add inside our workspace. The reason that is because we want to make things organized, and Claude knows exactly where to store all the different files. So we'll have a file for the scripts. We have a file for the output, which is the things that it gives us. We have a file for the ideation. Maybe we have a file for all the passwords and keys, API keys that we use, right? And so in having things organized, it's much easier for Claude Code to do things because it's not scattered everywhere. That's what it is. Now, what Claude Code gains by having this file? Well, the first thing is that it understands your project better. And every single time that you speak to Claude Code, you don't have to repeat all the things, right? It already knows. The second thing is that it follows your conventions. This can be naming conventions. It can be patterns. It can be a structure that you use. Then, like I mentioned, it looks at the rules. So every single time this happens, do X, Y, Z, right? And it won't break what actually matters to you. And then finally, it's consistent. That is probably the most important thing because it's much better to have something that's average but consistent than something that's really, really high quality but inconsistent. Because with AI specifically, it's very good at doing things, right? Like it's nuts, it's crazy. But you also want to have strict guardrails, right? Strict prompts that make it so that it's not inconsistent every single time. It actually gives you the output that you want every single time when you are doing that specific thing. So there's 2 different types of ways that we can set it up. The first way is using a 3-layer architectural structure. Sounds complex. It's very, very easy actually. And the second way is running the /init. Now, the 2 different ways represent 2 different scenarios. The first scenario is method 1, right? Where we write the claude.md first, and then we tell Claude to initialize the project. And this is only when we have a new project, when we're starting from 0. Then the second method is when you already have an existing project. So let's say you're building apps or maybe a landing page or maybe some agents, right? You haven't done the claude.md yet. So now what we do is we take all the folders, all the files. Claude will understand your whole workspace. And from there, we tell it create a claude.md file. So one is creating claude.md file from scratch and then creating the folders. And the other one is you already have the folders. Now we create the claude.md. All right, method 1 is writing claude.md from scratch. So here we have the Claude Code project. I made a new project called Claude. And this is where we will make a file right here, just pressing this button and name it claude.md. And inside here, and by the way, the reason why it's MD is because it's Markdown. Markdown is just a way that we format text, right? Because this is title 1, this is title 2 hashtags. Then we have boldings, which is hello, right? And so on. So with that said, we have the claude.md file that we made. Now we have to actually write the instructions and then initialize the project, okay? Now, one thing that I want to show you as well is if I go to a new chat, I'm looking here, because it does mention make a Claude.md file for instructions. Claude will read this every single time. So even Claude Code incentivizes you. It tells you, hey, make this file because it reads this every single time. Okay, so here we have the prompt that I'm going to give Claude Code in the Claude.md file. I'm going to copy this. I'll bring it back. I'll go here and then paste it. So what does this prompt tell Claude Code? So you operate within a 3-layer architecture that separates responsibilities to maximize reliability. That's some fancy names. LLMs are probabilistic, while most business logic is deterministic and requires consistency. This system solves that problem. This means that LLMs are inconsistent, but business logic is consistent. And so we want to solve for that inconsistency with this exact file, right? And then we give it the 3 different layers. So layer 1 is directives. We're basically saying anything that has to deal with what to do goes in the directives folder. Anything that deals with decisions goes and follows this framework right here. And then everything to do with doing the work, so the execution, is this folder right here. And we're also making a .env file where we store API tokens, passwords, and so on. Okay. And then we have other principles as well. I can save it first of all, so it doesn't run. And I can say, can you initialize this project based on the Claude.md file? Claude.md. I'm going to press go. I want to make this bypass permissions. It's reading Claude.md. Now it's looking at all the different things that are inside. And as you can see, it's starting to make the folders. It's making the folders, which are .env, executions, directives, .tmp, which is what we call the Claude Code directory. The Claude Code directory is essentially where all the different files are stored. And the Claude Code directory usually looks like this, right? It's with this lines. So we have Claude's folder, which is this main folder. And inside the Claude Code folder, we have Claude.md, we have .env, which is this one here. So add your API keys, OpenAI, Google API, passwords that you're going to use. Execution, we have directives, and we have .tmp, which is empty. So let's say I go to a new tab and I can write this down. I can say, build me a landing page for GM Solutions, an AI automation agency that helps businesses to automate their workflows using AI agents, which have a hero section, what we do, testimonial section, and footer. I'm going to press go. I'm going to make this plan mode, so it plans the landing page before it does anything. As you can see, it's looking at the Claude.md file. It didn't find any brand guidelines, which is fine. Now it's creating a plan. All right, it just made the plan. We have the context, the tech stack, which is essentially what we're going to use, the structure, and then we have decision design, hero section. I can just press yes, auto accept. I can make this bypass permissions because that means that it doesn't ask me to approve things all the time. And the whole point of showing you this landing page is so that you see how the different files of the landing page are stored in the different folders here. All right, it just made the landing page. I can open it up. As expected, it's pretty decent, to be honest. Very simple. And you can see here that it made another folder called front end, which has all the different components of the landing page. But it also made a MD file for the directives, which is what to do, right? Directive, build landing page, objective, tech stack, page structure, service section, testimonials, footer, file map, and so on, right? And so this is showing you that all the different things, like we saw here, of what to do, right? The SOPs, the objectives, the inputs, scripts, outputs, edge cases are all going to be stored under the directives. All right, so now you got to see exactly how we made the folders from scratch by adding the Claude.md file first. But it's also method 2, which is using /init. So let's say I have a workspace called YouTube, and YouTube has a lot of folders. It has context, it has executions, outputs, all that stuff. It has .env, which are all the different passwords and so on. But the one thing that is missing is the Claude.md file. And so in this case, we wouldn't use the 3-layer architecture because the folders are already made. We already have the folders, right? Which could have been done manually by me or someone else. And so in this case, to create the Claude.md file, all I have to do is go to /init. And now what it's doing is that it's going to look at the whole organization. It's looking at all the different files that it has. And it says, now I have a good understanding of the workspace. Let me create the Claude.md file. So now what we've done is that we have the Claude.md file, which has the memory, it has the context of the whole workspace. So whenever we're making an automation, whenever we're making something else, when we start Claude from scratch, like this, it basically has the understanding. And to show you another example, if let's say I go back to the one that I had before, let me delete the Claude.md. Let's say you had these done manually. I would go here, I would save this first of all. And as you can see here, the first thing it's telling me is to tell Claude Code to remember what you've told it using Claude.md. Well, in this case, I can press /init again, bypass permissions. What it will do is that it will look at all the different files that are here, which in this case is to build a landing page. As you can see now, we made the Claude.md file, which is the product overview, which is landing page for JM Solutions, an AI automation agency. It provides guidance to Claude Code. So the architecture, what we actually use to build things, the front-end structure, the commands, the design system, and the important notes, right? So that's a snippet of memory that Claude Code will now use whenever it makes something new. Now, the last thing I wanted to show you is a more advanced version of a Claude.md file, because under my YouTube workspace, I have commands, I have skills, right? All these things, which allow me to do much more with Claude Code than you would just by having the default features. And so in this case, we can see that the Claude.md file, same thing here, provides guidance. What this is a Claude workspace template, a structured environment for working with Claude Code as an agent assistant across sessions, run/prime at each start of the session to load essential context. So if you're running from scratch, all you have to do is go here and put /prime. And what this will do is that it will look at the whole structure. It will look at the Claude.md file. It will look at everything to have an understanding, the context that it needs to be able to tell me who I am, the workspace structure, and everything that it needs to know about me specifically. We have the workspace structure. Again, this is the Claude Code directory. When you hear Claude Code directly, that's all this means. So we have Claude.md, we have shallalias.md, we have .env here, we have ncp.json, which is this file right here, the Claude commands and skills. So Claude commands and skills. Then we have references, execution, outputs, references, execution, output. Then we have commands. So it's telling me all the commands that I have. Then we have the YouTube content pipeline, which are all the different skills, the thumbnails, analytics and monitoring, skill system, additional skills, critical instructions, and notes at the end as well. And that's the exact Claude.md file that I use every single time, and the one that I always have sitting there as a way for Claude Code to understand who I am and to have context before I ask it anything. Quick one before we get back to the video. If you're looking to work with me one-to-one to be able to start and scale your own AI automation agency in a 90-day one-on-one mentorship program, then check out the first link down below. With that being said, let's get into it. Hey, congrats on finishing module 1. You've now got the foundations locked in. You have Claude Code running, you understand how it works, and most importantly, it knows your project inside and out. But as always, you've pretty much tapped into 5% of what Claude Code can actually do, which is why in the next module, we're going to be taking Claude Code from a smart assistant all the way to building a fully customized system that's built around the way that you work. And it all starts with something that most people overlook, which is skills and /commands. Let's dive in. All right, so we have Claude Code's brain, we have skills, which makes super Claude, because Claude on skills is like Claude on steroids, because it can do so much more than just the normal interface. What are skills? So skills are instruction manuals that Claude reads before doing a task. So the same way they use a recipe card, which are instructions to make something, in this case a chocolate cake, or it can be a burger, it can be a pizza, whatever it is, which is a list of instructions that show you how you can do that thing. Claude has Claude Code skills, which are instructions to handle PDFs, to create websites, to create presentations, and to do all those things. So that when we have a task that you give to Claude Code, let's say you say, let's make a website, and Claude, which is the agent, goes to the skills, right, and says, okay, which skill do I have to use? In this case, it will use the website skill, right? And it will use the website skill to give us a perfect result. Now, why is this important? Because without skills, Claude guesses and the result is inconsistent. The reason why the result is inconsistent is because it doesn't have a proper way of doing things if it doesn't have skills, right? Because skills are step-by-step instructions. And so if it doesn't have step-by-step instructions, it does its own thing, however it wants to do it in its own way. And the way that AI does things can change over time, right? And so what it does now might be different than what it does in 30 minutes, right? Now with skills, Claude follows instructions, step-by-step instructions. And so with that said, because it has a clear prompt that it has to go through, that it has to look at, the margin of error will decrease massive, which means that it will give us a much better output. Now that you know exactly what Claude Code skills are on a general level and why they're important, where do you actually store them? So I'm here in my folder called the YouTube workspace, which is where I manage most of my YouTube stuff. Strategy, thumbnails, and ideation, titles, hooks, bodies, all that stuff. No, this is not scripted, so don't worry. But essentially, if you see here, inside this folder, there are a series of folders. So .claude, brand assets, context, execution, outputs, references, scripts. By the way, if this is the first time that you've ever been introduced to Claude Code, check out this video up here because it will give you the overview of what most of these are and why they're that way. But if you already know that, and if you already have the fundamentals, then this will make more sense. We will have a folder called the .claude folder. Now the .claude folder, you'll see a dot behind it because you will actually not be able to see it in your folders. I know that doesn't make sense yet, but I'll show you. But essentially we have this folder called .claude, and inside the folder of .claude, we have another folder called skills. So that's where we store skills. So now if I go to a new page and I'm named this general, I can have the folder, I can press this right here and I can put .claude. Boom. And now inside the .cloud folder, I can then go here and put new folder and put skills. Okay, so now when we start adding skills, we add it to the folder itself. Now, why do we do this? We do this because we want to be organized, right? And so Claude knows that every single time that it needs to look at a skill, it always goes to the skills itself, and it goes to all of them step by step. Now, if you notice, the .cloud folder also has commands, and so you can also go here and you can put new folder and put commands. So as you can see now, we have inside the .cloud folder, we have commands and we have skills. Obviously nothing inside, but we'll add them later. For the sake of this video, I'm only going to be talking about mainly skills, but that's essentially where we store Claude Code skills. All right, so right here, if you've ever seen something that looks like this, which we call the folder tree instead of Claude Code, this is how the folders are stored. So .cloud is a folder, commands is another folder, skills is another folder. Inside each folder, there's obviously documents here. So this contains only 2 documents, which we'll go through. And skills contains different folders. And each folder is a skill. There's a lot of folders and skills that I've said so far, but essentially every skill that we add under skills folder is a folder in itself, because a folder consists of documents. If that didn't make too much sense, I hope this will. So here we have .cloud skills. Instead of skills, let's say we have the LinkedIn writer. So let's say we want to make a skill that writes LinkedIn post. That's it. Inside each skill, we have 3 different things. Okay, we first have a skill.md, which is a process step-by-step instructions that we tell Claude Code, like, hey, here's how the skill is done. And then we have 2 more folders. Okay, so each skill, which is a folder, has 2 more folders. The first folder is called references. Now, just so you know, these 2, they're not always going to be there. Like sometimes you need reference docs or examples or templates. Sometimes you don't. Right? And so this is like if or you need them. But in the case that you do need them, we'll have references, and this includes documents of examples of templates or reference docs, anything that you need there. On this side, we have scripts. Scripts is a Python codes, which is again optional in case you need them. But essentially, if you're running some sort of automation, the code represents the automation itself. Okay, so this is the instructions. Hey, here's how you do the task. References is like, here's supporting documents that you would need to make the task happen. And the scripts will be like the Python codes, which you can think of like the different N8N nodes, the different steps of the automation, which are code. Right? So that's exactly how it's stored. And then going back to my previous example here of my YouTube workspace, which is where I store everything for my kind of YouTube projects. If I go to .cloud, this is the folder that contains the skills folder as well. It also contains this right here, agent memory, agents and commands, which I'll walk you through later on, but skills is the one that we have to worry about. And if I press skills, you can see that it has these many folders, which are all skills themselves. We have Claude MD generator, we have comment analysis report, we have competitor analysis, Excel diagram. We have a set of different skills that do different things. And if I press on one of them, let's say comment analysis report, I'll be able to see the folder of references, the folder of scripts, and then the skill.md, which is a document that outlines everything. Okay, and so skill.md, references, and scripts are all folders inside the main folder of LinkedIn Writer inside the .cloud skills folder. So they're all folders, right? One folder here, 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 and then we have the skill.md. Okay, but that's the structure of different folders inside Claude Code. And this is pretty much the same kind of structure as a competitor analysis. If I go here, I also have references and scripts. This also has the JSON file, which is just something that we use to store Google tokens. But some of them only have the skill.md. And so that's why I say that this is mandatory. You always need to have the skill.md. The references and scripts, you don't always need to have them, because this right here, for example, we don't need any reference files, right? We just need a skill.md, which has a bunch of instructions as to how to actually make the Excel diagram. So here I have 5 different, what we call marketplaces. So the same way that you go to Amazon to get a product, we go to this marketplace to get a skill. The only difference is that these are free, which means that you don't have to pay for the skill itself. At least as far as I know. I'm sure there's skills out there that you have to pay for, but as far as these ones, you don't have to pay for them. Now the sites here, I'm going to leave the links all down below so you can check them out. But I have AITMPL, which is a Claude Code templates, which is the one that I personally use pretty much most of the time. Then we have this right here, which is also a pretty decent one. Then we have this, bunch of skills as well. Then we have this here. We have this as well that contains different skills. If I go here, there we go. Now, it might seem a bit intimidating at first when you look at this, just because it does look very, very techy. I mean, all of this didn't really make much sense to me when I started, but it's actually very, very simple once you break this down. So let's say I go to the Claude Code templates, okay? And like we mentioned, skills are just pre-built instructions. It's a prompt, right? That does a specific thing. So let's say I wanted to create a website. Okay, if I wanted to create a website, I would definitely use the front-end design. Why? Is because the front-end design creates distinctive production-grade front-end interfaces with high design quality. Use the skill when the user asks to build web components, pages, artifacts, posters, or applications, dashboards, React components, HTML, CSS, layouts, or when styling, beautifying any web UI. It generates creative, polished code and UI design that avoids generic AI aesthetics. Okay, so this is great when you're building a website, when you're building a UI, which is a front end, the thing that you see inside of software. And so we use this here. Now the skill has different components. It has the name, right here, it shows you the amount of downloads that a skill has. And typically the higher the downloads, the better the skill is. And front-end design is one of the most used skill there is out there, which is great. We have the install command. And what this is a command where you can copy this and you can simply just paste it into Claude Code, and I'll show you how to do that. And it will automatically install the skill without you having to give it any instructions, okay? Then we have the description of the actual skill. We have the license, which is just the document I'm pretty sure to not use copyright, like to not copyright the actual skill so you don't copy it and then put it on your own marketplace, right? It's known for this person. And then we have the preview, which is a preview of the actual skill and what it is and what it does. And then most importantly, we have the code. And the code really is a skill.md document. So when we spoke about the skill.md here, all it is this prompt right here. And so every skill is just a prompt, right? Don't make it more complex than it is, because that's all it is. Just a prompt that tells Claude Code what to do. Now, if I go here, just to show you how it looks like on a different website, content ideas, let's do content creation. Content creation, let's do a random one here. And here we can see that we have the name of the skill, we have the description, we have the command, which we spoke about before, and then we have the file. So in comparison to here, where we are able to actually copy the prompt and paste it to Claude Code or do whatever. I mean, usually you just use a command. It's the easiest thing to do. Just paste the command and it will do everything for you. Here you also have the command, but you have an option to download the documents, okay? Because this right here will be a document for the skill, okay, which is a skill.md document. And that's it. And instead of downloads, you all have stars. So 57,000 stars tells me that it's pretty good and that a lot of people have downloaded it, which tells me positive things about the skill. If I go to here, I can see that I have, let's do file search. Let's see what this shows us. One-click install, one-click copy, so we can copy this. File Explorer, we're the skill.md. This is the full prompt. So they're all like, I mean, the websites look a bit different, but they all have the exact same thing, right? They have the description, they have the skill itself. The most important thing is you understanding what skill do I need to be able to do what I want to do. And then going into these marketplaces and looking at the skill that you need to then be able to copy and then paste it. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to go to Claude Code in a new version here, and I'm going to paste this here. Okay, and I'm gonna go and run. Now it's asking me if I can do this. I'm gonna press yes and actually turn this to bypass permissions. As you can see now, it made a folder called .claude. If I go inside, I can see that it made a folder called skills. And inside skills, it made a folder called front-end design. And inside front-end design, it had this skill.md document, which is a full prompt that we saw here. The exact same thing. And so, like I showed you before, I made the folder manually, but you can also have Claude make the exact same folder automatically for you. Now, let's say I want to use a different skill. So let's say I went here and I said, okay, let me use the senior architect. Okay, I go here, I copy this, and then I simply just paste it here. Actually, let me go to a new window. And then I can go and press done. I can go to bypass permissions, so it doesn't ask me every time to approve. And now you'll be able to see a new skill being added here. There we go, senior architect. It's as easy as this. But senior architect, in comparison to front-end design, has references, it has scripts, and then it has a skill.md. So sometimes it needs references, sometimes it needs scripts to be able to fulfill the actual skill, but sometimes it doesn't, right? Sometimes you just simply have a prompt, which is just instructions of what it needs to do. Now, bear in mind that the skill.md document is just a list of instructions, and it's a standard across all the different LLMs. And so whether you're using Claude, Cursor, Codex, Gemini, CLI, or Copilot, or any other of these 20 different tools, you will be able to apply this exact document to all of them. And that's why it's a very, very important document. And it also makes skills way more valuable than people think. I'm gonna go here and delete this skill right here, because I'm not gonna need it. But next, I wanna show you how to build a website and how Claude builds a website before skills and then after skills. Okay, so I'm also gonna delete this front-end design. Actually, I'm gonna delete the whole thing. So Claude folder, delete it. I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna say, can you make a website for my agency, JM Solutions? It's an AI automation agency that helps marketing agencies to build delivery systems and helps them to double their client delivery in 30 days. I'm not going to put too much effort into this. I want to keep everything equal and just show you the output, right? I'm also going to say the color scheme is going to be dark blue. And yeah, give me the landing page in a link that I can access on my web. I'm going to go here on plan mode because I wanted to kind of plan first before it gives me the actual website. And then we can go bypass permissions to see the full thing. All right, so after a few minutes, we got the plan here, which is a plan on the landing page, dark blue, context, approach, color, sections. So we press yes and auto accept, and then we go to bypass permissions. So I don't have to do this every single time. Bypass permissions, and that's it. All right, I just made the landing page. I'm gonna copy this. I'm gonna paste it here. And here we have the landing page itself. W client delivery in 30 days. So as you can see, this is the design style that it made, okay, with the actual cal.com link and everything, okay, which is not bad, Now, let's say I go back and I delete this again. Okay, and I give it the exact same prompt. But now I'm going to use the skill front-end design, copy the command, and then paste it here. And now we're going to download the skill and then do everything again and show you the end result. Okay, so I just made the skill.claude folder, skills, front-end design, and we have the skill.md, which is a prompt. Cool. Now I can go here. I'm going to paste the exact same prompt. The only thing I'm going to say is, can you use a different localhost number to give me the link? Just because it gave me the link of localhost 8080, and I want to show you the difference between this and that. So I can press this. I can go to plan mode. It'll make the plan, and then we go directly to build the website. Okay, it just made a plan. I can press yes, auto accept, and then go to bypass permissions. All right, now it made us a new link, so I can copy this as well. I can go here. You can see this is the old website. I can paste the new link, and we'll have the new website here, which is much nicer. It has numbers as well. It has testimonials in case we need any. And then we also have the option to book a call as well. So no obligation, no pushy sales, just a clear roadmap for your agency. So as you can see with the skill right here, it just made the website a lot better because of the prompt that we gave it here. And you can apply this thing to pretty much anything that you do with these pre-built kind of skills that you can see on the marketplace. And now that you know exactly how to go to a marketplace and use someone else's skills, in the next section, we're going to look at how you can build your own skills step by step. I'm going to be building my own to show you the full process so eventually you can do the exact same. Now, to be able for us to make the skill, you need to understand the foundation of how a skill is actually made, right? Now, you know that a skill here has different folders. So for example, comment analysis report has this folder, and this document, okay? Now this document is by far the most important document because it has the instructions, because not all the skills have the reference and scripts, but all of them do have an MD document, okay? Now let's go here to this one, for example, and let me actually pull up another one as well. Let me actually go here, put this on the right. So you can see the same kind of structure here. So first thing that we have with a skill.md document is the name and description. So the name and description are used because when you tell Claude, hey, I want to make an Excalibur diagram, or I want to fetch my competitors' comments, right? What it does is that the first thing, it looks through all the skills that we have here, which are going to be like 12. Only then does it look at the skill.md. It looks like this first part, name and description, and then it chooses which skill it's meant to use. The reason why it does that is because if you don't have this small snippet of name description, it will go through all the files of all the skills and it will consume so many tokens and it will cost you a lot more. And so here we have a preview saying, hey, Claude, if you want to use a skill, this is the description and this is the name. If you mention something similar to this, let's use that. It also increases the accuracy of which skill it uses. So first things first, name, description. So we have the name of the skill, Excalibur diagram. Then we have the description to use when someone asks to draw a diagram, make an Excalibur diagram, or build an editable diagram, default for all diagram requests, okay? The whole file here is done in Markdown formatting because that's the way that AI knows how to put the text in hierarchy. So heading 2, heading 1, heading 3, right? So it knows which one is more important, right? So for this, it's a heading 2, this is a heading 3, and it goes through step by step what the skill actually is. Okay, so step 1, understand the request. Step 2, research if needed. Step 3, plan the layout. Step 4 is generate elements. Step 5, save and deliver. And then we go through step 6, handle and feedback, critical rules, design principles, layout systems, and then color systems, typography skills, element schema, and then we have the JSON file, which is the type of design that Excalibur, which is a diagram that we use to make different diagrams, makes the diagrams itself, okay? So that's a skill right here. On the other hand, let's say I go here, comment analysis report, which is a report that I personally made, right? That I actually made step by step. We have the name description, then we have comment analysis report, prerequisites for the skill itself. This is what it does. We need this to start. So let's grab this first. Step 1, fetch comments. So what it does is that inside the skill, it goes through the scripts fetch comments.py. So scripts fetch comments.py, which is the first, you can say, automation of the whole system. Fetch the top 200 comments by relevance. Look at these channels right here. Step 2, analyze and write a report. Step 3, generate PDF. And then it goes through error handling and partial runs and all that stuff in case it breaks, okay? And so that's exactly how it's made. Now here I have a empty folder instead of Claude Code, which is general, which is the one that I used before. I'm gonna go here and create a .claude folder. Inside .claude folder, I'm going to create another folder here called skills. And then I'm also going to create another folder instead of .claude, which is called commands, which is a new thing that I'll walk you through, okay? So commands will be the thing that allows me to call the skills itself. So for example, if I want to call comment analysis report, I don't have to type comment analysis report. I can do / comment analysis report, and this is a / command. So I don't have to type the name, it automatically goes there. It automatically calls the skill itself, which is a good thing to have when we do our skills. So inside skills now, I'm gonna create a skill, so a new folder inside. I'm gonna name this YouTube title generation. Boom. And inside of YouTube title generation, I'm gonna create a file which is called the skill.md. And the skill.md will be the list of instructions of that specific skill. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to paste this here, which I already wrote before. And this will be the name and the description of the skill itself. So we're making a YouTube title generator. We generate YouTube video title ideas, use when asked to brainstorm titles, come up with video names, or generate title options for a YouTube video. And then now here, I can paste this quick sentence saying, generate 10 title ideas for the given topic. Titles should be under 60 characters, create curiosity, and be relevant to a tech AI YouTube audience. And I can also say, here's a few title frameworks that work well. And I can paste this here, which are some title frameworks that we use for YouTube videos. So for example, I failed that topic until I learned this. I never achieved goal until I learned this. Learn the skill and never unwanted action again. If you action like this, you're going to be negative situation forever. Okay, so these are all title frameworks. And so this right here will be the skill that I'm going to use. I'm going to press Command S to save, or you can go here, File Save. I'm going to test it. Okay, so I'm going to go here and say, I want you to help me with title generation. So I want to create titles for my new video, which is about how I broke past the 6-figure mark with my AI agency, step by step. I'm going to press go. And now what it will do is it will look at the YouTube title generation skill, because that's a skill that it needs to use. And now it will give me 10 title ideas for my video, okay, which is great. And so what did we do? We created the skill manually, and now we're testing. So we're testing that this actually works. And as you can see, it understood which skill to use. Of course, we only have one right now. And by the way, just because it has YouTube title generation, it doesn't mean that it's going to use that every single time. And so we said, hey, I want to help with titles. I want to create a title for my new video. And then it gave me 10 title ideas, which is the exact thing that I told it to do in that skill. I never hit 100K until I learned the skill. Give me 50 minutes and I'll show you how to build a 6-figure AI agency. The smartest strategy to hit 100K with my AI in 2026. These are pretty good titles. It's not fun, but it'll get your agency to 100K way faster. I like that. And so now you saw me actually build a skill step by step. So now that you know how to make it manually, there's actually a trick that we use when making skills. And that's using the skill creator. So there's a skill that actually makes skills, which makes the whole process much easier. Now, why does it do this? Is because I'm going to press go. So you can actually find the skill under manage plugins, and you'll be able to see skill creator. So you can find it here. I can actually just install it. I can look at skill creator, and you can install it here. Okay, so now it's installed in your MacBook. Now it's asking you, do you want it available for all your projects? Do you want it available just for collaboration, or just for you, only for this exact title or for this exact project? I like to have this skill installed across all my projects, which means that first of all, I won't be able to see it here, but it will be installed in a way where it's always available to you and you don't have to reference it or do anything, because it's automatically going to be used whenever you're making a skill. And so here I'll say install for you, available in all your projects. And now whenever I'm making a skill, it will use this skill to make that skill. Now, where does the skill creator come from? So the skill creator is something that Anthropic actually came out and made, which is why we use it all the time. And it's a skill that allows us to be able to use whenever we're creating skills. So you can see skill creator, a skill for creating new skills and iteratively improving them. At a high level, the process of creating a skill goes like this. Decide what you want the skill to do and roughly how it should do it. Write a draft of the skill. Create a few test prompts and run Claude with access to the skill on them. Help the user evaluate the results, both on a quality level, but also on a quantitative level. Rewrite the skill based on feedback, repeat until you're satisfied, and expand the test and try again on a larger scale. And now it goes through the whole process to make the skill, which is much more efficient and even a higher quality, rather than us making it manually. So we're gonna make a lead generation system skill, okay? And this lead generation system skill will start by the input, which is niche, location, and amount of results. And that will be me just giving it to Claude, like on the chat basis, which is fine. And here we can use Apify Google Maps scraper. By the way, if you don't know what Apify is, it's like the Amazon for scrapers. You go inside, you look at one scraper, which allows us to be able to go in Google Maps, extract the results based on what we want. So in this case, we want, let's say, roofing companies in North Carolina. It will scrape all of them, obviously with the amount of results. And then it will go actually filter leads by website exist. And then it will go inside the website, and then it will give me a personalized icebreaker that I can use for LinkedIn. Okay. So this is an automation, right? Something that you would build in N10. We're going to build it here on Claude Code. And we can simply call it every single time that we want. So the first step I'm going to do is explain to Claude Code roughly what I want, okay? So I'm going to say this. Hey, so the task of today is to make a lead generation system. The first step is me giving you a niche that I want to target, the location of that niche, and the amount of results that I want. The second step is you have to go to Apify and use the Google Maps scraper to be able to do this. Then when you get the list of leads, you have to filter by which leads have a website. The ones that don't have a website, just discard them. Then the ones who have a website, just go inside the website, scrape the website. And then finally, based on a personalized template that I'll give you, you have to make a personalized icebreaker that I can use to connect on people for LinkedIn. The output will be a Google Sheet with company name, location, website, phone number, and it's fine if they don't have a phone number, and then icebreaker. Okay, that's it. Ask me any questions if you have any, and let's go from there. Okay, that's the prompt. Now, bear in mind, I didn't set up Apify. I didn't set up anything. So we're starting from scratch, right? I'm going to go to plan mode so we can plan things out. And as you can see, I didn't tell it to create the skill yet because I'm going through everything step by step first. And then I tell it at the end, hey, now that you've done the whole thing step by step, you know what went right, you know what went wrong, just make the skill. Okay, I'm going to press go. So how do you want to interact with the Google Maps API? Do you already have an API key or service set? I'm going to say Apify. How should the output Google Sheet be created? Google Sheets API. Let's say we do a CSV file to make things easier. Tech stack. What language framework do you want this built in? Python scripts. Yeah, I definitely do not want to be building an anytime workflow, or else that would not be the point of this video. Submit answers. And if you're wondering whether something like this would be built in N10 versus Claude Code, I would definitely build this in Claude Code because it's much easier as well. And we don't have to pretty much worry about much. Now it's asking me, do you already have an API key for Apify? So I don't, so I can actually go find it. Apify.com. And by the way, if this is the first time that you hear about Apify, I would definitely recommend checking out this video up here, which goes through the full tutorial on how it works. I'm saying that because it is one of the most used softwares that I use when building automations. So here I am on the dashboard. I can go down to settings. I can go to API and integration, and I can copy my key. And by the way, you get $5 of free credits when you apply, or when you actually get into Apify. I have $29 because that's what I paid for, but you have the free version, which is $5. And if you're anything like me and you want to rinse the software, just make 5 different emails and then go through them. So for the LinkedIn icebreaker template, do you want to provide it now, or should I build the system first and you plug in later? Let me give it to now. So instead of doing LinkedIn icebreaker, why don't we do this? Since we're going to get their number as well, right? And by the way, you can filter by people who have a number, like a phone number itself. I want you to find from their website, so still do the exact same thing I asked you to, but I want you to find from the website the value proposition of the business, what makes them unique, and give me a case study of a client that they've helped, if you can find it. And this is part of testing, working with Claude Code, and so on, which is good. For scraping websites to personalize icebreakers, how deep should the scraping go? Homepage only, homepage and about, homepage about services. I'll go homepage about services as well, because I want to know pretty much everything about it. It'll be a bit more expensive, sure, but that's fine. I can submit answers, and now we're gonna go ahead. Now it will remake the plan because I told it to change a specific thing about the process. So now it's saying that the input will be niche, location, number of results, the Apify Google Maps scraper to find businesses, filter, keep only leads with both a website and a phone number. Cool. Scrape each website, home, about, and services, extract value proposition, what makes them unique, and case study of clients who helped, if findable, and output will be a CSV file. Great, perfect. Okay, so now it's asking me as well for the Anthropic API key to analyze websites. So I can go to the console here, which is the Anthropic platform.claude.com. I can log in. I can go down to API keys. I can make a key, name it Claude Code, copy the key, and paste it here. By the way, the reason why I'm pasting it into others is because if I press yes, I have one, I then have to wait a minute for it to understand that I told it yes, I have one, and it will ask me. I just might as well just give it the API key itself. Okay, cool. The plan is ready. Here's a summary, and it has everything here. So as you can see, we have the lead generation system, implementation plan, context, pipeline overview, files to create, implementation details. Step 1, Google Maps scraping. Step 2 is filter, website scraping, Cloud API analysis, CSV output, error handling, dependencies, verification. Great, amazing. I can press yes, auto accept. And now I can go to bypass permissions, and it will start building it out step by step. As you can see now, it's starting to make different files. And it's not creating its scale, it's just creating the actual file itself, because we didn't tell it yet to create the scale. It said it created the files. Great. Want me to run the test? Yes, run the test with roofing companies. And I don't know why I'm very adamant on roofing companies in North Carolina. I've never been there in North Carolina, and I want 100 results. Let's just go 50, actually 40 to make things faster. Actually, let's do 30 because I'm not trying to wait all day. So there we go, run the test. Now it will start working on it. Okay, so now it's running the actual lead generation automation. If I go to Apify, I can see that it just scraped 34 results, right? It just scraped it. And now it's going to use those results to then go and scrape each website of those results, obviously assuming that they have the website and phone number. All right, so it just finished running. We have the leads.csv document, which is this one right here. I can actually Command A, copy. I can go to a new Google Sheet right here. I can go here, I can paste this, and then I can go to data, to text into columns. There we go. And now we can have different things here. So I can make this both, a little bit of formatting here and there. Make this white. Sorry guys, I have to do this every single time because or else I can't work with Google Sheets. And now we have the company name, location, the website, we have the phone number, value proposition. So they do comprehensive roofing, gutter solutions with a family-owned approach that prioritizes customer satisfaction and personal attention. They offer financing options. Okay, cool. Unique differentiation. So this company is led by John Davis with 30 years plus of industry experience. They maintain an A+ BBB rating and don't consider a job complete until customers are 100% satisfied. Great. Now, as you can see for case studies, interesting, most of them didn't have case studies, which is fine. And so this right here is just an extra thing that we can do. I'm going to leave it here, right? Because some of them do. So we have a client testimonial from Tara Mancine, details on how Brian completed multiple home improvements project inside a building. And so the reason why I asked this is because let's say we're cold calling the business. We can say something like this. We can commend the business on having a case study and we can reference the name of the person who gave the case study. Right, which is always good because personalization over anything is great. And so that right there is the list, right, that we have here, which is great. What I can do now is this. I can say, okay, great. Now what I want you to do here is the whole process that I ran you through. I want you to create its skill. All right, so now in terms of improvements, I want to do a few things. For example, location sometimes gets mixed up with company name. Website sometimes get mixed up with the location. Phone number, and this is pretty much all shifted for no reason. So I can go here and I can say, there was one problem, like for example, Guardian Roofing of North Carolina, the location is LLC, the website, and then the value proposition is the phone number and so on, right? And so we are shifting everything by one. So I want to make sure that when you give me the CSV, you check that all the columns that we have are clearly placed, right? There are a lot of them that don't have a location, which is fine. So we can leave it there and you put things in the right place. But there are some of them as well that have different things in different places. So I want you to fix that and then give it back to me. And this is part of iterating the actual skill itself. All right, so now it told us that it updated the leads.csv. I can go here, I can copy this and go back. I can make a new sheet and I can paste it here. I can go to data, split text to columns. And as you can see here, now it fixed the error that we had before, which is perfect. There we go. Now, with all this said, we can go to the next step and actually create this skill that we need. I'm in a new tab and I can say, okay, now that you generated the lead generation kind of workflow, I want you to create a skill so that when I call the skill, it basically runs through the whole process that we just went through. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions, but create a skill called lead generation system and then add it in the folder itself. I can press go. I can put plan mode, but essentially now it will use the skill of skill creator to then be able to create the skill. Okay, so now I can press yes, and then I can go from plan mode to bypass permissions. All right, so now it's finished creating the skill. I can go here to lead generation system, and I can see that I have a document called skill.md, and this contains a full instruction manual for that specific skill. So lead generation system, description, instructions, and we go on and on. The only thing they didn't do is that it didn't make a folder here called script and references. Because this right here and this right here, they're both references, even this, and then this right here is a script. So what I can say here is inside the skill folder for the lead generation system, can you also add a references and scripts folder to store the appropriate files? So the lead generation.py needs to be in a scripts folder and in the rest as well, like based on what you know and obviously your definition of scripts and references, just include the files there to make things organized. And I can press go. As you can see now, I just made two different folders, references and scripts. And inside scripts, we can see that we have the lead generation.py, and then inside references, we can see that I have EMV, requirements text, and sample output CSV, which is great. One thing I want to do though, is I want to delete these ones. So I can say, okay, now that you added those inside the references and scripts folders, can you delete the other ones that we're not going to use? As you can see, it deleted both of them. And it's also asking me, hey, do you also want to delete .env and leads.csv in the output files? Yes. Delete them. There we go. So now we have a references folder, we have a scripts folder with the automation. In this case, the Python file, which doesn't make any sense to anyone here. It's just a file that runs the automation, right? Because behind every automation in N10, make.com, it's all Python. It's also all JSON. Because as you may know, all the platforms in N10 or make.com, behind the automations, it's all code. And so this is the code itself that runs the actual system. And as you can see, we start to add more and more skills with more and more folders. Now there's one more thing that I want to do in this, which which has to do with commands. Now, I have a skill called lead generation system. I want to create a command so that I can put like / lead generation, and then it calls that specific skill automatically. Can you make that command? I can go bypass permissions, and I should be able to see a command being made here. All right, so now I've finished making the command. As you can see, we have the lead generation.md here. So if I go to a new chat, I can press / lead generation, and then that will activate the lead generation system that we have in the skill itself. There we go. And now it's going to ask me, hey, what niche do I want? Location, number of leads, and output file. I was going to say roofing companies again. Metspas in London. And I want to find 30. And I want to name the file Metspa London 30. Boom. And I can go to bypass permissions. Okay. So that right there is the full process of creating a skill step by step and actually testing it and making a command so that whenever I go to Claude Code, I can simply just press / the skill name and it will automatically call the skill itself. All right, as we can see here, we have the result, Metspas in London. I can make a new sheet, data, and then we have the full list right here. And we just called it simply by pressing / command of that specific skill. So now you know exactly how to build your own Claude Code skills. But what if I told you that your Claude Code skills could actually improve themselves 24/7 overnight without you having to do anything? This is where we get to self-improving skills. Like we saw earlier, the first way of actually self-improving your own Claude Code skills is to do it manually. So we gave it the first basic version. It made this right here. Then we said, okay, this right here is a bit messed up. This right here is a bit messed up as well. Can we change this? And then it came and did this as well. And so what it did is it made it better. It improved itself. And this is great because it allows us to make a near perfect score or the output for our specific skills. But if you want to take your skills to the next level and actually measure how much it improved by, well, this is where we get to the skill evaluation. So the first step of skill evaluation is making sure that you have the skill creator installed. So you need to have this installed. And this is something that we spoke about in one of the first steps. Then once we have the skill involved, we then have to tell Claude to evaluate our skill. And so here I can say, create an eval for my lead generation system skill. I'm just going to do the YouTube title generation just to keep it more simple. So for my YouTube title generation skill, I can press go. Make sure it's bypass permissions. As you can see here, it created 2 eval files. One is eval.json and one is trigger eval.json. Basically, the whole point of evals is to make our skills self-improving and to make the skills itself improve themselves over time. The first thing it made is 3 test use cases. So if I go here to the skill itself, it made a folder called evals and we have 2. So the first thing is test cases. So it uses specific inputs to run the skill. So let's say we're using the prompt of Claude Code beginner video. What it tests is framework usage, character limit, curiosity, variety. Then it uses VS Code versus cursor versus Windsor comparison. So basically these are 3 video ideas and this is what it tests for, right? And each eval has 5 to 6 expectations checking. Exact count, 10 titles, character limit, 60, framework adherence, topic relevance, curiosity, engagement, and variety. Whilst on this side, we have 20 trigger tests. 10 should be triggered, 10 should not. Should trigger is give me YouTube title ideas, brainstorm video titles, help me name my video, etc. Should not trigger is writing scripts about YouTube, video script, thumbnails, SEO analysis, blog titles, channel growth, advice, adjacent but distant tasks. And so now what it will do is it will test the actual skill based on this criteria and it improves if it finds that this output isn't good enough. So it will test all the 3 use cases and it will test all these 20 triggers. With this said, I can now say run the eval for my YouTube title generation skill and I can go press run. What this will do now is it will go and run these 2 and then give us a kind of a report. All right, perfect. Now it's finished with the evaluation. It's telling us that with the skill, it did 100% correct. Without the skill, 33%. With the skill, 100%, and then average would be 50% here, and average would be 100% here. And it also gave us full document here with the prompt, with the skill, the outputs that we got, formal grades. So 6 out of 6 passed, 0 failed, which is perfect. Then we also have the benchmark comparison here, which gives us all the data of what the output looks like with the skill and what the output looks like without the skill. Okay. And so here we have the pass rate with the skill, without the skill. Obviously here we have with the skill 100%, without the skill 50% plus minus 17. So as you can see, with the skill, it's a perfect score of 100. And so what it did here is that it evaluated 1, 2, and 3 so that we have the Claude Code beginner, which is the first topic that it used, the first test use case. With the skill, without the skill, you can see all the numbers here. Assertion, so all the different things that we needed inside that specific title. With the skill, it got everything right. Without the skill, only 2. And it did that for all the 3 topics. So topic number 1, topic number 2, and topic number 3. And then we have the analysis notes. So with the skill, achieves 100% pass rate across all 3 evals versus a 50% average without the skill. The biggest skill advantage is in the format compliance. Exact count, 10 titles and character limit, baseline consistency, overproduced, and exceeds length limits. And so all this is doing is it is testing 3 different use cases for our skill, and it's telling us, hey, out of 10 times that we run this, how many times fail? How close is it to the desired output that we asked it to do? And so you can always have this evaluation for every single skill that you do. You'll be able to test it. Now, of course, YouTube title generation is a very easy system, but if we were to do something with the lead generation system, it would work pretty well just because there's a lot of moving components in the actual skill itself. And so at this point, you can tell it to improve the skill, run the eval again, and see the numbers and how it's improved. And so at this point now, we have a 100% accuracy rate, but let's say we had 80%. So what we would do at this case, if in case it has 80% or anywhere less than 100, I can tell it, hey, it's missing X, Y, and Z. Can you improve the skill? It then improves the skill. It tells us, hey, it's done. And then we ask it to give us the evaluation again. And this is a whole repetitive loop that it does to make sure that these skills are self-improving. One more thing I wanted to go through when it comes to skills is the ability to call them using /skill, right? So in this case, in the .claude folder, we have commands and we have skills. I've gone through skills, but commands are the things that we use to call that specific skill, right? So for example, let's say I wanted to run YouTube title generation. Instead of saying, hey, can you run YouTube title generation? I would say /YouTube title generation, and it will simply run automatically, right? Just because we've added the command, which allows us to call it directly. Same way that if I wanted to run the views to clicks, I would go /views to clicks analysis, and it will run the skill itself. Now, this is great for us because we simply don't have to manually write the skill itself. We can just put / call the skill, and you're good to go. And if I go to /, I can see down to the commands, I can go down to the skills right here, and I can see all my skills that I can call automatically, and it will simply trigger that specific automation. And the way that we did that is, let's say we have draw diagram and we have YouTube title generation. If I wanted to call this one here, I would have to put /draw diagram, and I simply don't have the command there. So what needs to happen because of that is I would have to explicitly say, hey, can you run my skill called the draw diagram? Right? Which is quite inefficient, especially when you have 20 to 30 skills that you want to browse through and just pick one automatically, right? And so in this case, to turn that skill into a command, I can say, hey, can you turn my 2 skills into 2 commands, and then so that I can call them using / the name of the skill, and then add the file inside the commands folder under the .claude folder. All right, now I can press plan mode, because I wanted to make a plan first. All right, so here we have the plan itself, turn skills into / commands. We have 2 skills, and we're going to create the commands as well. I can just press yes and auto accept. You can see here that it's going to create a file called under the commands, under here. Same thing with this, YouTube title generation and draw diagram. I can press yes, auto accept. I can go to bypass permissions, and I can let it do its thing right here. All right, so after a few minutes, it made the 2 different commands, which are 2 different files. So we have this one here, which says when someone calls /draw diagram, use the draw diagram skill to handle the request. Same thing with the YouTube title generation. So when someone calls /YouTube title generation, use the skill right here to handle the request. That way, if I go here and I can put /YouTube title generation, it will run the skill itself right here. As you can see, it's looking at all the different references. Then it should ask me, what video do I want to make a title for? As you can see now, it's asking me for the video topic, angle, number of titles. And then if I go to a new conversation, I can do the exact same with draw. So I can put /draw diagram, and it will start running the draw skill. And now it's going to ask me what concept or system do I want visualized and what level of detail. And the next level would be obviously having 10 to 15 different skills with 10 to 15 different commands so that we're able to call the skills directly. Without us having to type the skill itself or have a conversation with Claude Code, we can simply just filter by the skills. You can go here and we can look at all the skills that we have and call them directly right here. All right, so now you understand how to build custom skills and / commands that make Claude Code do what you need in one line. But what if sometimes you want Claude Code to do things automatically without you even having to ask? Well, that's exactly what hooks are for. And that's what we're covering in the next video. Let's dive in. All right, now the one feature that I'm talking about is, of course, Claude Code hooks. If you've never heard of Claude Code hooks, they are a bit more on the technical side, but they're actually very, very easy and very powerful when you understand how to use them. So what they are is automatic actions that run at specific moments. Like every time X happens, automatically do Y. And it's almost like setting rules that your assistant always follows. Now, the only difference between Claude Code hooks and Claude Code skills is that hooks are things that Claude Code uses regardless of whether you call them or not. They're on the organization level, right? So you set a rule that every single time Claude Code runs, it always uses these hooks, okay? And they're automatic things that I'll walk you through what they actually are. For example, let's say you give Claude Code a task, you ask Claude Code does the work, and it uses these hooks, right? Whenever it does the work. For example, we have pre-tool use. So we have hooks that we have to use before the tool runs. Post-tool use, which are hooks that we have to use after the code is written. Stop, when Claude Code finishes, or notification when Claude Code needs you. So these are the 4 different types of hooks that you can have, and they're just examples of what it could look like, right? So you have a hook that runs every single time the workflow finishes, or Claude Code starts, or when it stops, or when it needs notifications. And they're almost like triggers, what starts the actual hook itself. Now, I'm here on the YouTube workspace, and if I go to my .claude folder, which is where the hooks are going to be stored, there's a file called settings.json. If I press on settings.json, you'll be able to see the full code. Now, the code itself is actually very, very easy to understand, right? Now, don't worry about the code too much because I'll explain exactly what it is. But essentially, it's stored in a file called settings.json. And so here I am on a new project. I can go to new folder here. I can name it .claude. And by the way, .claude is also the folder that we use to store skills, to store commands, to store different things of Claude Code. And inside .claude, we want to add a new file called settings.json. Now, a few things. First of all, that whenever we're making a hook, some sort of like automation or some sort of plugin, we are all making it under the same exact file. So this is not like a skill where you would need to add a new file for every single hook. We use settings.json as the main file to store all the different hooks that we have across our organization, okay? Second thing is that when we are installing hooks in settings.json, you will be able to use this hook across different projects. This will make more sense when I show you, but essentially understand those 2 rules. First thing, you will be able to write all the hooks here. And then second thing, just as if you were able to write all the skills in one file without you having to make different folders, but in this case, skills are different. And then you need to understand that this is on an organization level, not on a project level. With this said, let's go to here. And the way to actually use hooks is you can either press /hooks, which you will be able to only to do using your terminal, as you can see right here. Terminal. Let me go here to terminal, new terminal, and I can press Claude. So here we are on a terminal view using Claude, and I can press /hooks, view hook configuration for tool events. I can go enter, and here we have 0 hooks configured. So we have 0 hooks that are configured right now in our organization, okay? And here we have a read-only menu to add or modify hooks, okay? And so in the easiest way, what this is you being able to say, okay, I want to run some sort of notification before the tool execution. And so these are all triggers, right? When I say trigger, I mean, this is a trigger before the tool execution. This is a trigger after the tool executes. This is a trigger post-tool use failure. So when the tool fails. So let's say you want to send yourself an email whenever a tool fails. You use that. Permission denied. After auto mode classifier denies a tool call, then you use the hook. Then you can make a hook there. And so you have different options that you can work with whenever you have these kind of statuses inside of Claude Code. But let's say I go to notification, press enter. It says we currently have no hooks configured. To add a hook, you either need to edit settings.json directly, or you need to ask Claude. And now let's go to the normal view and let's talk to Claude Code. Say, okay, hey, I want to make a hook. So here it's asking me, what kind of hook do you want to do? Here are some common hook events. And I have running before the tool is called, run after a tool completes, run when Claude sends a notification, run when Claude finishes a response, or run when subagents finishes. Let's do this. Let's run a hook where when Claude finishes a response, it sends me a notification. Okay, so that's going to be the hook that we're going to make. So when Claude finishes doing something, it actually gives me a notification. I can press yes. As you can see now, it's running the hook. And by the way, when you see something like this, always in Claude Code, it just means that this is the previous version, this is the updated version. And it's saying, do you agree that we can change this exact file? And I can say yes. And now it's going to add the hook instead of settings.json here. And it says that the hook is live. Every time I finish a response, you'll get a macOS notification saying that Claude has finished responding with the title Claude Code. And I can review or edit at any time via hooks. So in theory now, what we made is a hook that alerts me every single time Claude Code finishes doing something, so that I'm able to then do whatever I want, work on different things simultaneously, and I'll know when I have to go back to Claude Code to see the output. So here I can say, what's the capital of Italy? And I will get a notification when it finishes running. Now, this is the exact notification that I just got. The reason why I'm showing you here is because I'm using my my monitor, so it doesn't actually show you the notification on the monitor as well. But essentially what would happen is that you would be talking to Claude Code. At the same time, you can be doing something else, and you will know whenever you have to go back to Claude Code because of this notification right here. And there is a hook, right? And this will run every single time that you talk to Claude Code. Regardless of whether you have all these documents in your project, it will always run, right? These are rules that will always run regardless of X, Y, and Z. So in this case, when Claude Code finishes, then we get a notification. All right, so another example here could be that let's say we had a .env document. So this .env document is full of API keys for OpenAI, Anthropic, Stripe, all these things. And by the way, they're fake, so don't try to copy them. Fake API keys. Let me just put API keys. None of these are real. And what I want is that whenever I talk to Claude Code, maybe I could be doing a complete custom code, full stack project, or maybe I'm doing a full website, or maybe I'm building some automations, right? Ideally, we wouldn't want Claude Code to impact the .env document, because once this is impacted, let's say it deletes everything by mistake, we have to reconfigure everything. And all the automations break because they're all reliant on these passwords, right, to access the softwares for the automations. So what we can do here is I can say, I want to make a hook. So in this case, we want to tell Claude Code, hey, don't edit the .env at all, right? And so in this case, it would be a pre-tool hook. So we would say, yeah, so this is a pre-tool hook. Essentially what we want is, I want to tell Claude Code to not touch the .env document. So don't ever touch the .env document, regardless of what it is that we're doing. So if you have to edit the .env, then you can't do it because you have to stop yourself because it's sensitive information. So now we're making another hook. I can press yes. Let me go to bypass permissions so I can let it create the own hook. There we go. So now it added the pre-tool use onto our settings.json. So if I go here, I can see now that I have the stop hook, which means that whenever the Claude Code stops, it gives us a notification. So we get a notification here when Claude has finished responding. And then we also have the write edit one, which is the one that allows us to block env. And then we have the pre-tool use hook, which is the one that we use to be able to not let Claude Code touch our .env document, because of course it has all the passwords. So now here I can say, create a .env file with API key test123. And you can see that it says, I can't do that. Your settings.json has a hook that blocks me from writing to the .env files since they contain sensitive information. You can create it yourself by running echo this, right? And so this is extremely important, right? I wish I knew this sooner, because there are many times where I told Claude Code to do something and it deleted something from here, or it added something from here, which messed up my whole project. And so in this case, what we're saying is, whatever happens, don't edit this, right? What I would recommend is you add all the API keys that you have, all the passwords that you have that Claude Code needs to have access to whenever it needs to run a specific automation. And then once you have those, put this hook here, make sure that now Claude Code is not able to edit the .env to be able to make sure that you're safe whenever you're building the project. And last example, let's say I am building a product for a client. At the end of every session, I want to know exactly what files Claude Code touched and when, which is an audit trail. And so what I want is a log of all the kind of edits of different files that I made with the timestamps of when it actually touched them. So here I can say, add a post tool use hook, because post tool is going to be the trigger. After Claude Code finishes, it logs every file Claude Code edits or writes to a file called claude/log.txt with a timestamp. And we can press go. And this is great because a lot of the times that I'm building with Claude Code, I am making stuff and then I'm forgetting which files I edited. And sometimes things just get deleted. And so this allows me to know exactly what got edited and what got deleted at what timestamp. All right, so it just finished running. It said the post tool use hook is now configured. I can see here that I have the write edit, type command, and I have the status login file change to. All of this makes no sense to me. It should log everything to a Claude/log.txt document. Okay, so now if I go here and say, can you make a new markdown format document and name it YouTube title generation? As you can see now, it's getting the task, but it's also updating the Claude/log.txt. If I go here, you can see that 174409, we wrote YouTube title generation.md. Let's say I wanted to say, can you also make another document or another 5 documents, naming them hook number 1, hook number 2, 3, 4, 5. And so essentially it's whatever change you make, it will log it here. So as you can see, it made 5 different documents. If I go here, I can see that we now have 5 different logs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It'll be hook 1, hook 2, hook 3, hook 4, hook 5. That way you can have a log of all the edits that you've made, so you can always come back to them in case it went wrong in some way. All right, so now Claude Code can actually run custom commands and run actions on its own. But there's still one limitation, and that is that it can only work with what's inside your machine. What if you want Claude Code to talk to your browser, talk to your databases, talk to your APIs, or any external tools? Well, as of right now, it can't really do that without this one thing, which is called Model Context Protocol, and it stands for MCP, and it completely changes what's possible. Let me show you. All right, so the best way to explain MCP is they're just plugins, right? Essentially, other people build tools and you just plug them in. So you have Claude Code, which talks to the MCP server, which is running in the background, and the MCP server will be the one controlling the external apps. So your browser, your databases, maybe it's Notion, maybe it's Supabase, maybe it's your Gmail, right? Whatever that may be. And it makes it so much faster for us to be able to use the softwares because it is trained on how it should talk to the API documentation. And the API documentation is essentially the documentation which shows how you can actually automate something with the software. So you can install the MCPs, they run as servers, right? And Claude gets new tools and talks to real apps. So you basically don't have to configure things yourself. And so how are they different from skills and hooks? Well, skills are just instructions. We say, do this task like this, right? We have step-by-step instructions that Claude Code uses to fulfill a certain task. Now, I made a full video on skills. You can check it out up here. Then we have hooks, which are guardrails. So this is giving it rules as to saying, don't touch this file. It's sort of like the security guard, right? Which says, hey, before this happens, make sure this is in place. After this happens, make sure that is in place. Different rules. I've also made a full video on hooks. You can check it up here. And then we have the MCP. So the MCP gives us new abilities, right? So we say now you can use Chrome. Now you're able to connect to Notion and you know exactly what you should do, right? And this is a new pair of hands that we give to Claude Code, which is why I say that it completely changed the way that I use Claude Code, because it allows me to build things that previously either taken a lot more time to set up and things that previously were not possible. So again, skills are instructions, hook are guardrails, and MCP are new abilities. They work together, not against each other. So they're different things, right? But when you combine all those three things together, that's when Claude Code starts to become really, really, really powerful. All right, so here I am on my main YouTube workspace, which controls my main YouTube content generation system. And inside this workspace, you can see that I have a file called .mcp.json. So .mcp.json is going to be the file that we use to add the MCPs. As you can see here, if I zoom out a little bit, here we have an MCP server called Chrome DevTools. And so what does this do? This allows us to be able to use the web and access different things outside of Claude Code, right? This doesn't mean scrape a website. This means going inside a website and taking a screenshot, for example. Now, if you look at this, you're like, what the hell am I looking at? That's okay, because you don't really have to understand the code. You just have to be able to talk to Claude Code to ask it what you want, right? As you saw, to set up the MCP, we have to make a file. But before we do that, let me show you why we need it in the first place. Hey, can you go to apple.com? Can you take a screenshot of the main page? And can you then give it to me here? So in theory, this should be able to then go to Apple, take a screenshot of the page, and then bring it back here as an image. As you see though, it says, I can't take screenshots of a website. I don't have a browser automation or screen capture tools available. I can only fetch the page content, read screenshot files that already exist on your machine. So this is why we use MCP. And so what I can do here is I can go to file, I can write .mcp.json. And inside here, I'm gonna paste the code that we had before. File and save. And by the way, I'll show you how to get this code as well, so don't worry. Once we have this here, let me ask you the exact same question in a new tab, and you'll see how now it's going to go to Apple, take a screenshot, and then bring it back. So you can see here it's saying, let me navigate to apple.com and take a screenshot for you. I can say yes. Let me do bypass permissions, so it doesn't ask me. It said it successfully navigated to apple.com. It took a screenshot, and now we have the screenshot of the page, which is this one here. Okay. And so just in a matter of seconds, we were able to unlock a new feature in Claude Code just by adding this MCP.json file here. You can start to see the different applications that come into this. This is a very, very simple example. One of the most used examples is Chrome DevTools, which is the ability to go to websites, take screenshots, and access the web. But we also have other ones as well. And by the way, just so you know, it actually opened up a new Chrome tab here, which is how it was able to take the screenshot and then bring it back to the workspace itself. All right, so to find the snippets of code that I just showed you, which allow Claude Code to have new features, plugins, we have to go to the mcpservers.org. Now, if you're aware of skills, which is the ability for us to add instructions to Claude Code and do different things, skills also have something similar. So if you go to skills.smp.com, we have what we call a workspace full of skills that we can copy and paste into Claude Code. So this right here is Amazon for MCP servers. And so as you can see, we have the Chrome Dev Tool, MCP, which is an option that we can use. We have Firecrawl, we have Supabase, we have Playwright, we have Xcode Build MCP, and we have a lot more as well, right? Across official, search, web scraping, communication, productivity, and so on, right? So let's say I go to featured. Let's say we go to the Chrome Dev Tool that we had before. If I go here, I'll be able to see the name, the description as well. So this is the tool that allows your coding assistant, such as Gemini, Claude Cursor, or Copilot, control and inspect a live Chrome browser. So it allows to control Chrome and go to a new browser and do whatever it is that you want to do. It looks at the key features, the disclaimers, usage statistics, update checks, requirements, and we have the code itself. So here we can copy this code, and that's the code that you'll be able to paste right here. Go here, you can paste it, and then make sure you press Command S. Then it pushes everything back. That's why I kind of changed the structure. But it's the exact same code. Now, bear in mind with MCPs, not all of them are vetted, which means that they weren't completely verified. So use your judgment as to what it is that you can actually be using. If I see that this is in the featured MCPs, then it's probably something that I am going to be able to use because it's trusted. But let's say I go to cloud service, right, and find a random one, let's say AKS MCP. I don't really know whether this is good unless I look at the stars here, the GitHub stars. The higher the stars, the better it is. If it has 2 stars, then I'm most probably not going to be able to use this because I don't know the impact it will have on my Claude Code and the things that it does. And if you ever copy some code and you have no clue what it actually means, you can simply just say, what is the mcp.json that I have right now? What does it do? It tells you, and then I also told it to give it to me in 1 sentence and make it very, very simple to understand. And here it says that it lets me control your Chrome browser, clicking, typing, taking screenshots, and inspecting things so I can help you test and debug websites directly from this chat. Now, one use case for this specifically is, let's say you are making a landing page, and let's say you want to look at the top landing pages from 5 different websites, and you wanted to take inspiration as to the top header that was on that landing page specifically. So here we have Apollo, we have Mails SO, we have Email the List Verify, which are all different SaaS, so softwares that verify different emails or give you some data, right? And let's say I wanted to make a new tool and make a landing page similar to these ones. And so here then I can say, can you go to each of these websites? Can you take a screenshot of the landing page and then bring it back and make a new folder under our workspace, name it screenshots of landing pages, and leave the pictures there. And I can press go. I can put this as bypass permissions. Okay, so now it's going inside apollo.io. It's going to mail.so, email list verify. The next one is zero bounce. Then we have verifalia.com. And then finally we have hunter.io. As you can see, it just finished everything. It made the folder of screenshots of landing pages. And here we have Apollo, email list verify, hunter, mail.so, scrap, verifalia, and zero bounce, right? And so all of these could be used then when you're making your landing page as inspiration. You can say, hey, look at these images of landing pages, kind of emulate their style and make me a new landing page and call it XYZ name. So another one that I use often is the one of Supabase. So Supabase is a software that allows us to be able to store data. It's sort of like a Google Sheets on steroids, right? It allows us to add data to a table that we can then fetch using its API. So you're throwing a question, all the information is stored in Supabase, and Supabase gives you the answer. So here, what I can do is I can just configure this here. So I can copy this, which again, usually is in the bottom, right? Here, what I can see is the name. We can see the demo of this, of how it works. Then it's giving me the actual setup. What I would have to do here is I would have to go and copy this. You can also look at the setup documentation here, which goes through everything that you have to do, but it's pretty much the same as the one we had here. So I can go here. And by the way, you don't actually have to make a new file. You can use the exact same one. So now we have this, and then I can say, can you add this to the MCP? I can give it the new MCP of Supabase. When I press go, put bypass permissions, it will now add the MCP to our new mcp.json, which will be here. As you can see, it's making the change. I can say yes. And now we have the Chrome Dev Tools, we have Supabase, and we have more as we start to add new things to our file. Okay, let's say I wanted to have this document right here, which is a fake SOP for an e-commerce store. I wanted to add it to my Supabase so that we can store all of this in a table, and then we can then fetch, it can ask questions about the thing itself, like a chatbot. I can go here, I can download as a PDF, and I can upload it right here. And then I can say, hey, I uploaded the PDF of the e-commerce store SOP and knowledge base. Can you please now make a vector database instead of Supabase? And can you add all the information there, vectorize it, and then, make a new table and call it SOP. I'm going to make this plan mode, so it plans. What it's now going to do is it's then going to use the MCP of Supabase because it has to access the software itself. As you can see, it's reading the mcp.json file because that's where we have the actual MCP itself. Now it's giving me a plan for creating the local vector database in Supabase. Sure, looks all good. I understand half of it, but not even half of it, but it's saying all the things that I wanted to do. I can press yes, auto accept, and then I can put bypass permissions to let it run on its own. So it's going to take the PDF. We call it chunk it. So it's going to chunk, meaning that it's going to take the actual document. It's going to split it up into different parts and then put it all into the vector database itself. And the vector database, by the way, is just a Google Sheet which stores all the information. So it just pulled up this page right here where I have to authorize the MCP connection. So MCP client connection, authorize API access. I can say yes, choose your organization, authorize Claude Code, authentication successful. I said done. You found my project, which takes 2 minutes to set up, make an account, and then pretty much make an organization, and that's it. And now it's going to create the table in the Supabase account. As you can see, it made a table called SOPs, and we should be able to see the information starting to come in. And as you can see now, we have the information that we had on the Google Doc. We have it here in the Supabase itself, right? And the way that this works again is that we have each text, which is an embedding. An embedding is just a number. And when we say query the vector database, when we ask questions, it matches the numbers of the questions or the letters that we actually give it to the numbers here, and it gives us the answer, right? But essentially what it did is that it used the MCP of Supabase itself to then send all the information here without us having to set up anything apart from that MCP code itself. Now, although MCPs are great, there is one fallback, which is the cost. And so if I go here to /context, I will now be able to see how many tokens the MCPs actually take. So here I can see that I'm using Cloud Opus 4.6. I'm using 15.6K out of 1 million tokens, so 2%. And only 2 MCPs use 10,800 tokens, which is quite a big amount considering the fact that we only added 2. And you can see here that the MCP tools, right? So each tool, which means that each type of action that it can do requires tokens to run. And so we have click, which is 163, close page, 112, drag, 155, emulate, and so on, right? And it keeps on going and going. So one important thing is that the more MCPs you add, the more money you have to spend on tokens. So make sure to not use 15 or 20 MCPs because they will take up a lot of your tokens and context. Just use the top 2 to 3 that I showed you and make those your main priority ones whenever you're using Claude Code. And so with the fact that you are spending a lot of tokens with the MCPs itself, usually what we do is that we install the MCPs here, right? So let's say we install Chrome DevTool, or let's say we install the Supabase. We check if it works, which means that you test it, see if it did the right thing, and then you turn that MCP itself into a skill, because skills require less tokens. And so with the healthy setup, you typically have a system prompt, which is the prompt of the actual AI itself, Claude Code. Then you have built-in tools, and then you have MCP tools. You want to have a few, and then you have your conversation, which means it's a lot of room. Because the more you speak to Claude Code, the more the tokens, or what we call the context window, increases, which means that you can't be having a conversation with Claude Code forever because the tokens, the space of the conversation, ends, right? And so you want to have as much space as possible for the conversation instead of having the system prompt, built-in tools, and having 20 different MCP servers, which take up so much tokens and so much space and context, where to the point where you can actually have a proper conversation with Claude Code before the tokens runs out. So you want to be as efficient as possible with your tokens that you are using in Claude Code. And by the way, if you want all the resources that I'm going to be talking about in this video, plus being part of a community of over 9,000 people who are actively building with AI, then check out the second link down below. All right, so congrats on finishing module 2. At this point, you have fully customized Claude Code. You have custom skills, you have automated hooks, and it's connected to every single tool through the use of MCP. So now you have a pretty powerful setup. But if there's one thing I learned after working with Claude Code for hundreds of hours, is that it's not so much about your setup or your tools, but it's about how you speak to Claude Code, which is the prompting. And that's exactly what the next module is all about, which is the prompting strategies that will 10x the quality of everything that you do with Claude Code. Let's dive in. Okay, so the first hack is called splitting prompts. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that I see when people use Claude Code is them adding huge and humongous prompts with a ton of information and a ton of tasks all in the same prompt, and then expecting Claude Code to give them the output at day one. An example of this could be them saying, build me a CRM with auth, database, API, dashboard, emails, and deploy it, which are basically 7 different tasks, right? Or 4 different tasks within the same kind of major thing that they want to build. And there's a few problems with this. The first one being that there's a lot of context or tokens used in that same session that you're using Claude Code. The second thing is that the output is not going to be the best just because you're feeding it and you're telling it 20 different things at once. The same way that you tell an employee, hey, can you build me a full software with this, 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 and that, without giving the person any clear structure. And the issue here, even when I started, was that I thought Claude Code would build anything, right? It could build anything and anything if I give it one prompt and that's it. But it's much better to split prompts and take a more structured approach. So instead of putting this prompt right here with 7 different tasks, we split the tasks up, right? And we talk to Claude Code task by task. So we look at this and we say, okay, the first task is setting up the project. Then it will set up the project and we review whether it did a good job or not. If it did a good job, then we go to the next thing. If it didn't do a good job, then we go back and fix it. Then we go to task 2, which is knowledge base, and then we review if it worked, If not, let me look back. And we do this for the other tasks as well. And the reason this works a lot better is because when we have to fix task 4, we don't have to fix the whole thing because we reviewed each one and it worked very, very well. And so we go task by task, making sure that everything works until the end. Now, is it going to take more time to prompt Claude Code at the start? Yes, but actually you spend more time fixing this after it didn't do a good job rather than setting things up properly from the start. So to make this more practical, I can give you like an actual prompt that I built. So you can see the bad approach and then the good approach that we take. So on the one hand, we have a prompt that says, build me a full customer support chatbot with Next.js frontend, a knowledge base that uses embeddings, escalation logic that routes tickets to Slack, an admin dashboard with analytics, user authentication with OAuth, and deploy the whole thing onto Vercel. Use Tailwind for styling and make it responsive. Now, I'm not going to run this for the sake of not having to wait 3 hours, but this right here, it will overwhelm Claude Code with so much context and so many things to do that the output, don't get me wrong, it will be okay, but it won't be as good as if you split things up step by step, right? And so what we could do here is we have the first prompt, which would be this, let's say, prompt 1, set up the Next.js project with TypeScript and Tailwind, create the basic folder structure with components, and we give it the first part. So when prompt 1 is finished, it did a good job. Then we go to prompt 2 right here. Then once prompt 2 is finished, so this is added in the knowledge base, it goes to prompt 3. And then we keep going until prompt 4 and prompt 5, right? So prompt 4 will be this. So all we did here is took this prompt right here, which has Next.js frontend, a knowledge base, escalation logic, it has admin dashboard, it has OAuth, it has deploying, right? So Next.js frontend will go here. Then we had knowledge base will go here. Then we had escalation logic will go here. Then we had dashboard, which will go here. And then finally, we would have another one, which is deploying the whole thing. And so you can see that it's kind of like a spider web. And the reason why we do this is because you take a more structured approach, right? And so I walked you through how you review it and so on, but essentially you would run this, right? And don't worry about all these terms because they don't mean much to me either, but it's more the structure that we have to understand, right? And so you have something simple with 7 different tasks. You split them up into different prompts, prompt 1, prompt 2 until prompt 7. You review them individually to make sure that when you get the output, it's going to be correct. You don't have to re-prompt Claude all over again and fix it and debug it and spend 2-3 hours asking it why it did the wrong thing. The next hack is using plan mode. Now, I know plan mode is not something revolutionary, but it's a big misconception as to what it actually does and when it's important. So whenever we have a new task in Claude Code, we ask ourselves whether it's hard or not hard. If it's hard, so if it requires different steps, then we use plan mode, then we review the plan, and then we approve it, and then we execute the actual thing to give us the output that we want, right? An example of this could be an API with 5 endpoints, or when you're building a full workflow, and I'll show you exactly what that looks like. Because it has different steps to it, and you want it to plan accordingly, take the time to think through how it's gonna build it before it builds it. On the other hand, if you have something very easy, like fixing a typo or changing some sort of color in a button that it made in a software, then you can just execute directly without needing the plan mode, because there's not much planning to it. It's just a very, very easy task. All right, so here I'm on my main hub in Claude Code, which is called the YouTube workspace. I automate pretty much 30% of everything that I do on a day-to-day basis with like YouTube. I would even go as far as saying like 40%. Now here under .claude, and by the way, if you're new to Claude Code, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, if this looks very confusing to you, watch this video up here. It will give you a much better idea. But if you understand scales, which I'll walk you through in the last hack as well, Excali draw diagram. So that skill right there allows me to be able to make these diagrams automatically. To break down the topic for you guys to understand, I typically break it down in a visual way, but also make it practical. So you see how I'm showing you the diagram, plus also how you can use the actual concept here. And so in this case, let's say I wanted to make a video about anti-gravity versus Claude Code. By the way, if you want the video, let me know in the comments down below if you're interested. If not, also let me know. But if I wanted to do a video on anti-gravity versus Claude Code, well, I would want to basically, first of all, explain what anti-gravity is and how Claude Code is different from anti-gravity. And so I would want to make maybe 3 diagrams, I'd say, using Excali draw, which is this platform right here, which allows me to explain my concept, the differentiation between anti-gravity and Claude Code. Okay, so I told it to research anti-gravity. I told it to research Claude Code. I wanted to look for the differences. I wanted to make 3 visuals and then give me back the visuals. Okay, so a task like this has a plan, right? And so instead of going bypass permissions, which is basically where we go YOLO mode. We say, hey, take care of it yourself. Don't ask me for any help. Don't make any plan. Just go after it, right? We can go and use plan mode to make a plan first before it gives us the output. Okay, so now I'm going to press run. And you know it's in plan mode when it's blue right here. Bypass permissions is going to be red. Now it's saying that it's going to research both products in parallel to understand what we're working with, then plan the diagrams. Okay, so that's how it plans through. That's how it thinks through actually planning the whole concept here. Okay, there you go. So after a few minutes, it made the plan, which is Google's anti-gravity versus Claude Code, 3 visual comparison diagrams. It gives me the context. So Michele wants to create XYZ. Research summary. So the summary that I made, 3 key differentiators. So interface, agent orchestration, verification, and feedback, and deliverables, which is the 3 things that we want, right? With the color system, the layout, diagram 1, diagram 2, diagram 3, diagram 4, and the implementation steps. and the files and verification. One more reason why I do also like this in specific is because when I use plan mode, I can also add comments. So I can say interface paradigm. Paradigm is a very strange word. Make it beginner friendly. I know it's a very stupid comment, but let's say you add a comment. When we press approve plan, then we will approve the plan, but it will also take the comments that we add in the plan as context to change whatever it is that we told it to change. But also I get to see exactly what it came up with. Because if I didn't like interface paradigm or if I didn't like agent orchestration, I could say, hey, can you find something else, right? And we can go back and forth. Now, let's say I like the plan, everything's good. Now I can press send feedback and keep planning. So send feedback because we added one comment. And if you add more comments, so if you say here, let's say orchestration, you add, turn this to organization, turn this word. So we're just playing around with the names. I can go here and I can send feedback and keep planning. Or actually, now that I thought of it, color system, I know anti-gravity is not purple. So we can do use dark blue. Claude Code will be not blue. It will be use orange. That's it. Now I can go back. It will say we added 4 comments. It will take these 4 comments and we can send feedback and keep planning. Okay, so now it will take the feedback, it will apply the feedback and then give us back another plan with the updated feedback. There's a lot of feedback there, but you get the point here. It's basically crafting the whole plan before it gives it to us. All right, so here we have the new updated plan. If I go back here, we can see that we have dark blue, orange, we have interface style, and we have agent organization. So these things changed. It updated the actual plan. And now I can say yes and auto accept. And now instead of making it edit automatically, I can now put bypass permissions because I know that the plan is good. I know that it's smart enough to be able to do whatever I want it to do. And now it's just about doing it. All right, so you just finished making the 3 diagrams. Now let's look at the output. So we look at the first one. I can go here. I can import scenes. So anti-gravity, I believe this is an interface. So let's open it up. There we go. Nuts. Crazy. Insane. So here we have the actual diagram that I made. Google anti-gravity and Claude Code. This is the diagram itself to show the differentiation in the interface. The next one is agent organization, which is this one right here, which is on the left-hand side is anti-gravity. On the right-hand side is Claude Code, showing the difference. And finally, we have the agent verification, which is this one right here. So the verification and how they both work. Now the output was significantly better because we took the time to plan things ahead. On the other side, you could have just used bypass permissions and it would have given you something, and I've tried it before, and the output just wouldn't be as good as you'd want it to be. So if a task requires more thinking, if it requires a plan, just make sure to use plan mode every single time. So the difference between a kitchen sink versus a clean session is the amount of tokens that it uses. So if you didn't know, a Claude Code session, right? One session means one kind of conversation here. If you go here, I just press this, it will compact it. I'll explain what that means. But essentially, each conversation has X amount of tokens. So if I go here and I put context, we get the context usage, right? So we get how many tokens have we used so far. So we have a limit of 200,000 tokens, and we have used about 83,900 tokens in one session. So the whole session that we just did, it used about 83,900, which is about 42% of each one. And it also gives us the actual like percentage broken down into like what actually takes the most amount of tokens. So the system message is 3.8, the system tools is 9.3, the MCP is 5.7, the system tools is 10.8, and so on, right? And so you have all the tools broken down and you can see everything here. My point is that your prompts are better if you separate them in different sessions, right? So instead of fixing a bug, making a new feature, refactoring something, or writing a doc, all in the same session, right? Even though they have nothing to do with each other, you would create a session for each one. And when I say session, I mean a new session here. So you press plus, this is a session. Conversation. You can call it conversation really, not a session. So conversation 1, conversation 2. Because the more tokens you use in a session, the more stupid Claude Code becomes. The more it starts to think less and the more it starts to get overwhelmed with information. And so split them up in different conversations and then you can start over. Now I call this prompt hack because sometimes you think that the problem is your prompt, but really it's the session tokens that you're using. So right here, we basically made 3 diagrams for a video that I'm planning to make. Now we're using about 42% of the actual usage. If I keep going with this conversation, we could do that, right? But the level of intelligence of Claude Code will decrease the more you increase the tokens in that conversation. So if I wanted to deploy another workflow, let's say comment analysis, it goes to my competitors, it goes through all their comments, see what people want, and it gives me back a report. Is it better for me to keep going on this session, or is it better for me to go to a new session and start from there? Well, obviously it's better to go to a new session and start from there because you start from scratch. And if I go here and I put context, then this will now give me the context, and we're only using about 9% token usage. So now it has a fresh mind and it can start doing the task that you want it to do without being overwhelmed with all the information from the previous conversation that we had, which did something completely different. The next hack is using Claude.md. So let's say you wanted to make an app, some sort of software app, okay? And you wanted the app to use TypeScript. You wanted all the words to follow camel case. You wanted to use Tailwind. You wanted to use Supabase, and you wanted to use an app router, not Pages. Now, don't worry if you're not really understanding what all these words mean, but understand that these are all rules, right? And so these rules, you can either tell Claude Code every single time to do all these things, or you can add them to something that we call a Claude.md document, where you basically build a one-time prompt and it will auto-load that prompt every single time in Claude, so it has context and we don't have to repeat everything over and over again. So Claude already knows, you just ask. So if we had to make a PDF document and we wanted the color to be blue, we wanted the letters to be small, we wanted the font to be italic font, right? We can either tell it individually every single time, or we can add it to a prompt like this, and then it will use that every single time without us having to repeat ourselves. Now, lucky for you, I made a skill in Claude Code called the Claude.md generator. And this includes a pull prompt on how to make the best Claude.md document. Plus, it gives you the example structure of one of them, for example, here, right? So all you have to do is download the skill, which you can find in the second link down below. And here we can say, hey, I want to create a Claude.md prompt for my project, for my app that I'm building. I just want you to ask me any questions of what you need from me to be able to make this document. And we can press go. So now what it's going to do is it's going to look at the skill of all the requirements that it needs to be able to make the Claude.md document. And then we're going to start working on it. So as you can see here, it says, I have found the Claude.md generator skill. Now let's walk through the process. So now it's going to ask me where you should save the Claude.md file. I can press recommended, it's fine. And then tell me about your project. So what is the project name? What does it do? And who is it for? I can press other and I can start talking to it. So let's say here I say, okay, so I want to build a website. So this is for a website, and the website needs to be for my company, JM Solutions. We're an AI automation agency that helps marketing agencies to be able to build their backend delivery systems. And yeah, that's what the actual thing is for. So you give it context, and then the tech stack we'll use is, I'm not too sure. Whatever you think is the best for build a website, let's just do that. We can submit the answer. And now it will start thinking about what to put in the Claude.md document. Okay, so it's not JAM Solutions, it's JM. But now when it makes the Claude.md document, it will be an overview of what it is that we want to build. For your JM Solutions website, what kind of features do you want? Landing plus services, keep it simple. Actually, for conventions, let's keep it simple. And rules is going to be any hard rules Claude must always or never do in his project. I have specific rules. There you go. And now it's most likely going to ask me for rules. Because all these rules, I don't want to repeat myself every single time I use Claude Code. I want Claude Code to use the Claude.md document when it's actually building the thing that I wanted to build. What are your hard rules? Mobile first design, no inline styles. There we go. Submit answers. And also other, my company name is JM Solutions, not JAM. Okay, so here we have a plan to create the Claude.md document. We have the context, project with the JM Solutions, AI automation agency website, helping marketing agencies to build backend delivery systems. The tech stack is going to be this: pages, conventions, file structure, rules, actions, verification, and we're good to go. Yes, and auto accept. All right, so here it made the Claude.md document. If I open it up, I can see that we have a full prompt, which is the one that we had before. So these are information, basically a summary of what it is that we want to build. And this is great for us because every single time that we have to go out of Claude Code and come back in, we don't have to re-explain to Claude Code what we want. We can just say, it knows that every single time that we start talking to it, it will always look at the Claude.md document, it will get context, and then only it will respond to us. Sort of like an employee having context of what it is that it has to do every day. I mean, imagine you give the AI the task to build a website, you give it all the different features and what it needs to do, then you go and close Claude Code, you come back to it later, and then you tell it, hey, keep going. And then it's going to ask you, keep going with what? What it is you want me to build. And you have to re-explain everything again. That's what this prompt is for. The last prompt hack is using skills. So we call it reusable prompts. So initially we had the manual way, which is same effort every time. So we had session 1 where we write a full prompt. Session 2, we write another full prompt. And we keep going session 3, session 4, and session 5. And each session will take about 5 minutes, and we take about 25 minutes that we wasted writing every single prompt manually. The second way is using skills. So we write the skill once and we use it forever. So if you remember before, I showed you how I made a Excalibur diagram using what we call skills. So skills are preset instructions that we give Claude Code to perform a specific thing. And so all we have to do is create the skill one time, which will take about 5 to 10 minutes. And we also have a skill to create the skill, which is awesome. And so whenever you want to do a specific thing, you can always create a skill and then call the skill whenever you want to do that specific thing, whenever you want. And so let's say we had the Excalibur diagram thing. So inside here, we have a prompt. This is a prompt that explains how to make the Excalibur diagrams. So this is the full prompt. Now I could either copy and paste this prompt every single time into Claude Code into a new session, or I could always just save it here under the skills, and it could always read this when it needs to make the actual thing. Now, this is great for us because it saves me so much time whenever I want to make any of these, to be honest. So for example, if I go back here and I go to the command, I can see here that I can call the Claude.md generator, I can call the comment analysis, I can call the comment analysis report, competitor analysis, which are all skills which perform different things. Now, I've covered skills step by step in my Claude Code tutorial. So if this is the first time that you hear about this, just check out this video up here. It will give you much more context. But if you already know what skills are, then let's actually build one step by step and show you how it works. Now, let's say I wanted to go on YouTube every day and check the amount of views that I have for the videos. Now, I could either prompt Claude Code to do this every day or whenever I want to. And by the way, before we build the skills, you can find all of them at aitmpl.com. these are preset skills, where we have the skill creator, which is a skill that makes skills. We have the senior front end, we have the UI design, we have all these different skills that do different things. But sometimes I want to make my own skill, which is my own kind of task. And so here I can say, hey, I want to be able to make a skill, and the skill needs to be a skill that goes on the internet every time, and it finds the top news or top features that came out about Claude Code. Then it goes on YouTube and it checks the highest viewed video on Claude Code in the moment. And then it gives me content ideas that I could be using for my channel for Claude Code. Make a plan for it first, and then we can go ahead and make the skill. So this is the initial thing that we give it. I can just press go, and now it will start making the plan for the skill that it needs to do. All right, so as you can see here, it made the plan for the skill that it's gonna make, and it's gonna be called Claude Code Content Ideas. So what it does is that it searches the internet for latest Claude Code news, features. It searches YouTube for the highest viewed recent Claude Code videos. It then generates 10 to 15 ranked content ideas across reference against Michele's content pillars, and then it outputs a markdown report plus styled PDF to outputs. So now it's gonna be making all the skills for that specific thing. And then we can see phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, phase 5, phase 6, and that's it. So from a single prompt, it made this full plan of execution that we can now simply press yes and auto accept. And I'm going to press bypass permissions, so it does everything on its own. So as you can see here, it's going through the to-dos, tasks that it needs to make. And then it's adding the folder called Claude Code Content Ideas, which is a folder where it's going to store our skill that we can always call when we want to use it. All right, so as you can see here, it finished making the skill. If I go to Claude Code Content Ideas, I have the references. So this will be the report in PDF that it needs to give us, which is the output. Then the scripts, which is the actual Python scripts. It's kind of the automation that it needs to execute, generate PDF and search YouTube videos. And then it has the skill.md, which is the main document that explains to it exactly what we want to do. So with that said, I can go here and I can say /Claude content ideas. So it also made a command, and the command allows us to be able to just find it easily. So I can press Claude Code content ideas. I can put this in plan mode, and now it will start looking at all the different skills here. And it will go through each skill.md right here, and it will know that it needs to use the Claude Code content ideas because it's associated with that command in specific. And so what it will do here is it will start calling the Claude Code content ideas, and it will start executing everything that it needs to do. It says I have all the context needed. Let me write the plan and exit the plan mode so we can execute. All right, it made the plan of what it needs to do, all the steps, the key files, verification. We can go and press yes and auto accept, and we can put this on bypass permissions. So the idea behind this is that whenever now we have to go back to Claude Code, instead of prompting it again, saying, hey, can you go on the web? Can you search this? Can you search that? We can simply just press / and call the Claude Code content ideas, and it will execute that thing that we made previously, which again will take us 10 minutes at the start, but it will take us 3 seconds to be able to set this up or to call the tool whenever we have to run it. All right, so now it gave us the top 5 content ideas. It finished running the actual thing. Agent teams for agency operations, Claude Code HTTP hooks, why don't delete my Claude.md, skills, build a business command center, and Claude Code for non-coders. And if I go to outputs, I can see that it also made, let's go to here. It also made a report in PDF format. And the PDF looks like this. So we have news and updates, the loop command, which came out in Claude Code, the Claude API skill, the effort levels and ultra think, auto memory, security, agent teams, enterprise AI agent ROI. And we have the top YouTube videos latest by 30 days. So Next Drive's crushing it. Claude Code work, there we go. Dan Martell, he's a legend. Brian Cassell, and we have the other ones as well. And it keeps on going and going and going. And we have the patterns observed, content ideas, and so on. So it took us like 10 minutes to be able to make this whole skill, but now it's going to save us a lot more time when we have to rerun it again. Because now when I go to a new Claude session, I can simply go and press the Claude Code content ideas. And when I press this, it runs it over and over again. So instead of running the prompt over and over again, we have one time and we save ourselves an eternity every time we have to run the whole thing. All right, congrats on finishing module 3, which is the prompting guide. Now you know how to actually communicate with Claude Code to make it do things that you want it to do in a very, very effective way. And that matters because every single thing that we're going to cover from now on requires that skill. So now we're going to be moving into agentic workflows, which is sub-agents, agent teams, workflow hacks, and the deployment side. And this is where you get Claude Code to stop acting like a normal coding agent, but start becoming the system that runs the entire operations for you. And this is the highest leverage thing that you can build with Claude Code right now. So let's dive in. Okay, so think of Claude Code as the business owner. Right now, what's happening is that you're asking Claude Code to do everything. Research, write, test, organize, right? And that's like running a one-person business forever. And so you can think of sub-agents like hiring different employees. Each one has their own brain, each one has their own job description, their own tools, and each one reports back to the main boss, which is Claude in this case, right? And so what happens here is that you tell Claude a task, so you give it a task of what it has to do, And then Claude delegates, which means that it gives the work to the right employee, to the right agent in this case. And the employee works in their own space and then hands back a clear summary to the actual agent, which then gives it back to you. So you can think of this as a research assistant, a copywriter, and a QA employee. And so these are 3 different employees, which are able for us to split up the tasks across different people so that each one is specialized in their own thing. And they all report back to the main agent here. So now that you know exactly what it is, how do you actually create sub-agents? So there's the first way, which is using Claude Code, and the second way, which is doing it manually. And we're going to look at both ways. Okay, so here I am on Claude Code. I made a new folder called sub-agents. And for us to be able to create the sub-agent, I can type /agents. Okay. Now, if you're on this view right here, you will then see a symbol, which is this one right here. This symbolizes that to run this exact command to make sub-agents, you have to run it through your terminal. And to run it through your terminal, got it here, you can go up, terminal, you can press new terminal, and then you will be able to see the terminal here. And I can press Claude to initiate Claude to actually make Claude work. And then I'll have the screen right here. Let me actually go maxed out. And then I have this page right here. So now we're going to be working with this page specifically to make the actual sub-agent. Okay. Now that we're here, we can press /agents, even though the spelling's wrong. You can press enter. And now it's telling us, hey, agents, do you want to create a new agent? I can press enter again, which means yes. It's asking me the location. So project or personal, I can do project. That's fine. So now it's asking me how I want to create the agent. In this case, I'm going to do generated with Claude. And now I have to explain what it is that I want. For the sake of just showing you how it actually creates the agent, I'm going to keep it very simple. I want a sub-agent that can review, or that can take an idea of a YouTube video, and then it can spin up 10 different YouTube ideas, give me the 10 ideas plus hooks that I can use for that specific video. Now, I'm using just a very simple content creation kind of use case, but at the end of the video, I'll also show you 3 different use cases where you can actually apply this inside a real business, right? Now that we have this here, I can press enter, and now it's going to generate the agent from the description. And we should be able to see the files in the folder being created here, which is basically how it stores the actual agent itself. Okay, so now it's asking me to select the tools. And I think of this as like the level of accessibility that you give to the agent itself. Like, so for example, do you want to give it access to all the tools, read only, edit tools, execution tools, other tools? I'm going to press continue because I can give pretty much access to everything. It's going to ask me to choose the model that we're going to use to be able to run the sub-agent. And I'll walk you through like the model and which one should you choose in the first place. I'm going to go for Sonnet because it says balanced performance, best for most agents. Let's go. And then it's asking me for a color. So let's make this nice and pink. Then it's asking me where do I want to configure agent memory. Keep it very, very simple. Use product scope, because then it's going to add it to your actual project. And then now you can see that it made a folder called .claude. And then I can press S to save. If I go here, I can see that it now made the agent memory, which doesn't really have much in it. And then it made the agent itself. So the agent itself, just so you know, each sub-agent, all it is a prompt, right? The same way that you know skills, sub-agents are just prompts as well. And the prompts is a list of instructions of what the agent should actually do. Okay, so now that we've made a sub-agent step by step, let's go through the structure of the actual sub-agent. Okay, I'm going to press X here. I'm going to expand this. And here you can see you have the name, description, model, color, memory, and then we have a whole description of the actual sub-agent and what it needs to do. At this point, you have it ready. Go to your chat window, and then you can press file, you can press save, or you can press Command S, and it's saved to your computer as well. And so what happens is that you'll start to have more and more agents, which is more and more prompts, right? And so you can run agents simultaneously if you want. All right, so now you know how to make it automatically using Claude. But just like everything, if you don't really understand the fundamentals of how it all works, then if you're stuck on something or if Claude doesn't do the right job, you won't know because you don't know what good looks like. So for us to create the sub-agents, we first have to create a folder called the .claude folder. Now, in case you haven't watched the skills video, check it out up here. But I use that exact folder itself to store skills as well. And so you have agents, you have skills, you have agent memory, you have commands, you have all these things in the same exact folder. And then we have to make a folder called agents, make a folder called agent memory, which is the memory of the actual agent. And then we have the actual markdown file, which is .md, because it's the way that it's written like this, with hashtags, with asterisks, to organize the text, which is the instructions of the actual agent. So I deleted the previous sub-agent that we had. First things first, to make our own sub-agent is make a folder called the .claude folder. And inside this folder, we can make another folder called agent/memory. Boom. And then inside the .claude folder as well, we can put the agents. And so this looks like the exact same thing that we had before. And then inside the agent here, we can then press new file and call this the name of the actual agent. So let's say we're doing email writer.md. Okay. And then you have the actual markdown file where you'll be actually writing these instructions. Now, the instructions for a sub-agent prompt are divided into different parts. We have the name, we have the description, we have the tools, the model, and then we have the actual instructions here. First things first, we have the name, which is email writer in this case. It's what you call this agent. It's how you will be able to refer to it later. Okay, so remember the name. Then we have the description. So in this case, write professional client emails based on the context you give it. You tell Claude when to use this agent. Claude reads this to decide if it's the right fit. And the description is the most important part because you tell Claude when to use this agent. So when you tell it, hey, I want to do XYZ, Claude will read this exact description to decide if this is the right agent for your request. Then we have tools. In this case, we just wrote read or write. The tools are the permissions, right? So what this agent is allowed to do, or it's like onboarding someone into your own project management system, but not giving them access to everything. Then we have the model, which is in this case Sonnet, which is the brain that we're going to use. So which Claude Code brain do you want to use for this exact use case? Now bear in mind that we have 3 different models. We have Haiku, which is fast and cheap. We have Sonnet, which is why it said balance recommended. Most agents use this. And then we have Opus, which is the most powerful. Bear in mind that the most powerful they are, the more costly they are. Haiku is very, very fast, but it's only used for things like reading files, searching the code, or quick lookups. So looking for different things that don't necessarily require a lot of brain power. Then we have Sonnet, which is typically good for most things. It's medium cost, so it's cost effective, hence why we say balance, but it's good for writing code, code reviews, and most of the daily tasks that you do out there, like writing emails or making content. And then we have Opus, which is the most powerful. You're rarely going to use this, but you would use this if you're doing very hard debugging, if you're making some sort of full stack application and you need a agent that can go there and debug, meaning fix the code that you're writing, or if it needs really, really complex reasoning for it, right? So basically the overall summary here is use Haiku for simple tasks, Sonnet for most work, and Opus only when you need the big brain. And once we're done with the model, then we have the instructions. So this is the rules and personality and guidelines of the actual sub-agent. So for example, we have, you're a professional email writer for an AI automation agency. When asked to write an email, you ask who it's for and the goal. You write a clear professional email and you keep it under 150 words. Match the tone to the situation, always end with a call to action. So this right here is the personality and step-by-step instructions. Think of this as an employee handbook. You tell it exactly how to do its job, right? So these are the instructions that you give it. And so that right there is the structure of the .md file, which is the file where we're gonna give everything that we need to the sub-agent, to Claude in this case, to know that, hey, this is the sub-agent that we want to run. I'm just going to paste the example that I already showed you. We have the name, description, tools, model, and then we have the instructions here as well. So now we can press Command S to save it. We can go to Claude and I can paste this prompt right here, which is write a follow-up email to my client, John, about the chatbot project. Now what it should do is it should look at the email writer MD, which is this right here. It will read through the instructions. It will look at what it has to do. And in this case, the first thing you should ask me is ask who the email is for and what the goal is. In this case, we already told it who it's for, not entirely because it doesn't have the email. So it should ask us the email itself. And as you can see, it just made the email called email John follow-up.md, where we have the to John. And by the way, we could actually make it so that it can send the emails for us. But in this case, I just wanted to write the email. We have the subject line, checking in, chatbot project and next steps. Hey John, hope you're doing well. I wanted to touch base on the chatbot project and to see how things are progressing on your end. We've made solid progress so far and I want to make sure that we keep the momentum going. If there's any questions, blockers, or feedback you've been sitting on, now's a great time to surface them. I'd love to align on the next steps and make sure we're on track with the timeline. Would you be available for a quick call this week or early next week? Happy to work around your schedule. Just let me know what works best for you. Looking forward to hearing from you. Best, Michele. Yeah, very, very good email. And so as you can see, we just gave it a simple prompt to write a follow-up email to my client, John, about the chatbot project. Then it knew that it had to use the agent emailwriter.md to fulfill the actual task. Now, in the grand scheme of things, you'll have the output. So some of them are outputs, right? Which is this right here, which is the output of the task that we gave it. But sometimes it can get very, very messy. So what we usually do is we make a folder, which is not in the .claude folder, called outputs. And then we store this right here, move. So that all the outputs go under outputs folder. It's all to keep things very, very structured. With that said, you got to see how I built it plus how I ran it step by step. Now, in terms of triggering, which is like, how do you start the agent itself? You saw me talking to the Claude agent and not really referencing the name of the actual agent itself. But that doesn't work too well when it comes to you having skills that are very, very similar. And so the main ways that we actually run the actual agent is 3 different ways. We have the natural language, which is similar to what I just did. But in this case, we ask it to use the code reviewer to check my changes. Use the name of the actual sub-agent to do XYZ, to run the task. So Claude figures out which agent to use, and then it runs the task. The second and the most common one is mentioning. So you're going to use @ the name of the actual sub-agent to tell it to initiate XYZ or to do whatever it has to do. right? Create the task. Now this is guaranteed to trigger because you're referencing that specific agent only, right? And then finally, we have session-wide, which is use one agent for everything. So use Claude / agent code reviewer. So my advice is to start with the first one, natural language, because that is the easiest to start with, and then move on to the second one, mentioning, right? The only reason for that is because most times you guys are not going to have 35 different sub-agents that you have to manage, right? And so you want to keep it as simple as possible. So right here, to reference the sub-agent, we can just say, can you make an email using the email writer agent to Jessica, telling her we have dinner tomorrow? And then you put the actual name, right? You can also not put the slash itself. It's just something that I like to do to keep it more precise. And then this right here will know that it needs to use the agent itself. It's going to look through the agents here. Of course, there's only one, right? And it drafted the email itself. The second way, like I mentioned, is you go to tag and you can see the different options. And you would use the emailwriter.md. And then you can say, can you make an email for James and Jack, telling them, thank you for the business meeting that we had before, and tell them that the next steps is to have an onboarding call tomorrow, 5 p.m. EST, to go through the next steps. And so because I was very specific and turned this off, so you know that you're not reading it, I'm not cheating, but we were exactly referencing the agent that we want to use. And so there's no way that it will fail in using the agent because we give it the exact instructions to use that agent. And as you can see, it made the email itself, James and Jack, saying great meeting, onboarding call tomorrow, 5 EST, and then it made the whole thing. Right? Obviously, you can change this by putting your name. I didn't really give it the main folder, which is a Claude.md folder, just because I didn't want to spend too much time on that, but you can give it more information as well. Now, in case that you are using the terminal to run Claude, you can simply go to /agents again, and then you'll be able to see the email writer agent, which is this one right here. And you can simply press enter again. You can view, edit, delete agent, you can back agent, and you can do all sorts of things here. And again, you can simply just give it natural language, or you can press email writer agent, and you can tell it whatever you want. Make an email to James tomorrow, and you can run this, and it pretty much does the exact same thing. I just want to show both things because I know some people get, when I say some people, I mean me at the start. I got a bit confused when it came to using the terminal versus using the normal Claude chat and how those actually work. So as you can see now, one thing we didn't have before, I told Claude that if I don't tell it who it specifically I have to send the email to and what the goal of the email is, then it should ask me. And so here it's saying, who is James and what's the purpose of the email? James is a client, and the purpose of the email is follow up after a meeting. Whisperflow has changed my life, guys. You should definitely try it out. As you can see, we have the full email, James, subject, and the body itself. Now, one more thing that I spoke about before is restrictions and safety. Because the thing about sub-agents is like they get really, really powerful because you can control what they can and cannot do. The same way that you wouldn't give an intern access to the whole company database, here's the exact same thing. And so we have the read-only agent, we have the balance agent, and we have the full access agent. Now, when you say read-only, it can look at your files, it can search through the code, it can explore kind of what you have, but it cannot edit or write, right? It can look, but can't touch. It's perfect for research that you have to do without it actually doing something on your documents or changing anything in your computer. Then we have the balance agent. It can read, search. It can also edit and run commands, but it cannot delete files, right? It can build things, but can't break things. It can only add, but it can't remove, which is great because a lot of times when you have an agent that's out of hand, that's going everywhere, it can delete things that later on you can't get back, right? And so you want to keep it normal and clear. And then we have the full access agent. It can read, edit, write. So full power, it only uses when you really trust the task that you're doing. Typically it's for tasks that are easy, that don't require a lot of brain power, that are very, very structured. You have a step-by-step, it's done in this way, and it can be done pretty fast. So here you decide what each agent can do. The less access, the safer it is. The more access, the more powerful, but the riskier it is for you as the person who's actually talking to the agents. And the way that you would change the actual permission is if I go here to the MD, you would have tools, right? The tools is the permission. So you can literally think of this as if the word's permissions, but we use tools, right? Now, if you only want this to read, you can copy this. Read, grep, and glob. That's it. Now, if you want a balanced, which is the most common, then you want this here. Read, edit, bash, grep, and glob. It's also going to give you suggestions, but I'm going to keep it normal for now. And then if you want the full access, you don't have to specify tools. It inherits everything. So if this is empty, then it will use any tool that it has access to. It's only if you specify the level of permission that you want the subagent to have that it actually uses it per se. Now, when it comes to subagents, there's one issue, which is the issue of memory. Because every single time that you have a new session with Claude Code, so a new conversation, these subagents start from scratch, which means that they don't have a previous memory of the conversation that you had before. Now, as you can see here, we have a folder called agent memory. And this is where this comes into play because now we're able to actually have the subagent remember the previous conversations and we don't have to re-explain things again. So all we have to do is go to the actual agent itself, the prompt, and then we can simply right below model and above this, we wanted to include, but all you have to do here is put memory, : project, okay? And you press save. So let me show you how it actually works here. So if I go to a new tab, of course, again, save the project. So it's here. So I can go to a new session and I can say emailwriter.md. That's fine. I can paste this right here, which says make an email for John saying that we have dinner tonight or tomorrow night at 5 p.m. and make it really, 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 really happy with an exclamation mark. Also add the tone to the memory. And I can press go. And so now what it does is going to launch the email, right? To actually make the email that we asked it, but it's also going to save the tone preference in parallel. So at the same time, write the email and save the tone into the memory itself. So you can see now it's starting to work with memory.md. It's going to save the tone preference to the memory itself, which is this folder right here. I can press accept. That's fine. Accept again. So as you can see here, it made the email, dinner email.md with all the exclamation marks, its tone of voice. And then we have the agent memory. The agent memory has two different things. It has feedback tone matching.md and it has memory.md, which is the main one. So feedback tone matching means this is the explanation of the actual tone of the email that we need to use so that we don't have to re-explain to it again to use exclamation mark, to use X, Y, and Z. This list of tone for emails is going to be used again and again when we're making new emails, right? And then we have memory.md, which has a memory index, which means that every single time that we give feedback to the actual agent itself, it's going to store the feedback here. And so we'll have more and more feedback so that it remembers the previous things and it gets better over time. Self-improving subagents. Now that we have the memory and the prompt itself, I can go here and I can say, I can reference the emailwriter.md. Is it this? Yep. And then I can say, can you send an email to Jack saying that we have football tomorrow, 5 p.m. Bring the boys over as well so all of them can have a good time. And yeah, make it exciting. So as you can see now, as it's running, it's going to read the memory.md file. And it's going to do that every single time because it's with this specific agent itself. The more memories you have, so the more self-improving the system will become over time, right? And the more effective and the accurate the results are when it comes to doing the exact task. It's also looking at the feedback tone matching.md. And then we have the actual email itself with exclamation mark here, 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 kind of looking at the tone matching here as well. All right, so you can now spin up sub-agents to handle specific tasks in parallel, working at the same time. But what happens when you need multiple agents working together on a bigger project? That'd be coordinating, sharing context, dividing the tasks, right? That's exactly what agent teams is all about. And the way that I like to think about it is that agent teams is like sub-agents on steroids. So let's dive in. All right, so here I broke down Claude Chat versus sub-agents versus agent teams, what they all are and how they're different. All right, so the first one here is Claude Chat. This is you talking to Claude directly with no tools, no code, just a conversation, simple back and forth, and nothing in between. And typically you use Claude Chat only when you have a question or want some help writing something, just a normal conversation. Maybe you can write your emails. An example of this could be that you're building an automation in, let's say, an A10, you have an error, you drop the error message into Claude Code and say, hey, can you explain this error message? Or can you help me write my cover letter, brainstorm video ideas? Basically the way the 99% of people are using AI right now, it's using Claude Chat. Then we have sub-agents, and sub-agents just means that you have a boss and the boss has 3 employees, but this is a but, the employees cannot talk to each other. Okay, so if employee A is making something that then depends on employee B, well, that's the problem because they can't speak to each other and they can't communicate, right, when making a task together, which could decrease the quality of output and it just wouldn't work well. The results can only return to parent agent only, and they have a shared context window. So they have a shared context window, which means that they all operate under the same window, the same kind of tab in Claude Code. And when do we use sub-agents? Well, sub-agents are used when you're building code or you need Claude to research, explore, or plan different things in parallel at the same time. This could be add authentication, write test, right, where you have 2 different things which are not dependent on each other running at the same time, or explore this code base for me, plan this feature, then build it. And when you're building with sub-agents, you ideally want to have 2 different tasks or 3 or 4 or 5, whatever it is that you want, but make sure that these tasks do not correlate with each other. So for example, let's say you have a YouTube transcript and you want to repurpose that YouTube transcript into a LinkedIn post, a blog post, and maybe a Twitter post, right? All these 3 things, you might think they're not dependent on each other, but they are, because the style of writing, the tone of voice, has to be the same across the different content that you make. And so with sub-agents, you're not able to have the LinkedIn post talk to the blog post, talk to the Twitter post to make sure that they all have the same exact tone of voice. And then we have the one and only agent teams, okay? So the way the agent teams works is that you have a team lead. So you give team lead a task, say, hey, can you make this team of people that can do X, Y, and Z, right? What this does is that it spawns a team, so it creates a team and assigns tasks across the different teammates. And just like sub-agents, it will start creating agent 1, agent 2, and agent 3. And these agents all have the same shared task list, but the agents communicate with each other and each one has its own context. So it has its own context window and operates under its own kind of environment, right? And so you have teammate A talking to teammate B, talking to the team at C, which can all see the same tasks that they have here. And the team lead is the one that kind of operates the whole team. And this would be like an actual company, right? All the employees are talking to each other, same departments, maybe different departments, but they can still speak to each other, correlate, and communicate with the head of department kind of in that role. Now, you only use agent teams really when you need multiple Claude working on separate repos or separate kind of instances, or when you have a big tasks, right? Usually it's development based, so it's more technical. For example, you can build a front end plus back end plus tests. Front end does depend on the back end and it does depend on the tests. So you want to have 2 different agents under the same team that are building the exact thing that you want, but bear in mind they can also communicate with each other. So the output will be much higher, right? Because obviously the front end would depend on the back end working, and the test would depend on front end and back end working. So you want them to communicate with each other at the same time, or migrate 5 services at once, but also one Claude orchestrating the rest. Now, in terms of the actual build itself, there is a repeat and improve process, which is a 4-step cycle that we go through every single time when it comes to the communication, when it comes to speaking to the agent team for whatever it is that we want to build, right? The first thing is collect. So we want to brainstorm ideas, and it's going to list every task and set clear goals, just like a head of department would, or just like a CEO would. Then we organize. So we rank by priorities, we set deadlines, and we block the time slots for the agents itself. Then we execute. So each agent will work through the tasks. We'll track the progress and we'll have focus on what we have to do, because each agent has its own task that it has to do. And a review, which is checking what's done, know what's left, and adjusting the plan in case we need to change, right? And then we repeat and improve, and we keep going on and on and on. And that's exactly how the team actually operates, just like you would for a real company. And one more thing before we get to the build is that this is great because we have what we call parallelization advantage, because a traditional workflow would have 6 tasks, and let's say they all take 1 minute, right? So you have 6 minutes total. When you have an agent team, we have what we call parallel processing. So instead of each task being done individually at different times, here you'd have 3 different agents all working at the same time on their own tasks. Task 1, task 3, and task 5 will be done at the exact same time, as well as task 2, task 4, and task 6, which means that instead of spending 6 minutes or waiting 6 minutes, then you will wait 2 minutes, because we have what we call parallel execution. Now, these are all fancy terms just to say that this basically saves us a lot of time. I'm speaking in like minutes, but sometimes it can be hours that you would wait for a workflow to work. And here you would literally get it within minutes, which is kind of mind blowing. And I think that's where the future of agentic workflows are going to be. It's having one main agent, which controls all the others, and having them do the task for you without you having to be there. Okay, so here I am in Anti-Gravity, our IDE that we're going to use. And by the way, Anti-Gravity, VS Code, basically the exact same. You can pretty much use VS Code as well, but I just chose Anti-Gravity because that's what I have here. First thing I'm going to do here is press open folder. So I typically like to have a Claude Code main folder and then have different folders inside. Just something that I do. And I can press new folder here and name this agent, so Claude agent teams. And I can press open. I already downloaded the extension, but you can go here to extensions. You can look for Claude Code. Make sure it's the one by Anthropic, which should be the one here, Anthropic. And then you can install it, and then you'll be able to see a little button here, which has Claude Code open, and you can press this button. X out of here, and we go back to here. Okay, so here I am on the Claude Code documents. This is the official Claude Code documents, which tells us how to basically start the team. And I found this by going to code.claude.com/docs/en/agent/teams, and you'll see run agent teams right here. And if I scroll down, we can see when we use it, when we don't use it, how it works. And then here it says to enable agent teams. So to enable agent teams, we have to make a file called settings.json, and then we have to put this right here inside. I'm gonna go back here. I'm gonna press new file. I'm gonna name this settings. Is it settings or settings? Settings.json. Settings.json. And you'll see that this will not be turned into JSON because that's the data structure. And if I go back, I can copy this and then copy it back. And I can press file, save. What you could have also done is you could just literally copy this, or you can just go Command A, copy the whole thing, and then you can paste it into Claude Code and say, hey, based on this documentation, can you please enable agent teams? And it will do it for you. But I like to be different, so there you have it. Okay, so settings.json, we have this here. And now this is where we can prompt Claude Code to be able to make the agent. All right, so I already have my prompt here that I'm going to use. You can find it in the second link down below in my school community. So what this prompt says is create a multi-agent team that turns sales discovery call transcript into useful sales assets. When I drop the transcript into the /input, the system to generate the client summary, the project proposal, the deal updates, and follow-up emails. So we'll have 4 different agents. The first agent is call insights agent. So we analyze the transcript and extract the client company summary, core problem, pain points, desired outcomes, timeline, and the output will be a client summary.md, which will be a file, which will give us a summary. Then we have agent 2, which will be a proposal builder agent. So this will generate a proposal. And then we have CRM agent, which will create a structured JSON CRM update, including company, contact, name, problem, and a bunch of other things. And here we'll have the output, which will be deal update JSON for the CRM. And then we have the follow-up email agent, which will create a follow-up email. So basically what I'm telling the agent to do is I am going to drop a sales discovery call transcript. So let's say I had a call with a client. I dropped the transcript of the call, so what we said on the call. And then the team will be consisted of 4 different agents, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this agent will make the client summary document. This agent will make the proposal. This agent will make the CRM kind of update. And this agent will make a follow-up email. With that said, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go back here, and I'm actually not going to be using this chat, but I'm going to be using the terminal. Now, I was a bit confused when I saw people using the terminal versus using the chat. The reason why we use the terminal here is because we can see more. So if I press Claude here, my Claude will open up. Like, this tells us everything. This shows all the settings. It shows all the small things. It might look a bit more complex, but it's very, very easy when you start using it and you get the hang of it. I'm going to press X. I'm going to make this full screen, and we can use the terminal. And by the way, you can use the other one as well. It's just that I can't see all the features that I want to show you, but it still works the exact same. I'm going to go here, copy this, and then paste the prompt here. I'm going to press enter. And now Claude Code is going to start working on this. Test tool loaded. We have this setting.json, which means that we are enabling agent teams. And so it knows that it has to make a team of agents. It's now saying, hey, we have to create the input and output directory structure. I can just say yes, proceed. I could also say yes and don't ask again, but I want to show you all the different things that it asks me to do, which is fine. So I can press yes. As you can see, it made the output and the input. The input is where we have the transcript. So we'll be adding the files here. And the output is where we get the CRM, the emails, the insights, and the proposals as well for each transcript that we use. Now it's saying that it's going to create a sample transcript and the orchestration script in parallel. So it's also testing that it does work. Now it's asking whether we can make a transcript.md document to basically test a transcript of a call and make sure that all the agents work simultaneously. I can press yes. This is now writing the transcript.md, which I believe is going to be here. Yeah, the input, because that's the input. And then it's saying, do you want to make this edit to run pipeline.sh? I can just press yes. So now it's asking me all the different small things that I typically would not want to be asked because it's all code. Now I can go to yes and don't ask again. Okay, now it's also making the folder called agents. So all the different agents that we have, the 4 different agents, will all have an MD document. So MD just stands for Markdown. It's the way that they basically put titles and subheadings and bullet points and so on to structure the information. And so each agent will have an MD document. And the MD document, it's simply just instructions of what the agent is. So then when we give it a transcript, it basically goes back to the MD documents and says, okay, what does this agent have to do? What about this agent? What about that agent? And the last agent as well. And it will start running all of them at the same time. Okay, there we go. So this is the structure. We have .claude/agent. Then we have agent 1. So let me just take this out here. We have agent 2. We have agent 3. And then we have agent 4 to make the proposals. Okay, so I'm pulling back up the terminal. I can actually just clear this conversation. Clear. I can start from 0. So now what we'll do is we'll actually test it. So we have everything done. We have the Claude agents set up. We have the input and the output folders. We have the script, and then we have the thing that allows us to be able to make the team. So I can just go back here. I can then go to this example discovery call. This is an example, like example input that I would give the actual agent. And I can say, hey, can you use this discovery call transcript to be able to activate the team and activate the whole team, agent team in Claude Code, and use this transcript as the input. Not a question. Paste it here. And now we press run. So this basically pasted the whole call that we have. It's a short call, so nothing crazy, but it's enough for it to be able to make all the things that we wanted to make. So it's saying, I can see the full agent team pipeline. Let me first update the transcript file with the Collins marketing discovery call and then run the pipeline. Pipeline just means run the agent team. Now it's saying, hey, can we replace the transcript MD, which is the one here, with the transcript that you just gave us? I'll just say yes, allow all edits during the session, just because I don't have to then approve everything. So it uploaded here, and now it's saying, hey, can we run the pipeline? I can just press yes and don't ask again. Now it's saying, hey, let me kick off agent 1, call insights agent first, since the other 3 depend on its output. And this is great because you get to see exactly how agent 1 now talks to the other agents. Agent 1 is a call insights, and based on the call insights, we then feed it to the other agent to make the email and the proposal and the CRM as well. Okay, so now it's telling me that it made the client summary, company overview, core problem, main pain points, desired outcome, timeline, red flags, objections and concerns, and key quotes. I can say, yes, I want to proceed. And now I should get the insights here, client summary.md. And by the way, I'm doing this obviously manually to show you how to test it and how everything works. But you can pretty much upload this or publish this to a platform like Modal. And then all you have to give it is the input. And then the whole agent team will work on its own. And one thing I'll also cover later on is the pricing. Because you can see I'm getting completely rinsed with my tokens. It's going faster than I've ever seen. So this is one drawback of agent teams, but we'll get into that in the later part. So agent 1 was complete. It then ran agent 2, 3 at the same time. So 2 agents finished. It built the product proposal from Insights and the CRM deal for JSON from Insights. And now that agent 2 and 3 are done, now we're going to be launching agent 4, which is going to be creating the follow-up email. So it's saying now that all 4 agents have been completed. Here's a summary of what was generated. So we have the call insights agent, proposal, CRM, and follow-up emails. We have the files, which you can find emails here, CRM here. We have insights here, and we have proposal here, which I'll go in just a second. And it says all outputs files are ready in the output directory. Want me to open them for review? I can just say, yeah, let's see what it does, really. Yes, open them. And by the way, you can also edit the permission. So right now, if you press Shift Tab, you can see that I'm changing this. Plan mode accepts edits. You can also do bypass permissions, which is letting it just do everything on its own. So client summary, this is a document, product proposal, CRM deal update, and follow-up emails. So I'm gonna make this smaller so you can see, right? And I'm gonna go through each one. So CRM, this is the deal update that you upload into your CRM to be able to include all the fields. So this included the company name, industry, size indicator, growth rate, contact name, title, email. There was no email, so we couldn't find it. The deal stage, discovery, summary, main problems, pain points, desired outcomes, and a bunch more other things as well. Then we have the emails. So this is the follow-up email that it made. And it said, to Sarah Collins from Ren JM Solutions. Subject line, your roadmap from 18 to 40 clients, proposal inside. Thank you for the candid conversation on Wednesday. The way you described the gap between where Collins marketing is today and where you want it to be, 40 clients without the operations breaking, gave us a clear picture of what needs to happen. A few takeaways I want to make sure we capture correctly. Onboarding is the biggest time drain. An hour per client with manual folder creation, document sends, and tool setups across Google Drive, ClickUp, and Slack, and things still slip through the cracks. Reporting is costing your VA 3 to 4 hours per week. The knowledge bottleneck is real. I've attached a proposal which outlines the 2-phase 8-week engagement, and talk soon, Ren. We also ask it to book a call. Now, if I go to client summary, I can see the insights. So this is the summary of the actual conversation that we had on the call. And in proposal, we have the proposal that it just made based on the conversation. So understanding your challenges, manual client onboarding, reporting, tools, knowledge, proposed solution, and we have scope of work, deliverables, timeline, investment, why us, next steps, and so on. And these are all things that you could easily turn into like a PDF. So let me go here to Claude Code. And I'm going to say, can you turn the project proposal.md file into a PDF that I can use? Make sure the formatting is correct. Obviously, if you look at this, you'd be like, okay, how do we use this now? You could easily copy that into Notion or copy that into Google Docs, but I just want to show you how Claude Code does it for me. All right, so I just finished making the product proposal PDF. So we can go here. This is the markdown format, and it turned it into a PDF. Of course, if you look at it this way, it also wouldn't make sense. But because it's a file on our computer, I'm just going to open it up, and we get this right here, which is PDF version with the executive summary, understanding your challenges. Then we have tools, proposed solutions, scope of work, deliverables, timeline, investments. It also made the table. Very nice formatting, the price, why us, and next steps. And so that's exactly how the whole agent team ran through to make the output, which you can then use for whatever it is. And this right here is a 7 out of 10 use case, I would say, because you could still do it with sub-agents in some way, but the output is better here just because you have the client summary, which is made, and then passes the client summary to the proposal and to make the email and the CRM to then give you the full output. All right, so there's one aspect of this that I briefly mentioned, but I didn't really dive deep into, which is price. Because if you saw before, for me to run all the 4 agents, it cost me 10,000 tokens, and it was increasing way too fast for my liking. And so here we have token cost and here we have speed. Obviously, regular Claude will take a lot more time, but it'll be cheaper. The faster you get and the more expensive it will get until you get to agent teams, which is 5 minutes and $80. This is because each employee in the agent team has its own context. It has its own kind of place where it runs. And so it will cost you a lot more to be able to run this agent team. But if you are building something a bit more complex, where let's say you're building a software application, and for the software application, you want the main, team leader, and then you want the different agents to be able to talk to each other. Because when you're making the front end, the back end, the privacy, the OAuth, all these things, you'd want the different agents to communicate to build a much better output rather than using sub-agents. But for the most part, if you're working with Claude Code and you want to run different tasks in parallel, you're better off going with sub-agents rather than spending 6 times more, but also getting 6 times the speed. All right, so you now know how to build sub-agents and agent teams inside of Claude Code. But after having built hundreds of agentic workflows, I've discovered specific techniques, hacks, really that make your Claude Code dramatically and exponentially better. And I've divided these hacks into 8 different hacks, which is why in this video, I'm gonna break them all down step by step. With that being said, let's dive in. All right, so we're going to divide these hacks into 3 different types of hacks. We have system design hacks, then we have execution and performance hacks, and then we have control and optimization hacks. All right, so the first hack is actually setting up the folders for your project. All right, so here we have Claude Code, and the mistake that people make when starting out to build is that they go straight to building, right? But the problem is that right here on the left-hand side where we store all the folders and the files and all these things, we have to structure Claude Code in a way where it knows where to store all the different folders and the files, which is where we go to the 3-layer agent architecture, which is a way for us to be able to structure the AI agent to be way more reliable. The way that we do this is dropping a file inside of Claude Code, which is called the Claude.md file. This right here, I can think of it as a blueprint that you get to Claude Code, and it contains a 3-layer architecture, a 3-layer structure that Claude Code needs to use to be able to then build these things and store all the files in the same place. The first layer is the directive. So this is what to do. So we give it SOPs, we define objectives, we list the inputs and the outputs, we specify which tools do we have to use, and we cover all the edge cases of the workflow. It's like a brief that you give to someone working in your company. Then we have layer 2, which is the orchestration, and this is for the decisions. So the actual LLM lives inside this folder. So this is good when giving it instructions as to where to store the right scripts, right? How to handle errors, how to ask questions when it's stuck. It's self-healing, right? That's what we call Claude Code, because when something breaks, it knows exactly what's broken, and then it goes back and fixes it so you don't have to. And this is the glue between what you want to build and what's actually built. And then layer 3 is the execution. This is doing the work. So this includes the Python scripts, the API calls, all the data that's going within the automation, all the files, all the databases, all the techie stuff that it needs to do to actually do the thing. And this is all code, right? Of course, Claude Code is just building code that we'll use. Now, instead of doing this, why don't we let the LLM do everything and structure everything? It's because LLMs are about 90% accurate per step, right? It sounds good until you realize that when you put step over step, you have 0.9 to the power of 5, which is 59% success rate. And it's simply not good enough at all if you have anything below a 99% exit, which is simply not good enough when we're building agentic workflows. And so the solution is to give it more frameworks, more guardrails in Claude Code to be able for it to understand how to structure things when it's building. Okay. Now, if that didn't make too much sense for you, I'll show you what it means. So right here, I have the Claude.md file that I just mentioned. I'm going to copy this. And by the way, if you want access to this full prompt, second link down below in my community, you can find that in the classroom section. So we go here and we can make a file and name this Claude.md. And then you can paste this whole prompt, right? Which again, is just a verbal explanation of what I just said. So layer 1, layer 2, and layer 3. And then you want to press file and save. And then you can say, initialize this project based on the Claude.md file that I just put in the project or in the files. There we go. And I put plan mode and then I press run. Okay, so now what it's going to do is it's going to go inside the Claude.md file. It's going to read it, and then it's going to start structuring all the different folders of what it needs to do. All right, so I just made a plan here. Plan to initialize project structure from Claude.md, the context, the changes. So if you see this right here, don't get too intimidated. What this means is the structure of all the folders here, right? So this is the project root. We have directives, we have execution, we have .tmp, and we have .env, and then we have git ignore. Right? These are all different things that are part of the actual structure that you will need to do. You can just press yes and auto accept. Now we'll have tasks. And then on the left-hand side here, you can see that it's adding the different files and folders that it's going to use when we're going to be able to make the actual workflow to make things more structured. Okay, there we go. It just finished. So all the folders are here. We have directives. We have readme.md, which is basically a file that explains exactly what this folder is. So this folder contains markdown SOPs, standard operating procedures that define objectives, inputs, tool and scripts, outputs, and edge cases. And the easiest way possible in this way is like an architect going to build a house, right? Either he goes to build a house and starts building immediately as soon as he goes on site, or what he does is that he sits down, he basically makes a roadmap or a blueprint as to how he's going to build the house. And then we get to the building part, which is exactly what this is. This is the structure and the blueprint that we're going to use. Well, the Claude Code is going to use when we have to make all these things. To give you a practical use case, I actually built this YouTube strategy system for myself, and I made a full video as well. You can check it out up here. But essentially, we have the Claude.md file that we propped, which is the exact same one that we did for the other one. And then it started making all the folders. And if you go to directives, we get to see all the different kind of SOPs, right? Explaining the different automations. So for example, this right here, analytics tracking. So it's an MD file, so it's markdown file, markdown because we have hashtags. It's just a way of writing, so AI or computers can understand better. But it's a markdown file that tells the actual Claude Code exactly what to do, the SOPs. This is what the objective of this thing is. This is the objective of what it is that we want to do. What is the input and what is the output, right? The input is the channel ID and the output is performance dashboard data. So a dashboard with all the data and all the different things. Now, to be fair, it might seem a bit intimidating when you're starting out and you're still wondering why is it like this or why is it like that, but just understand that this is the way that we structured all the different folders and files. The second hack is using Claude Code skills. Now, I've made a full video breaking Claude Code skills down in much more detail, but essentially what they are is instruction manuals that Claude reads before doing a task. Right? So the same way that you give instructions to a chef to make some sort of food, you give Claude Code the skills to then make better PDFs, better websites, better presentations, and so on. And so for example, let's say you give Claude Code a task to make a website. Claude Code, which is the agent, will look at its own skill that we just added to build effective websites, and it will give us a much better result rather than us not giving it a skill, right? Because without a skill, Claude guesses and it's inconsistent in the results, whilst with a skill, it follows a pattern and it follows instructions and it gives us a much better output. Now, you can find these skills at aitmpl.com. I'm going to leave the link down below in case you want to check it out. And here, we have over 683 skills, and there's more added every single day. And these skills, like senior backend, web app testing, senior architect, code reviewer, Git commit helper, are the attachments or the things that we can add to Claude Code for it to be able to do a better job at the thing that it needs to do. So I'm going to be working with this agentic workflow that I just mentioned, which gives me a full presentation of all the competitors, the analytics, and everything like that. And so I'm going to be using this skill right here, which is Canvas design, which allows me to be able to give Claude Code the extra skill of making better presentations and better PDFs and visuals for any kind of thing that we're doing. So I actually already added the skill. I'm just going to go ahead and delete it. I'm going to delete the folder as well, because then you can see the output before and after. I'm going to say, can you please make the presentation and give me back the result, analyzing my competitors and the analytics and everything like that. I'm going to press go. And now it's going to start to do what it needs to do. And I'll catch you when it gives me the output. All right, so I just finished making the presentation with no scale. And as you can see, it's very plain and simple, no effects, no colors. And it's all right. The actual structure of it is a bit off, but nothing crazy, right? And so ideally we want something that's branded, that's better in terms of structure. I feel like I want some effects here. I want some colors to make it easier on the eyes, but also to make it appear better when I'm using it with my team and so on. So ideally we want something that's a bit more professional, that has colors, structure, and the layout looks a bit better. So what we're going to do here is go back to the Claude Code templates. I'm going to scroll down to the Canvas design. And by the way, if you're looking for a PDF or for an MCP builder, which I use all the time, and for other things, you can just simply search it here and you'll find it. You can, for example, we can look for a website, web design reviewer, Google Analytics, SEO optimizer, web experience, a lot more things that are there. So I can look for Canvas design. And if I go to view details, I will get to this page right here to find out that the skill is actually a prompt. So every skill is a prompt, and the prompt is very detailed, which allows Claude Code to be able to build better presentations based on this full prompt that we have here, which someone made. Now, I would recommend looking at the amount of downloads, because if it has good downloads, then obviously it's good. Not all the skills are great, right? Depends on the prompt, and prompting depends on the person. So all we have to do here is copy this code. I can go back to Claude Code. I can clear conversation, and I can say, install this skill here. And I can press go. And now what this will do is it will start adding the skill inside of Claude Code here. We just have to approve a few things. And as you can see, it's saying that the Canvas design skill has been installed successfully. I can go to Claude, I can go to skills, and here we have Canvas design. And if I go to skill.md, here we have the full prompt that we had here under code. Let's run it again. So let me go to clear conversation. And I can say, okay, can we now make the presentation for the analytics comparing me and my results and my competitors, and give me back the full presentation on a slideshow. I'll press plan mode. It will now start working on the presentation. All right, and after a few minutes, it made this full presentation right here with colors and designs, and it looks a lot more cleaner than the one that we had before. We have colors, we have different types of colors. We have a better structure now, better way that we can look at things. We have headers, which is a lot cleaner than the one we had before. I can see there's a few mistakes though on the top as well, but it's something that we can fix just by prompting it to do a better job in those specific areas. And we have until the end. Now, Claude Code skills are by far one of the most important things that you need to know when it comes to Claude Code, because Claude Code is great, but it's even better when you add enhancements. It's sort of like the Iron Man suit, which is amazing, but it's even better if it has the controller, if it has the laser, if it has all these things that make it 10 times more powerful, and it makes you build things at 10 times the speed instead of you having to go back and forth and prompting it saying, hey, it's wrong, it's not wrong, make it better, and things like that. The next hack is using the spec to do and code workflow. Okay, so now that we added all the structure of the files, do we go straight to building? Well, no, we have to plan even more if we want to build something that's actually scalable and that's more structured, because yes, you will spend more time now, but it will save you a lot more time later on when you want it to actually work. And the problem with most people using Claude Code is that they paste the prompt like this, which is Claude, build me a family activity finder app. AI is great, right? But if you're not specific about what you want, then it's not going to do a good job. And so we replace this prompt with something that looks like this, which is asking it to make a spec.md for a family activity finder app. We have the requirements, which is parents enter city, kids ages, availability, distance, willing to travel. The app returns 5 activities with title, description, and emojis. The tech stack that we're going to use is simple HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And we have milestone 1, which is building the UI with dummy data, and milestone 2, which is connect to real activity API. Now, the reason why we do this is because we want a detailed blueprint with requirements, tech choices, and clear milestones as to what it needs to do to be able to build this thing before we even start building anything. And so I'm going to press go. And as you can see here, the spec.md is sort of like an SOP. And we told previously to Claude Code that all the SOPs should be stored under the directives. Now it's going to ask me to accept this plan. I'm just going to press out just because I don't want it to do anything. And if I go to the directives, I should be able to now to see a spec.md file, which is a full file. Let me zoom out a little bit. That tells us the overview of the exact app that we're going to use, right? So we have the overview, tech stack, user inputs, output, UI layout, milestone, and we have dummy data examples, milestone 2, and so on. This gives a lot more clarity and structure to Claude Code later on when you are building something. Because bear in mind that when you talk to Claude Code, you're talking here. Then when you leave Claude Code and you come back, this will be empty. And so it will need some sort of memory to understand exactly what you were doing in the first place. And so you always want to make sure that you're as structured as possible when building the actual thing. Now we're done with step 1, which is creating a detailed spec. Now we're going to go to step 2, which is generating to-do lists. And so now I can say, create a to-do list for milestone 1 based on the spec. And we'll be able to go through milestone by milestone to make sure that everything is all right and everything is structured and it doesn't build a full thing. And then we're like, hey man, not the thing that we wanted. It's going to make to-dos for that specific milestone. Now it has made all the to-dos for the first milestone in specific. And I can see here that it says, here's the milestone 1 to-do list, create project directory, build index HTML. It can do XYZ, and it gives us all the steps in specific because we right now are acting as a supervisor for the actual developer that's building the thing. And now I can say build milestone 1 using the to-do list. I'm not going to press enter because I don't want to build anything, but I can tell you that once it finishes milestone 1, you can then go and say, okay, can you not build a to-do list for milestone 2? And milestone 3 and milestone 4 until you're finished. And yes, you've taken a bit more time and to structure things, but you've made the output 10 times better just because you've been more structured. Remember that Claude Code is only as good as your input and the prompts that you give it. This is a developer, but a developer is good at coding, but it might not be the best to understand the context behind the code and what it is that you actually want, which is why we want to be as structured and explicit as possible when building these agentic workflows or apps. All right, so now we get to the execution and performance hacks. The first one being permission mode settings. So down here, when we're talking to Claude Code, we can actually change the mode or the settings of the permissions that we're giving Claude Code. You can either press and change, or you can simply go shift and tab and it will change automatically. So the main ones is bypass permissions. And then we have the plan mode. Bypass permissions is used when you're making a very simple task. This is what we call the YOLO mode, which is telling Claude Code, hey, you do everything. Don't ask me any questions. Don't plan. Just like go at it. This is great for something very, very simple. Whilst plan mode lets you collaborate with Claude Code to explore solutions and create detailed structures without wasting tokens of going back and forth. What we usually say is a minute of planning saves you 10 minutes of building. The next hack is using sub-agents for parallel processing. So what this means in a very non-techie way for beginners is that when you talk to Claude Code here, you're talking to the main agent. But what you can also do is talk to the main agent and then have other agents working in parallel as all these ones, which means that you can do 4 times the work at the same amount of time. All right, so here I have my partnerships email inbox. Let's say I want to process all these emails together. Of course, I only have about 84 right now, but just let's say I had 1,000 or 2,000 or whatever it is, because most people do have that. Then instead of having one agent trying to process all of them, you can split the work between agents. And so what you could do is you can split the task across these 4 agents. So you can say to this agent, hey, can you label emails from 1 to 200, this one from 200 to 400, and then 400 to 500, and so on, right? And so when you split the task, they all work simultaneously at the same time, and it'll be so much faster. Here's my client ID and client secret. I want to create a email classifier system where it goes through my Gmail and it basically classifies the emails on whether it's a full caps, so editor request or software partnership. So I'm going to give you my client ID, client secret, so you can use that and then authorize my Gmail. Like ask me to authorize my Gmail, I'll let you in, and then we can start the task. All right, and these 4 agents just finished running. I can see here that they've all been labeled either a software partnership, other, or editor request as well. Now the example I showed you, because it's 80 emails, it wouldn't be realistic. But if you have thousands and thousands of emails, then it would work really well because you have these agents running at the same time doing the exact same thing. And all you have to do is make sure that you're there to be able to conduct them and answer any questions if you need to answer. All right, the next hacks are going to be the control and optimization hacks. The first one is mastering context management. So think of Claude's brain like a notebook with only 200,000 pages, right? Every time you chat with Claude, it writes down your message, its response, all the files it reads, every tool it uses. As the notebook fills up, Claude gets dumber. It gets more stupid, right? Because it's trying to remember too much at once from a conversation and files. And so if we keep having a chat with this agent right here, it becomes very sluggish because you've used up 50,000 plus tokens just on conversation history. The solution to this is using the smart reset, right? The smart reset is when you put /.compact, right? And this compresses your conversation into a summary, but it keeps the most important stuff, right? And you use this when your chat is getting way too long, but you want to keep working on the same project. And it's compacting the conversation that we had here. Of course, most of this is just Claude Code just working on its own. But let's say you were to have a conversation, it would extract all the summary points of this, and then it would give us the summary, which we'll then use to be able to go to the next steps. As you can see here, it says the session has been continued from a previous conversation that ran out of context. The summary below covers the earlier portion of the conversation. And so this right here summarizes the conversation that we had to then be able to then keep going with the conversation. And once you keep talking to it, now you have used about 180,000 tokens free again, but Claude still remembers what you were working on. And the next command is actually something that you've seen me use over time and time again, which is d/clear conversation. Because when I want to have a new conversation with Claude Code, instead of having to spin up a new agent, I want to have the same conversation here, but the conversation will be cleared and you can start from zero. And one more thing you can do within the context management is check your context usage. So if you're worried about how much context you're using within a conversation, you can simply press /context here. So I actually have to say, hey, can you give me the context usage /context? And here it says, hey, here's your current context usage. Model is Claude Opus 4.6. Tokens is 55.5 thousand out of 200,000. We're using about 28%. Again, 200,000 is the max amount of tokens that you can use within one conversation. And it tells us the system prompt, the system tools, the memory files, the skills, the messages, the free space, basically giving us an overview of how much we can use more than what we're using right now. This context hack is important because it allows you to be able to understand exactly how much more you have left, how much runway you have left, and also how much you've used so far. And the last hack here is using the Pixel agent extension. So there are some of you here, including myself when I was starting out, that look at this and think that it's very intimidating and it looks very, very complex. And there is actually a way to view your agentic workflows or your Claude workspace in a much more visual way. We can go here to extensions. We can look for Pixel agents, and then you'll choose this one here. You can press install, and now this will be installed in your workspace, that we're able to view our workspace in this manner right here. It's sort of like different emojis or Lego blocks that show us all the different agents working simultaneously, which is actually really, really cool. And the way to find it is to go to Command-Shift-P. I can look for Pixel agent show panel. There we go. And on the right hand side, we can see here that we have a visual representation of a workspace. And if I press new agent on the bottom, you can now see that this person just appeared and he is idle because we haven't given him any tasks to do. And I can press more and more agents, which will add more and more people here. And these are the different agents that we can use to be able to run up and spin up different things. So maybe the first agent will be, hey, can you research the web on the top AI tools out there in 2026? And then the second agent will be, hey, can you research the best workflow automation tool past 10 years? Hey, can you do extensive research on human psychology and tell me the top 10 trends that you see over time, right? And now using agent needs approval. So I can see exactly when something needs approval. And I can go back to the agent itself, right? And just give them approval on what they need. But all in all, you're now able to visually see your workspace and the agents working at the same time, all simultaneously through a very, very visual representation. I do love this because it also makes it fun for me to work with Claude Code, and I can see different things. And also, in addition to that, I can go to the layout and I can start moving things around. I can put the plan here, or I can put the boxes here, or I can put the desk here, or the computer and so on, in case you're bored and you want to change things around for no reason. But you have some options. You can also choose the floor. You can basically create your own game and then work with Claude Code at the same time. Quick one before we get back to the video. If you're looking to work with me one-to-one to be able to start and scale your own AI automation agency in a 90-day one-on-one mentorship program, then check out the first link down below. With that being said, let's get into it. All right, so you've now got 8 proven hacks to build better agentic workflows. But everything we built so far lives in your machine, lives in your computer, which is why in the next lesson, I'm going to show you the top 4 ways that you can deploy your agentic workflows onto the cloud so they run 24/7 without you having to touch a single thing. Let's dive in. All right, so first of all, what's deployment? Because I know it's a word that everybody says, but only a few people actually know what it means. But essentially, when you're building an agent in Claude Code. So let's say you want to build an agent that can run every single morning at 3 a.m. When you're testing, it's hosted on your computer. That means you tell it when to run. You press the button, you extract it to run the actual workflow to give you the desired output. The problem with this method is that if you close your laptop, it stops. And if the Wi-Fi goes out, it stops. It's sort of like a plant that only lives in your desk and it can only survive if you water the plant. And if you want the workflow to run every 3 a.m. in the morning, then you would have to be in your computer turned on with Wi-Fi to be able to make it work, or else it just wouldn't run. And so in very easy terms, deployment means that we're taking this exact agent that we built in Claude Code and we're hosting it, we're putting it in someone else's computer. And this is great because the computer is always on, it's always connected to the internet, but most importantly, it runs 24/7. So you can actually run the workflow at 3 a.m. every single day without you having to be in your own computer. Now, getting more in depth into it, a computer here is called a server. So this right here is a server. And servers live in big warehouses called data centers. So data centers right here, they basically store all these computers, right? Each one is a computer right here. And a computer hosts your workflow and it's always on. Okay, that's essentially what it means. Now, the good news about deploying it to these servers is that you don't have to buy a server and you don't have to know exactly how it works, because what they do is they rent server time. So you pay for the time that the workflow is in the actual server, and they handle all the complicated stuff for you. So all you have to do is build it on Claude Code. You have to take the code and then upload it in the app, and then it runs it for you. And these are the companies that we're going to be talking about today. So here's an agentic workflow that I built in Claude Code. Now, I'm not going to show you the full build step by step, because if you want the full video, you can check it out up here. But essentially, it's a strategy system that runs every single week on a Monday, and it gives me a full presentation, basically comparing my analytics with my competitors on YouTube, and then it gives me content ideas. So I'm going to show you the output first, so you can see exactly what it is that we need. I can put /start. So I just ran the actual workflow. All right, so the workflow just finished running. It gave me the weekly report right here that I can copy, and then I can paste in my browser right here. And this is a presentation that we get every single week. So I get an analytics report, which tells me my stats for my channel, my top performing video right here, my benchmark comparisons against other competitors in my space with views, engagement, and so on. Key insights from my channel that I can see. Then I get 5 ideas. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that I can use. And then finally, I get next steps as well. So now we get to the part where we deploy the actual workflow. So there are 4 main ways to deploy the agentic workflow. The first way is using Modal. The second way is using Railway. Then we have Render, and then we have Replit. So we're going to start with Modal right here, because it is one that a lot of people in the Claude community are already using, and for good reason, because it was literally built for AI workflows. So first thing we want to do is press get started. You can then sign up to Google right here. You can choose your account. Press continue. You can do personal, and then you can get started. And one important thing here is that we get $5 of free credits, but you can also have $30 of free credits if you add your card details. So once you add a payment method, you should be able to see that you have now $30 of free credits right here. Now you do get charged 50 cents for the actual verification, but it's worth it because then you get 6 times the amount of money that you can use on your own account. So the first step here is going to Claude Code and saying, hey, I want to host the agentic workflow to run every morning on a Monday at 9 a.m. London time, and I want to host it in Modal. And all I have to do is go back here and I can run this. So I can copy this and then simply paste it here, and I can press go. We could go down different ways, but this is the easiest way to just stall Claude Code to figure it out before it starts adding it to the Modal deployment. So after a few minutes, you will get Claude, which will make a plan and will go step by step as to how it needs to go through deploying the workflow. All you have to do is press yes and auto accept. And now it's going to start executing on the actual plan. All right, so the first thing it does is that it creates tasks that show us step by step what it has to do before starting the plan of the deployment in Modal. All right, and here's the plan that Claude has to deploy the system on Modal. We have step 1 until step 4. All we have to do is press yes and auto accept. And you can also read through this if you want, but of course everything is in code, so you won't really understand exactly what it is. But one important part is, as you can see, we just made a file called modal app.py, which is going to be the Python file. Not that you should know exactly what it says here, but it'll be the Python file that it uses to then deploy the actual workflow on Modal. And we also see that it made tasks to then deploy to Modal itself. All right, so once everything is done, you should be able to see that it finished all the to-dos, and it says test runs results all passed. And now you can press this link right here, which will take you to the actual app in the place as well. And if you want to see all the apps, all the different workflows that you have, you can simply just go to apps and then press on each one in specific. Now here we have the overview, which is the app function. So the thing that we actually need to do. Then we have the deployment history. So let's say you want to change something in the actual agentic workflow. You don't actually go here and change it. You go back to Claude Code. You go right here. You then tell it to change things, and then it automatically updates and it makes a new version of the actual agentic workflow. And that's what we can see: V1, V2, V1.3, V1.4, and so on. And you get to see all the different deployment histories here. So you can always come back to this and maybe change to the previous version. Then we have app logs. And by the way, replace the word app with workflow. So workflow logs. So you can see all the different logs, all the different runs that we had before. And then we have run weekly YouTube report, which is the action that the actual workflow needs to do. We get to see all the function calls. And then up here, we get to see that it is scheduled for 9 a.m. and only on Mondays, London time. And the next one will be February 16th, as today is Wednesday, at 1 p.m. Now, to show you how it does look like when it runs, we can press run now. And what this will do is it will schedule an immediate run. And we should be able to see the run show up somewhere here. As you can see, it just showed up. So queued, started, startup, and running. So now means that it's executing the actual workflow. And just so you know, the workflow finishes by sending myself an email with the actual report every single week. So we should be able to get an email if it succeeded. All right, as you can see here that it took 56 seconds for the presentation to actually run. And I can see the status is success. We can see the time here. And if I go to log, I can see all the steps that it took to be able to make the actual presentation. Now, to show you that it did actually make the presentation, I can go to my email and I can see that the latest email we got is weekly YouTube analytics report. And I get an email saying, hey, this is your report. I can press view presentation, and this will take me to the actual report with all the different ideas and so on. As you can see, it took us less than 2 minutes to set everything up. And the good thing is that you are now able to run it every 5 days. So it will run every single Monday, but you can also test it the same way that you're in a workflow platform like N10 or make.com. You can simply just manually press this and see if it works in real time. Now, there is a chance that when you do run this, it doesn't work, which is why you can go inside here and it will show you the message as error. So there's something wrong with it. And you can simply copy this. So copy the whole thing, bring it back to Claude Code and say, hey, I just ran this on modal. It didn't work. It gave me this error. And you can paste it here. Okay. Now, of course, this is success. So I'm not going to run this, but if you have an error, that's what it will show you. You copy this, you paste it into Claude Code, and you let Claude Code debug and self-heal its own workflow. So in terms of pricing, the way that modal works is that we are actually able to pay per second of the workflow running. Now, there are 3 plans. The first one is starter, team, and enterprise. The good thing about modal is that it is very easy to set up. Plus, because we get $30 of free credits, we're pretty much able to run this every single month for completely free. Unless you have some astronomical automation and you have like 50 agents that are all running at the same time. But you're most likely not. You get 3 workspaces, you get 100 containers, and 10 GPU concurrency. Now, what this means basically is the size of the automation, so the space that you have. So I definitely recommend starting with the plan right here, and just know that it is free because you get $30 of free credits. So who is Modal for? Now, Modal is great for beginners who want the easiest path to deploy and maintain a workflow built in Claude Code. It's also best for people who have a workflow that is Python based, which it probably is since you're using Claude Code. It is also best if you have a workflow that is not running 24/7, but it runs in bursts. So maybe it starts the automation when it gets triggered by something. So it can be every single day at 9 a.m. it gets triggered. And also it's great if you want to pay only for what you use. So the second way that you can host your workflow is using a software called Railway. Now, Railway is a slightly more traditional hosting platform, but it is still incredibly simple to use. Think of it as a very friendly modern version of what developers used to use when deploying workflows. All we have to do is press deploy. And we can see here that we have the option of GitHub, database, template, Docker image, function, bucket, and empty project as well. So we're going to be using GitHub. Now, GitHub is a software that we now have to make an account as well, which is a software where we basically upload the code there, and it's going to be the middleman between Claude Code and Railway itself. So the first step is going here and going to github.com. All right, so here's GitHub, and think of this as your Google Drive folder. So we're going to host all the different files in the Google Drive folders, and then we're going to connect the Google Drive folders to Railway, so you can look inside the code and then be able to host it there. So first things first is you want to sign up. You want to continue with Google. Choose your email, press continue, create an account. And once you've made an account, you will get on a page that looks like this. So the first step that we want to do is you want to create a repository because we're making the Claude Code agent, we're hosting it on GitHub, and we're deploying it on Railway. We can create a repository. We can name this agentic workflow. We can do public, everything else is fine. We can create the repo, and then you will get on a page that looks like this. All we want to do here is you want to copy this URL, bring it back to Claude Code and say, hey, can you upload all the code to this GitHub repo? And then you want to paste the link. Okay, so we're saying, hey, take all the code of this and connect it to GitHub repo so that we can then use Railway here so that we're able to see the code in GitHub through Railway. Because there's no way of connecting it directly to Claude Code. That's why we're using this. And I can press go. All right, so here we have the plan to push code to the new GitHub repository. We can press yes, auto accept. All right, so now it's telling me that I need to get something called an SSH key. Now, if you've heard of API keys or passwords, then this is exactly what it's asking us. So you can press add key to account, submit answer. So what you want to do here is you want to go to github.com/settings/keys, and you will see the SSH and GBG keys. All you have to do is press new SSH key. You can name this MacBook. Authentication key is fine. And then make sure to ask Claude Code to give you the actual key that you can paste. Once you have the key, you can copy it You can paste it here and then you can add an SSH key. And that's pretty much all you have to do here. I can go back and say, okay, I just finished and added it there. Keep going. And it says that all my code has been pushed to my agentic workflow. So I can press this link right here, which will take me to my repo, which is this one right here. Or if you're stuck on here, you can simply go to 3 dots. You can go to home and you'll be able to see that you have the agentic workflow here. You can then see. So all the files that we have here are all the files that we have here. And now I can go back to Railway. I can press GitHub repo. I can log in with GitHub. I can authorize the Railway app. And here you can press I agree. I will not deploy any. You can press this button right here. And you want to press configure GitHub app. All repositories, press install and authorize. And then you want to press new GitHub repo. And now you'll be able to see the Michele Partnerships one. Press this right here. It's deploying the repo in Railway. As you can see now, there was an error. So I can press this right here. It's error creating a build plan with Railpack. So what I would do here by instinct is go back to Claude Code and say, hey, I've tried to upload it to GitHub and I got everything working. I got all the files. And then I tried putting everything into Railway. So connecting Railway to GitHub, and it said error creating build plan with Railpack. So I don't know what to do here. It's going to ask me, what do you want Railway to do with this project? This will determine how we set it up. We can run it on a schedule. So we can just yes and auto accept the plan that it uses to then fix the Railway. All right, so I just fixed it. So I can go back here and I can see that this is now building. So it just fixed the thing for me by actually modifying the GitHub repo, which automatically updates the Railway app. And if I go here, I can see that I have building status. As you can see here, the deployment was successful. And now we have the agentic workflow, which is online, which will now be triggered automatically and is uploaded and deployed. If I go back here, I can see that now I have the actual app in production. Now, bear in mind that this is also running on a cron timeline, which means that we are running it every Monday at 9 a.m. UTC. Up here, you have the architecture, which is where you can actually edit the agentic workflow. Then we have this tab right here, observe the environment. So you can monitor different projects and look at the metrics. Then we have log, which is very similar to the one that we were talking about before, which is essentially all the logs that we have here. And whenever something goes wrong, whenever there's an error, you can always go here and copy this and then paste it into Claude Code and it will fix it automatically. And then we also have settings here as well. All right, so in terms of pricing, we have the $0 per month plan, which actually isn't a $0 a month plan because we start with a 30-day free trial with $5 credits, and then it's $1 per month. Now, if you're confused about vCPU, what that means is basically how fast a computer can think. So one vCPU means that you only get one brain for working on your tasks, whilst 0.5 gigabytes RAM is how much the computer can remember all at once. Basically like a short-term memory or the space that it has to contain everything. And I would recommend this plan to start out, but as you start to build more and more agents, you ideally want to go to the hobby plan just because there isn't enough RAM and CPU, but also there's rate limits on the things that you can actually build. So for one agent, it's okay. For multiple, I would recommend going to the hobby, but you also get a $20 a month plan as well. Now, when it comes to Railway itself, it's best if your workflow needs to run continuously. So maybe it needs a bot that runs and checks the workflow 24/7. Railway is good for that. It's also good if you want the database support built in the software. And it's also good if you like the idea of putting everything in GitHub and then automatically deploying it on Railway. Now, in terms of debugging, so when something goes wrong, the way that it tactically works, so you understand, is that, so let's say there's an error. We go to Claude Code, we say, hey, there's an error. Claude Code fixes the code, which then goes to GitHub and updates the code with the new updated version. And then it goes to Railway and redeploys the actual agentic workflow. All right, so the next platform is called Render. Render is often described as the modern Heroku. And if that means nothing to you, then just think of it as a really reliable, no surprise hosting platform. So all we have to do here is you want to get started. You want to go to Google, choose your account, continue, and you will get on the page that looks like this. You want to press on background workers, as this is the agentic workflow builder. And then you want to connect this to GitHub. So this is very, very similar to Railway in the sense that we use GitHub as a middleman between Claude Code and the deployment. We press GitHub here. We can authorize this. So authorize render. And when we go back, we can install. And right here, I can see that now I can choose my repo. So choose this here. I can name this here, Python 3, leave this all the same. And now I have to choose between one of the plans. Because Render does not have a free plan, you either start with the $7 a month plan or you don't start at all. So Render, in contrast to the other ones, does not have a free plan. So you have to pay for the $7 a month plan if you want to use the software right here. We can go here, we can deploy background worker. And now this will take you to this right here, where it's now going to GitHub. It's extracting all the code. So it's taking all the code and it's building the actual workflow and hosting it and deploying it inside Render right here. All right. And after a few minutes, we can see that it is now successful. It says the service is live and we're now able to use this workflow automatically. And now this is hosted easily on Render right here. If I go to logs, I'll be able to see all the logs of the actual workflow. And metrics here is where you can track the memory and CPU that the workflow is using over time. And you also have other things as well here. And now the workflow is going to be triggered at 9 a.m. every single Monday every week, as that is what we added to GitHub. The process of debugging is the exact same as the one that we had on Railway. You basically go to Claude Code, you fix the code, which then updates the code on GitHub, and it finally redeploys on Render right here. So who is Render for? Render is great if you want predictable flat rate pricing for your workflows. It's also good if you need background workers for your agents. So basically sub agents for your main actual agent to work. It's a platform that has been around for a while and it has been battle tested. So if it's important to you to have a platform that has a good reputation and has been for a while, the Render is your choice. And also it's great if you value automatic rollbacks when something breaks. All right, and the last platform here that we're going to be using to deploy is called Replit. Replit is one of the most popular platforms as well because it does actually have the agentic feature. Very, very good. So first thing you want to do is press create an account, choose your email, continue, put your name, press next, personal project, that's fine. And now we can go straight to pricing. So we have the free version here where you can publish one app. Then we have the Replit Core, which is the most recommended one, is the one that most people use, where you can publish more apps and you have more money as credits that you can use. And then finally, we have the Teams plan as well. And it's only something that you use if you're trying to build something more complex and you have more and more users in your organization. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the starter. And here we have the app right here. I can press import code or design. I can go to GitHub. I can connect my GitHub account. I can press continue to GitHub source control. I can authorize Replit integration. You just connected my GitHub here. I can choose agentic workflow and I can simply press import from GitHub. As you can see now the workspace is loading and is now importing all the code from GitHub to Replit to then be able to deploy the agent here. As you can see now here it says status okay, service is YouTube strategist, and it says the app is running successfully. Let me verify it responds correctly and then set up the deployment. All right, so now it's finished and it says everything is set up and running. Let me finalize the import, and it basically imported all the different files here. And all we have to do is press published. And if I go back to the home page, I can see that I have the agentic workflow, which is the one that we have right here. If I go to apps, I can see that I have the agentic workflow, which is private. And this will now be able to run every 9 a.m. in the morning on a Monday. Replit is great if you want to code and deploy in the exact same place. It's also best to use if you're building a quick prototype or a proof of concept for something, because it has the agentic feature, which allows us to vibe code different softwares as well. And it's also great if you don't want to deal with GitHub itself or terminals or any setup at all. So those right there were the 4 main ways that you can deploy and maintain your agentic workflows that you build on Claude Code. Now, one important thing is that no matter what platform you choose, the debugging workflow is the exact same. So here's the process. Your workflow breaks, you go to the platform's dashboard, you open the logs, because every platform has logs, you find the error message, which is usually in red, you copy the error message, you go to Claude Code, you paste the error message and say, this is the error from my deployed agent, fix it. Claude Code fixes the code, you redeploy, which means that you push to GitHub or you run the deploy command, and you check if it works. If not, go back to step 1, which makes it so much easier for you as you don't have to go in the code yourself. You can simply let Claude Code take care of the whole thing. So if you're still not sure as to which software you should go with when it comes to deploying, then here's the thought process. If you're someone who says, I want the absolute easiest option to deploy, well, Modal is your best option. If you're someone who says my agent needs to run 24/7 like a background process, then Railway and Render will be good for you. If you're someone who says, I want predictable monthly bills with no surprises, then Render is good. If you say, I want to code and deploy without leaving my browser, then Replit is the way. And if you say, I just want to test something quickly for free, then you can use Modal. Now, we do also have some other options like AWS, GCP, or Azure. The only reason why I did not include them is because they're more for enterprise grade level deployment, and they're more advanced as well. And that right there is a complete picture, because building the agentic workflow was just the first half. Deploying is everything that comes after you build it, and it's arguably the most important step, as building it is fun, right? But how do you actually give it to the client? How do you deploy it so it actually works without you being there all the time? And the good thing is that to deploy an agentic workflow with all this code, you don't have to be a developer. All you have to do really is just follow step by step what I did in this video and let it run on its own. Right, congrats on finishing module 4. At this point, you have everything. I mean, the foundations, the customizations, the prompting, the agentic workflows, and the deployment itself. So at this point, you're not just someone who uses Claude Code, but you're someone who understands how it actually works, but also how to build with it. Now it's my turn to prove it to you, because in the final module, you're going to watch me build real products live from scratch using everything that we covered so far. There's no theory, just building, making it really, really practical for you. Let's dive in. All right, so when it comes to my YouTube content pipeline, there are 4 different stages. The first one is the ideation, which contains 3 different types of, we call them skills or automations that I built inside of Claude Code. The first one here is called the comment scraper, which is where the automation itself will go to X amount of videos posted by X amount of people in X amount of time, and then extract all the comments and then give me ideas for content. Twitter monitoring is where it's going to the actual Twitter profile. It's extracting all the tweets and gives me ideas. And outlier videos is the videos that have gone well for other channels. Why have they gone well, and how can we apply the same idea to my channel? Then we have packaging, which is title and thumbnail. So for example, this video right here, we have a title, there's a picture before that made you want to press on the actual video, and that's the packaging. Then we have the video itself, which is the hook. So the first 30 seconds of this video, that was a hook, that was scripted. There's a script, which is what I say throughout the video. Of course, a video like this, there's no script. I go off the rip, right? But something that's more like a head talking video where I go through a concept, right? Where it's me standing up. Well, that's scripted, so we have a script. And then we have visual diagrams. So this right here, for example, is built by an automation. I didn't actually build it myself. That's diagrams. And then lastly, we have post video, which is looking at the performance of my videos, but also views to clicks. Views to clicks is looking at the amount of people who clicked to watch my video going through my program versus the amount of views, right? Because obviously on the back of my videos, I want people to work with me one-to-one. I want to help them. I want to help them scale their agencies. So I want to check which videos do people like the most and make them want to work with me one-to-one. That's what it is. So with that said, here is my Claude Code workspace. It's called the YouTube workspace. It's consisted of different folders that we have. The first one is .claude. Then we have context, executions, outputs, references, scripts, .env, and then the main one here, which is Claude.md. Now I actually separated the folders into 4 different categories. The first one is commands, then we have skills, then we have context, and then we have the Claude.md. I'll explain what these are as well, but not a main priority, like they are main folders that we use, okay? So the first one here is called commands. So commands are reusable / commands, like / competitor analysis or / create plan or / something else that allow you to trigger to start any workflow just by calling it using a /, right? And when I say workflow, I mean it triggers a skill. So if I want to run the Excalidraw diagram, for example, right? Then I would do / Excalidraw diagram, and that would call that specific skill instantly. Now, if you're not sure what skills are, first I recommend you watch this video up here. But in case you are aware, skills would be modular instructions that we give Claude to explain or to give it an overview of how to do a specific task step by step. So for example, Excalidraw is a platform like Miro where you build kind of visual diagrams like I showed you before. Well, inside the skill, there are step-by-step instructions as to how to do that specific thing. And so all in all, our Claude is going to be our kind of company, right? And inside the company, there's different employees which are responsible for different things. And those employees are skills. Then we have context. So everything that Claude needs to know about my business. So first of all, who I am, my strategy when it comes to the content, my data, and my content guidelines. Because for example, let's say we're using the skill to script my videos, right? I'm making a script. When I want to make my script, I also want Claude to use my YouTube content guidelines and business info to check, hey, this is the script, this is the guidelines. Are we sure we're following the right guidelines? That's all it is. And then finally, we have the Claude.md, which is a master file here that ties the whole workspace together, telling Claude how all the pieces work in one system. Okay, so it tells Claude, hey, we have the folder here, which is called context, the folder here, which is called skills, and it gives it an overview of the whole organization. The reason that is because it will look at the Claude.md every single time before it does anything. That way it has context as to your workspace and how it all ties together. Now, first things first is the ideation. So ideation consists of the comment analysis report. It consists of the competitor analysis, which is the outlier videos, the videos that have done really well for other channels. And then we have Twitter Claude monitoring. I'm going to run it first, and then I'll walk you through how it's set up as well. So comment analysis report, and then we can do bypass permissions because I don't want to tell it, yes, approve, approve, approve. I just want Claude Code to do its own thing because it knows everything already. As you can see here, it says that it fetched 1,369 comments across 5 different channels. Now it's reading through all the comments. It's looking at the YouTube content guideline. Very important. All right, so now the skill finished running. It said it found 1,369 comments. It made the PDF that I can see, and it gave me the top 5 content opportunities that I can do. So the PDF looks like this, where we have my channel, top 4 content ideas requested by your audience. And by the way, this is the comments that you guys add to my videos. And then what I also did is I looked at Nate Herc, looked at the top 4 content ideas from his audience, looked at Liam Audley, looked at, I believe, Nick Sarayev, and then Jack Roberts as well, right? And we have the ideas as well. And then it gave me the cross-channel themes. So what are the common requests or ideas that people want across all the channels? For example, how do I actually deliver AI work to clients? This came from my channel, Liam and Nate. Or token management, cost optimization for Claude Code, Nate, Jack, and Liam, and so on, right? Plus, it also gave me content opportunities specific to me. So how to deliver AI products to clients? Complete guide. This is the biggest gap in the market. Nobody's making comprehensive content about the delivery side. account setup, hosting, handover documentation, maintenance agreements, access management. You've done this for real clients, make the definitive video, right? And we go step by step. Then we have the stats at the end with subscribers, videos, comments, and average comment per video. Guys, I believe you should be commenting more on my videos so we can get the numbers up. But hey, comparison is the thief of joy. Am I right? Anyways, we have the full PDF, which I can use now as my way of generating ideas for content, which are really, really good. And inside the skill, we have the skill.md, which is the full instruction manual for the skill, which goes through step 1, fetch comments. Step 2, analyze the report. Step 3, generate PDF. And that's it. And it gives me the PDF itself. Then we also have scripts, which are the different Python files, the code that basically allows the automation to run. Think of this like if you know N10, if you've heard of N10 or make.com, think of this script, each script as like a workflow, right? And so we are running workflows. The first one is fetching comments. So we're running the workflow to fetch comments, to extract comments from videos. Then we run the generate PDF as another workflow to basically make a PDF that we can use. And then we have references, which is the report format, is giving the Claude Code a way to understand what the format is of the report itself, right? So we have raw stats, we have cross-channel themes, which is how we make the report look like this. How does it know the structure? And how is it consistent with the structure? Well, it has instructions for that. All right, so now that we're done with that, we can go to the outlier videos. And so here I can press competitor analysis. There we go. And then I can do bypass permissions. So I can let it run. So the first thing it does is that it looks at the CSV file, which is called competitors.csv. And this is a CSV file that I have down here, which is a list of 43 channels, including mine, which are going to be the channels that we use to extract the past 10 videos that they've done. And then we can start doing the math as to what videos have done really well for them compared to the other videos that they've done. All right, now it's saying that it just finished and exported everything to the Google Sheet. I'll show you exactly what that means. We found 4 outlier videos across 42 channels, a lean week, all scored 10 out of 15. Cool. And then we have key patterns, most actionable for you. But if I go here to my views to clicks Google Sheet where I host everything, we can see that we have the channel name, subscribers. I think it's a bit blurry, but it's fine. Video URL, the amount of views, the upload date, the duration of the video, the median views, so the average views that they got over the past 10 videos. And then we have the outlier multiple. So the outlier multiple is a mathematical equation that we use, which is how many views did this video get over the average views of their channel to see if this exceeded that, right? And it also gives me a relevance score. So for example, this video over here, which was about MCP is dead and nobody saw it coming, gave a 0 relevance score because it's not aligned with my brand or audience. That's what I mean by Claude Code using my brand guidelines and the person that I'm targeting, what they care about, and what that looks like. And what we have relevance score, so 3, 3, and 2. So not only does this save me hours and hours and hours of time of me having to go to their videos, having to look at the views, having to average it out, having to make the equation, but it also gave me the relevance that I could use for my channel. And so here I could do Z to A. I can look at these 2 are the top ones. Let me look at the ideas, how to use Claude Code work, how to get unlimited website clients. And so I could do a video based on that in my kind of way. And this skill right here is consisted of references. So this is the scoring and output, which is a kind of document that goes through how to score an outlier video. What does that look like? And then we have, again, the scripts, which are the different workflows. And then we have the skill.md, which is the step-by-step instructions that we go through to be able to actually make this work. And then we also have google.token.json, which is the way that we are able to access the YouTube API, but also my Google Sheet account. Then the last one we have is called Twitter Claude Monitor. So Twitter Claude Monitor is a workflow that goes to configuration profiles. These profiles in Twitter, and it might look a bit kind of weird, but by the way, Claude wrote this, not me. And it looks at these channels, not channels, but these Twitter profiles, right? And what it does is that it goes through each profile, it extracts the tweets from the past 24 hours, right? And would have this workflow running every single day. And it gives me the new updates on Claude Code. Because honestly, I can't keep them up myself, and I'm sure you cannot too. So that's exactly how a lot of YouTubers do get their ideas, is through Twitter, right? So why not make an automation that can automate that process of you having to find the tweets yourself? So I can go here and put /Twitter monitor, Claude Monitor. I can do bypass permissions, right? It just finished running. It said it scanned through 63 tweets. The relevance score above 3 is just 2. And then we have the key findings. And it also made the PDF, which was sent to my email. If I go to my email, I can see that I have a new PDF. I can open it up and it can give me now the new features that we have here. And then we have the content opportunities that we can use, right? Now, are all of them going to be great ideas? No, right? But it filters them out, Because not every day Claude Code releases something, maybe every 2 days or every 3 days. So it looks at the tweets, it checks the relevance, and then it gives me the report as well. So I basically keep myself updated without having to go to these 12 different profiles every single day and check what they've posted. That's how you get the YouTubers making videos about the new slash command or the new slash body or the new slash executions or the new slash whatever, right? It's because they look at these exact profiles that I walked you through. Now that we're done with ideation, let's go to the next one, which is packaging. So packaging is consisted of thumbnails and titles. So let's go through thumbnails first. So the first one is thumbnail creation. So the way that this skill works is that we take a video. So let's say we have a video like this. Let's copy the video, copy the link, and then we go back to Claude Code and I can put slash thumbnail creation. There you go. And then what we do is I took the link of the video with Alex Hormozi. It will look at my face, right, that we have a picture of, which is going to be here. Reference is right here. That's my face. And then it will take that face. It will replace Alex Hormozi's face in that thumbnail with my face and then give me back the thumbnail, basically. What source would you like to use as thumbnail? I'm going to put the link here of that video that I copied. What it's going to do now is it's going to go inside this video. It's going to download the thumbnail, and then it's going to go to my picture, swap the face, and then give me back the image. And this is using a server called file.ai because that's where we're going to use the nano banana model to be able to make this happen. All right, so it just finished the thumbnail. I'm going to say, can you open up the image? And to be honest with you, it didn't do the best job, right? It replaced my face with his face. Obviously, that's what he looks like. I don't have a beard, as you can see. But it copied the words, it made the words good. It made these massive traps that he has, and it put my face there. So ideally now we can go and say, hey, can you remove the beard from my face? But it swapped the face initially. And by the way, this is all prompting. So one thing I could say is like, hey, Claude Code, it actually added a beard. Can you remove the beard? Hey, Claude Code, can you remove the beard from my face in that thumbnail and give me back the thumbnail? And also replace the body with like a black shirt as well. Keep everything else the same. All right, it just changed it. And here we are, much better thumbnail here. It had no beard and it put me in a better place as well. So that's the thumbnail creation, which I think is nuts because you can keep iterating it. You can keep saying, hey, can you change the text? Can you change this? Can you change that? But essentially we're taking inspiration from other channels and then using it for our own. Now, I don't recommend copying the exact same as someone else's thumbnail, but you can always copy the way of thinking or taking inspiration on the idea of the packaging, right? Now, with that said, we go to the next one, which is the title generation. Let's say I was going to do the title generation. I'm going to wait for it to ask me any questions. So now it's saying, what's the video content you like the titles for? Any specific angle or hook you want? How many titles? You can do 20 titles, that's fine. So the video is about how I'm using Claude Code to automate my YouTube channel that I've grown to 51,000 subscribers, about 2 million views in the past 7 months. That's what the video is about. I'm gonna go to bypass permissions just to make sure that it does everything. As you can see here, it's looking at the title frameworks because we have a list of title frameworks that work really well. So 300 that it's using. It's then looking at the YouTube content guidelines, which is my MD document, which goes through my guidelines and my kind of avatar that I'm looking for. And then it's gonna give me 20 different titles. So how I automated my entire YouTube channel with Claude Code. I use Claude Code to grow to 51 subscribers. Here's how. How Claude Code runs my YouTube channel, 51K subs in 7 months. I let AI run my YouTube channel, 2 million views later, and it does a lot more, which I think are really, 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 really good. And then it gives me the top titles based on curiosity, specificity, but also emotion. All right, with that said, we're done with packaging. Now we can go to the video itself. All right, so for the video itself, we have script writing, which is the hooks plus the script of the video. And then we have 2 different Excalibur diagrams and visuals that I'm gonna walk you through. So the first one is script. So script writing. Let's go here. Let's wait for it to ask me any questions about the video. Target length, any specific key points to cover, hook style and preferences, and CTA goal. I'm going to start writing. There we go. So with all this said, I can press go, and then I can do bypass permissions to let it do its own thing. And while this is running, I can show you the actual references which we have here. So here we have the 2 different videos that I've done. So head talking videos. So previous examples of my scripts that have worked pretty well. Then the intro framework. So what's a good hook? What does that look like? So we give it references. Script writing framework. So this is a YouTube video which talked about the best storytelling or the best ways to write scripts. And then we have the skill.md, which again is a step-by-step instructions as to what it needs to do. So step 1, gather information. Step 2, load context. Step 3, build the audience avatar. Step 4, write the hook. Step 5, write the body. And then step 6, write the mid-roll CTA. And step 7, write the closing CTA. Step 8, add production notes. Step 9, quality check. and then we have the output, which is insane for AI to do all of this, because previously we had to spend so much time on everything, but now it does it in seconds. There we go. So now we have the script. I can go here and I can see that this is the full script. What I typically do, because this looks very confusing, is I copy this and I paste it in Notion like this. And now we have the hook. It took me 5 months to get my first AI agency client, 5 months of building systems that nobody asked for, sending messages that nobody replied to, and honestly, questioning whether the whole thing was even going to work. And then in 14 months, I scaled the same agency to 6 figures, working with over 50 businesses and teaching over 22,000 people in the process, all starting with zero business or technical knowledge. I can read the whole thing. Obviously, I'm not going to, in case you were wondering. But we have section 1, which gives me the script itself. And I'm reading this. It's very, very good. And you can see it also gives the editor a kind of a reference of what edits would need to be here. Text on the screen, B-roll, pause, section 2, section 3, closing CTA, and that's it. Now, bear in mind that you can use a general AI to make your script. There's a difference between a general slop AI script and actually making a good script. And that's typically using references, using what's a good script look like, using human language, using good transitions. And so that's why we feed a lot of information to Claude Code to tell it, hey, here's a video that worked really well in the past. Here's a framework of how to make good scripts. Here's the idea. Now give it back to us. And this also looks like the context. So the personal info, the strategy, the content guidelines, like I mentioned before. All right, so now that we've made the script, there are times in the video where we need supporting visuals. That would be a diagram. That would be some sort of, a diagram or an illustration of a concept. So for example, here in the Claude Code skills video, we have diagrams that look like these. We have this, all of these where skills are stored, this, and it keeps on going, right? More and more diagrams. And so here I can say, hey, can you make an Excel diagram based on a video that I'm doing about sub-agents? So make a diagram as to like what sub-agents are, why they're important, how they're different from agent teams, and that's it. Make them really good, sophisticated, and give it back to me. I'm gonna go and bypass permissions. There you go. Boom. So now what it's going to do is it's going to read the skill first. So let me read the Excel diagram first. As you can see, Claude skills Excel diagram, diagram.md is looking at the instructions, and now it's going to give us back the code, which is essentially the diagram itself. All right, so it just finished making the diagram. I can go here, I can copy this, so Command A, and then bring it back and paste it here. God damn, look at this, beautiful. So sub-agents, architecture, and purpose. What are sub-agents, why they matter, and sub-agents versus agent teams? I mean, guys, come on. This is insane for it to be made in a few minutes. It made some errors here, but nonetheless, this is crazy. And you can instantly make a video about sub-agents as soon as you've made the diagram. Now, this saves a lot of time, because sometimes when I'm explaining a concept, I want to show a diagram. I want to show some visual representation so you can hear, but also see at the same time, because you retain more by doing both. So that's where I use this. Now, let's say, can we also add some visuals using the Excel visual skill? Yeah, add some visuals there as well. There you go. So now it's going to take the diagram, it's going to then add visuals, and then we'll see the difference as well. All right, so it just finished making the 3 different images. So I can go to the Excel and I can drag them across from here to here. And here we have the 3 different visuals. So you see how this is a diagram, but this are images? That's exactly what the Excel visual skill does. Which one's better? It kind of depends on you. Sometimes I like to have a mixture of both, but nonetheless, they save me a ton of time whenever I have to make a video and make diagrams for that video. All right, so now that we're done with the video assets, let's go to the last one, which is post video data. So here on Google Sheets, I have a list called the views to clicks, which is out of this many views, I get this many clicks, and this is a CTR. And then we have the type of video. Now, the reason we do this is because we want to see out of this many views, how many people click to see the video of my one-to-one program to then be able to work with me, right? And we do this because typically the more value that you provide, the higher the CTR is, okay? So in this case, if I have more clicks and I have more data as to what videos people like or people want, then I can provide a shit ton of value to you guys and then be able to help you guys even further, right? So now you might be asking yourself, how do you do this? So manually, the way that this works is that if I go to one of my videos, you can press this link. Now this link, you can see Bitly. Bitly is a software that pretty much all the YouTubers that I know kind of use to be able to track how many people click to the next thing. And then obviously you click to kind of watch the video of like the full one-to-one program, how I'll help you to be able to start and scale your own AI agency, right? And so here I see how many people clicked out of this many views. So out of this many views, how many people press this button? And it's very tedious because I have to go to Bitly. I have to see the views, and it takes me a lot of time, especially if I have to do this weekly for these many videos. And the videos just keep on adding and adding and adding, right? And so what we do here is I have an automation that I can do. I can put /views to clicks analysis. And what this will do is that it will look at my videos. So all my videos in my channel since a specific date where I started tracking. So now it's running the automation, and now it said that it updated the sheet successfully. So if I go back, I can see that this is now all in different places, and I can delete these two columns. I don't know why they're here. There you go. And I can do sort Z to A, and I can see the CTR here. So this is the videos where it had a higher CTR rate, right? There's actually BTC head talking and BTC head talking. There you go. And I can start to see, hey, these many videos on the bottom, they don't do too well in terms of the CTR, but these videos do. And so let me make more of those videos and less of these videos. And that's one of the ways where we strategize what content idea works better and what content ideas don't work better based on my audience, my offer, and who I'm targeting. Now let's take it one step further, because in the final lesson, I'm going to show you how you can build and deploy $10,000 websites using Claude Code. Let's dive in. So to give you like a full recap, a high level of what we did, we made an image that looks like this of this Ferrari F1. Then we made a video that looks like this, where we have the components of the car breaking up, to then make a website that looks like this, where we have Born to Perform, 7 Decades of Fury, Forza Maranello. Then we go down, you can see the car breaking up and going back in, which is super, super, super sick. And by the way, this right here is the video. So we have the video incorporated in the websites. You can also see here, prancing, which is the horse of the Ferrari. So if it goes down, we can see maximum speed. We can see 0 to 100 km per hour, top speed here. We also have the final page, which is Experience the Legend, reserve now. So reserve the spot for the actual car. Okay, so that's a full website that we're gonna build. So we're gonna go through everything step by step. Now there's a lot of moving components for this exact website, because there's different places where we get data, make the image, make the video, which is why we're gonna break it all down into a 4-step framework. The 4-step framework is called Plan, Execute, Review, and Deploy. All right, so the first one here is Plan. Okay, so here's the product that I used to be able to create the website that I showed you. As you can see here, I have the video of the Ferrari that we used inside the website. And essentially, to be able to start everything, we need two different things. We need something called the Claude.md file, and we need the second thing, which is two different skills. So first thing is the Claude.md file. Now, what is it? This right here represents the definition quite in a very quick way, which is, are you tired to repeat yourself? Tell Claude to remember what you've told it using the Claude.md file. So essentially, it's a way for us to give Claude memory of the project. Because every single time that we're talking to Claude, it needs to have context as what it is that we're doing. So this right here describes the project, which is a landing page for Ferrari. Then we have the file structure. So when it makes the landing page, where does it store everything? What folders? Where do the files go inside the folders? And it gives structure to the whole project. Then we have more things specific to the actual landing page, the design. So these are the different designs that we use, animations, and external dependencies, coding conventions, and constraints. Now, a lot of the things that are here, I don't fully understand, right? Because I'm not super technical, but we use AI to craft the Claude.md file, which makes it easier for us to be able to do it. So once you have the Claude.md file, which gives Claude Code the memory, then now we have the two different skills. So skills are basically ways for us to give Claude Code a series of instructions to make something better. So for example, we need to make a landing page, and we need to make a video that fits well inside the landing page. So the first skill that we need is called front-end design. Now a skill, again, is just a list of instructions. So this skill right here tells Claude Code, hey, here's how to create a nice looking UI, so user interface, basically a landing page, which increases the output for the landing page that we're gonna make. And so every single time it makes a landing page, it looks at the skill, it looks at all the components, how it needs to think about design, the front-end guidelines, and so on. And so it will use the skill when making the landing page. Now, your question might be, how do I even get the skill? If you go to /manage plugins, you'll be able to see the skill right here called front-end design. You can press install, and you have three options. Either you install it available for all your projects, which means that you don't have to install it again for any other project, or install it for this project in specific. But bear in mind that if you do that, every single time that you start a new project, you will not be able to see the skill, and you'll have to install it again. Once you've installed it, you should be able to see either here or here. Make sure you refresh your Claude Code, and you'll have the skill.md, which is the instructions itself. The second skill is called the video to website skill. Now this right here is not something you'll be able to find in the plugins, so you can find it in the resources that are left below. But essentially, this gives Claude Code instructions as to how it should take the video and turn that into something that you can use within a website. And it's very, very long, as you can see here, list of instructions. So once you have those two things, we are good to go to the next steps. Before we do that, I made a new project with the two different skills in a Claude.md to keep it very, very simple, as you can follow along with me when I do this. Now that we're done with planning, we can go to step 2, which is execute. Okay, so when it comes to execute, we have to ask ourselves, what do we need to be able to make this landing page happen? So I firstly need an image, which then turns into a video. And then also one more thing that I want to use is a reference landing page so that we can feed it all into Claude Code, and it uses the reference landing page, it uses the video, and it uses the skills to be able to craft us the beautiful landing page that we're going to use. Now, to be able to make the image and the video, we can use a software called Key API, which is one of the best softwares that I've used because it gives us access to all the video models, image models in the fastest way, and it pretty much has all the options that you need. So first thing is to make an account, and then you can go to market to be able to add your API credits, because this is not free. It costs credits to run these images and videos. So first thing is to make an image, and I'm going to be using the Nano Banana 2 model, which is a new model that Google Gemini made because it's fast and it's cost efficient. And down here, we can write the prompt that we need. So I'm going to be copying a prompt that I already made. There we go. Which says that I need a high resolution studio grade image of a Formula 1 racing car positioned against a completely plain black background. The scene should be a minimal and isolated with no shadows, reflections, hands, or additional objects visible. The car should appear sharply detailed and professionally lit as if photographed for a premium automotive studio shoot. And then we can remove this. We can go down to 4K. Aspect ratio, we can do automatic is fine. And I can press run. Bear in mind that if you're wondering how much does this cost? Well, you paid $5 for 1,000 credits. So it costs you 18 to be able to do it, which means that you're paying about $0.09 to make the image. All right, so it just finished making the image. As you can see here, very, very clean. So now we can download this and we can go to the next step, which is making the video. So I can go to AI Video API. I can go to Kling 3.0. There's also other image or video models that you can use, but this one is by far the best that I've seen. I can take this out and I can drag the image across. Boom. So this right here is the input image. I can take out the sound. We're not going to add any end frame. So let's say you're making a website about a cup, right? Just some sort of cup. You would have a cup with no water and then a cup with water. That's a start frame and then end frame. So you can basically see the animation of the water going inside the cup. But in this case, we don't need it. And now when we get to the prompt, we can go to ChatGPT. I can paste this prompt right here, which says that it's an AI video prompt engineer. You can stop this video and read it. But I'm going to then give it the image of the Formula 1 racing car as an input. And then I'm going to press run. And now it's going to give me the full prompt that I'll need to be able to make the video. Now, one thing, I do like this prompt. I just think it's a bit long. So I can say, can you shorten this a little bit and make it more concise? But sometimes when you provide too much context or when the prompt is too long for an AI, it does a worse job. Okay, cool. That's fine. So I can go back here. We have the Kling 3.0 and I can paste this prompt. And now the duration will be 5 seconds. That's fine. And I want to make sure that the mode, so the actual resolution is higher. So I can press Pro because the resolution is basically how clean or how nice does the video look. We can press run now. As you can see, this is taking 135 credits, which is about $0.625 that we're spending on the video. All right, so I just finished making the video. Let's see the video here. Ooh, it's even better than the one I had before. Cool, so now we can download this, save this to your desktop. I can go back to Claude Code. I can then give it the video as the input, okay? And I can rename this Ferrari video. There we go. Now that we have the video, there's one more thing that we have to do, which is getting a reference landing page. Because yes, we can make a landing page, but if we give it stricter guidelines, it does a better job. So if you go to dribble.com, you can find the charger product landing page right here, which is a very, very nice landing page that we can use as reference. So you can go here, you can save video as reference. I can press save, and then I can drag it across the Claude Code as well. So now we also have the video of the landing page as a reference. Finally, I can go to Claude Code, make sure this right here is in plan mode, and then you can paste this here and you will say, I just dropped in a video, which is the Ferrari, where's Ferrari video? There we go. Create a one product landing page for this product. The site must feel modern, premium, and highly professional with smooth animations and polished UI design throughout. All text should be clean, minimal, and easy to read, using high contrast typography on a pure black background, dark mode. The layout and visual styling should be seamlessly blend with the Ferrari image, making the entire page appear continuous and fluid with the background. And then I will be able to say, I also added a video, which is a reference video that I want you to look at in terms of the actual design of the landing page itself. And now I can press go. All right, so as Claude Code is actually making the plan, you can see that it's reading the skills. So skill 2, skill 3, when making the plan itself. That's where we're using skills. All right, so I just finished making a plan. Context, framing extraction, file structure, design tokens, page architecture, and you're looking at this, you're like, what the hell even is this? The same here, so don't worry. JavaScript, initialization order. I'm wondering why they have to make such complex words for all of these, man. So let's go and press yes and auto accept. And then we can turn this to bypass permissions, because I don't want to be approving every single thing. Bear in mind that bypass permissions is a bit more dangerous because it takes over and it does everything. But I usually use it when I'm actually looking at Claude Code myself. I never go to sleep and then let Claude Code do its thing and then come back, right? All right, so I just finished making version 1 of the landing page. And bear in mind that on the left-hand side, you will be able to see new folders that were created. And if I go to the Claude.md file that we had before, we had CSS folder, we had JS folder, and we had frames folder. And here you can see CSS folder, frames folder, and JS folder. So that's what we mean by file structure. Where are the files going to be stored? CSS is going to be all the different styles that we're going to use, so all the colors and so on. I'm only saying this because a lot of you guys are beginners and are getting into this and don't really know what all this code stuff is. But on a fundamental level, that's essentially what it is. Putting files in the right folders and each one doing a specific thing. You don't have to know what the code actually is. So I can copy the link and I can paste it in my browser. That's nice. Born to perform. So we can see we have the little page before we get in the website. We have this here, the animation, the card being broken into different pieces. And then coming back in, form follows function. Okay. The speed, maximum power. Just sick. So a bit of writing, giving us some context, and that's it. To be fair, it did actually a very good job for it to be like a first time kind of thing. All right, so now we can go to the next step, which is called review. Now reviewing it means that we have to look at the website and say, okay, do we want any changes with the way that it's laid out? I can already see a few changes that I want. So for example, I want something happening in the background here. So some sort of lines or dots. I have a vision of it, but I have to see. Then right down here, I would want the card to be positioned on the right-hand side and then the writing to come only from the left-hand side, not the right-hand side. Because when it goes over the card, it doesn't look nice. So we can take it change by change. The first change is having something within the background here. So I can go to 21st.dev, which is a software that we use to pull bits and pieces of different website animations, motion graphics, and so on that we can use for our website. So I said I wanted something in the background. So what we could do, we can look here, shaders. We can try this one, background paper shaders. We can copy the prompt and I can go back to Claude Code. So we can see we're using 54% of the context. And by the way, the more context you use, the worse the quality gets. So I can put clear conversation and go to bypass permissions and I can say, okay, so I'm looking at the website and I want you to implement the following thing at the start of the website. And I can paste the prompt. So essentially 21st dev, to be able to get this, we have the prompt that allows Claude Code to understand exactly what it needs to do and how it needs to update the code. And as you can see here, it's a full thing. I can press bypass permissions. We can see here. Because honestly, I just wanted to update and that's it. It just finished implementing the change. So if I go here to the website, I can refresh. We can see now in the background, it's very, very subtle, which I really like. But if you zoom in, you can see that we have different things changing in the background, which makes it a lot nicer to look at visually. Now that's the first thing. The second thing is putting the card to the right-hand side and having the text go on the left-hand side. Okay, so second thing that I want you to change is on the website itself, the car takes up the whole space. What I want to happen instead is I want the car to be on the right-hand side. So I want it to take like basically 75% of the whole screen from the right to left, 75%. And then the other 25% that's left on the left-hand side, then I want that to be the space where text comes through because I don't want text to overlay over the car. If that makes sense. Keep the animation, keep the video, but make the car smaller. Yeah, position it on the right-hand side of the screen. I'm going to go on plan mode for this one just because I want to make sure that it understands what I'm talking about. And a lot of this is just talking to Claude, going back and forth as to what it is that you want. All right, so here it made the plan for the change. The context implementation plan, 25% to the left. Okay, good. Moving everything to the left, the card to the right, everything looks good. So now I can press yes and auto accept. And we can go back to bypass permissions to have Claude Code make the changes. All right, so now I just finished making the change. I can refresh and we can see that all the text has been on the left-hand side. And then this also is fine. I can go down and as I scroll through, we can see that all the text is on the left-hand side, which looks a lot better than us having to have the text over the car. And that covers the whole website step by step. Now that we're done with step 3, we can go to the last step, which is deployment. So the way that we deploy Claude Code websites is through a 2-step process. The first thing that we do is we push all the Claude Code into GitHub. And then from GitHub, we deploy it to Vercel. So the first thing we want to do is go to github.com and we want to make an account. Once you made an account, you can press new. We're making a new repository and we can name this website Claude Code. We can press create repo. And so basically what's happening is that we're going to be using Claude Code and we're going to be giving all the code here into GitHub. And from GitHub is going to go to Vercel to then deploy it there. All I have to do here is press copy and I can clear the conversation. I can say, okay, now I want to push this to GitHub. Here's the GitHub link repo that I've just made. I can paste this. and I can go bypass permissions because I know it will do a good job because it's a pretty fast task. It should tell us to log in into GitHub because I didn't actually give it any credentials here. So you can see here, GitHub needs your identity configured. Run these 2 commands in your terminal, replace with your actual name and email. I don't know how to do that. Can you tell me how I should do it? What I should give you to make that happen? I do this just because a lot of you guys don't know how to use a terminal, so that's fine. But in this case, what I'm going to do is give my name and then the email that I'm using. All right, now it's saying that it's all live. So if I go here, I can refresh and I'll have all the different files and folders of this project. They are automatically added here. And the last step here is to deploy it on Vercel. I can press start deploying. I can continue with GitHub. And once you connect to GitHub, make sure to choose the correct product that you're working with. In this case, for me, it was website Claude Code. I can import and I can press deploy. And as you can see here, now we have our project, so our website deployed. And now it says, congratulations, you've just deployed a new project to Michele past projects. I can press continue to dashboard. And if I use this link right here, you can see that I have the website itself, which is sick. Boom. There we go. And this literally took 2 minutes to deploy, which is absolutely insane. And now for the final thing is answering the question, what if you want changes? What if you're here and you want to change to a website? You have to go to Vercel, you have to go to GitHub. Well, the beautiful thing about GitHub and Vercel and the whole process is that you just have to go to Claude Code. You have to tell Claude Code what you want to change, and that will automatically update the GitHub, which will automatically update Vercel. And that's the whole flow of things. To make sure that you don't have to go to 2 different platforms at the same time and do any extra stuff. You can just talk to Claude Code simply, and it will automatically do everything for you. All right, guys. So congrats on finishing the full Claude Code masterclass, where you went from a complete beginner in Claude Code all the way to building agentic workflows, deploying them, and using Claude Code to build actual products from scratch. Now, everything, all the resources and templates of this video are going to be stored in the second link down below in my private community. You can go to the classroom section, go to the templates vault, and you'll find everything there. All right, so now you've watched how to build with Claude Code. Your next question might be, how do I build a business with it? Which is why I put together a full AI agency masterclass that you can check out on the screen, which goes through everything that you have to know as a complete beginner to make money with AI. With that being said, I really hope you found value from this video, and I'll see you in the next one.